Naruto was buzzing with excitement, unable to sleep a wink. Today was his 5th birthday, a monumental day for a clan heir. This marked the age when their training began, a path leading to the top of their academy class. He'd always felt overlooked by his parents, but this year, he was determined to change that. He would work harder than anyone, proving himself to be the best heir imaginable. He raced downstairs, a 100-watt smile spreading across his face as he saw his parents decorating the house with happy birthday signs. They had noticed him. "Ah, I knew you guys would remember," Naruto choked out, tears welling up from sheer happiness. Kushina and Minato exchanged a bewildered glance before turning to their son with confused expressions. "Of course we wouldn't forget your brother's and sister's birthday," Kushina said, sounding slightly offended. Naruto's eyes widened, his joy instantly replaced by horror and sadness. What do you mean, brothers and sister's birthday?" Naruto stammered, fighting back tears. Minato was utterly confused. One moment Naruto was beaming, the next he was on the verge of tears after Kushina mentioned the triplets' birthday preparations. At that moment, Naruto understood. He truly meant nothing to them. His birthday, the one day he was supposed to be happy, was completely forgotten by his parents. Tears streamed down his face as he bolted back upstairs and slammed his door shut. He couldn't believe it. His parents had forgotten his birthday. He'd never had a birthday party or been included in his siblings' celebrations, but this year felt worse. He knew he shouldn't have gotten his hopes up, but he couldn't help but dream of truly being part of his family. He didn't crave extravagant gifts like the triplets always received, nor did he desire grand parties or hordes of guests. All Naruto wanted was acceptance from his family, and they had just, effectively, told him he was insignificant. Naruto cried for hours, alone. He heard his siblings awaken, their joyful shouts and laughter from the decorated living room piercing his heart like a knife. The party only made it worse. He felt invisible. Visitors occasionally spoke to him, but only to ask about his siblings. "What's it like being related to the Prince and Princess of the Leaf, or how are Lord Menma, Lady Narumi, and Lady Mito today?" The most crushing blow came when someone said, "I didn't even know Lady Mito, Lady Narumi, and Lord Menma had a sibling." Realizing no one would miss him, he wandered into his parents' library. On a table, he spotted Introduction to Chakra Control, Beginner's Chakra Theory, and 2 copies of My Training Regimen. He quickly flipped through the pages, barely glancing at each. Just as Naruto reached the final pages of Introduction to Chakra Control, Minato and Kushina entered, both smiling. They saw Naruto with the twins' gifts, and their reaction was immediate. "Naruto! Don't touch that, it doesn't belong to you!" Kushina shrieked, startling Naruto and causing him to rip the page he held. All hell broke loose. Both Kushina and Minato began yelling so loudly that the party downstairs fell silent. Everyone present witnessed one of the harshest verbal lashings imaginable, directed at a 5-year-old. They accused Naruto of being a jealous brat, an all-around nuisance. Naruto could only stare at the floor, tears streaming down his face. As the scolding intensified, he struggled to stifle his sobs. His mother grabbed his face, lowering herself to his level. "What the hell are you crying for? You break your sibling's present and now you think you can get off if you just cry? Get out of my sight. I don't want to see you for the rest of the night," Kushina roared, inches from his face. Naruto dragged himself out of the library and back to his room. He didn't sleep that night. Present time. Reflecting on that night, Naruto realized 2 things. First, he possessed a photographic memory. The slightest glimpse or exposure to anything allowed him to remember it perfectly for life. He recalled every word his parents had uttered, the mere memory emotionally wrecking him. Naruto had attempted to mend the fractured relationship with his family. His father had begun daily training with Mito, Narumi, and Menma, often neglecting his paperwork to dedicate himself entirely to the triplets. They weren't exactly quick learners. Minato, a prodigy, and Kushina, one of the hardest-working ninja, had naturally risen through the ranks to become the 2 strongest ninja in the Hidden Leaf. They were determined to make Mito, Narumi, and Menma as powerful as possible, believing the fate of the world rested on their shoulders. Naruto vaguely recalled hearing about a prophecy concerning the triplets, unaware it was the very reason he had been pushed aside. Flashback, 1 week after the Nine Tails attack. "Are you absolutely sure, Jiraiya?" a troubled Minato asked, glancing worriedly at his wife. Jiraiya had just returned from an emergency summons to Mt. Mayaboku. The Toad Sage had urgent news for Minato. Jiraiya had received a prophecy from the Toads about Minato's and Kushina's children. According to the Elder Toad's foresight, a child of the Yellow Flash and Crimson Death would wield unprecedented powers, ushering the world into an era of either peace or chaos. Jiraiya immediately assumed it was one of the triplets, as they would be trained to harness the Nine Tails power. The only previous container, Mito Uzumaki, in this story, Kushina was never the Nine Tails Jinchuriki and thus survived the attack, had only ever managed to suppress the beast. With the power split into 2 containers, the chakra would be more usable, potentially allowing the triplets to master their abilities. Jiraiya had completely forgotten about the eldest Namikaze Uzumaki child. There isn't a doubt in my mind. One of the triplets will be the child of prophecy. We must do everything to guide them towards peace, not chaos. That means they need 100% of our attention. Kakashi, Tsunade, you two and I must do everything in our power, make the village see them as saviors, not monsters, train them to face their destined hardships, and, above all else, keep them happy. We cannot afford to have the child of prophecy fall into darkness, Jiraiya declared with unwavering conviction. His words rallied Kushina, though Minato still harbored worries. What about Naruto? Minato said, his voice laced with concern. He and Naruto had bonded deeply in the years since his birth. Naruto was a spitting image of Minato, and Minato had never felt happier than on the day Naruto was born. All his accomplishments and praise paled in comparison to the undying love he felt for his child. Having grown up without parents, Minato had always yearned for a family. Now, he had the love of his life and a healthy son. He'd never forget October 10th, the day his life felt complete. He had a son to bond with, tell stories to, tease, and experience everything he never had. Now, Jiraiya was telling him to cast Naruto aside for his new children. While he loved Mito, Narumi, and Menma just as much as Naruto, he understood what it meant to be alone in the world and wouldn't wish it on his worst enemy. He had endured it because his parents died in the Second Great Ninja War. On the day of their funeral, a 5-year-old Minato vowed to become strong enough to protect those he loved. He would protect his family and never abandon them to the cruel shinobi world. He looked at Jiraiya, daring him to say the wrong thing, awaiting an answer. Kushina interjected before Jiraiya could speak, "Hell no, we are not abandoning him. He is as much our child as Mito, Narumi, and Menma, we just need to focus on the triplets a bit more." Flashback end. Hokage office. A bit more, Minato thought to himself, signing off on his and Kushina's gift to the triplets. He deeply regretted not dismissing that prophecy nonsense as soon as Jiraiya brought it up. Every time he saw Naruto, his heart ached. His eldest son seemed utterly broken. Minato often caught Naruto watching the triplets interact with family and friends, his eyes filled with remorse and longing. The Namikaze name commanded respect and power worldwide, a legacy Minato had built for his children, yet no one would guess Naruto was a Namikaze by the way he was treated. Most of the village had forgotten he even existed, and those who hadn't called him the other Namikaze. When Minato first heard it, it took Jiraiya, Tsunade, and Kushina to stop him from killing the civilian council member who had addressed Naruto that way. He wasn't the only one with doubts. Kushina, though stubborn and headstrong, wasn't entirely convinced this was the best course of action. It pained her to see Naruto heartbroken, but she believed the fate of the entire world hung in the balance. She kept telling herself that once the triplets turned 5, they would begin their training. Kushina imagined things would get easier once the triplets' training began. She would fully devote herself to Mito, Narumi, and Menma, leaving no time for anything else. She never went back on her word, and the day Jiraiya came to them with the prophecy, she vowed to be the light for her Mito, Narumi, and Menma, preventing them from slipping into darkness. Yet, the pain in her heart never faded. It became increasingly difficult for her to face Naruto, so much so that she would often explode in anger over minor things he did, sending him away. Her emotions swung from sadness to anger in an instant. Naruto frequently got scolded for trivial matters because Kushina needed to vent her self-directed anger. She believed things would eventually smooth out with Naruto. Today, the triplets would start training. Mito was self-motivated but easily discouraged, and Menma's laziness rivaled that of Inara. Narumi was always kind-hearted and strove to make everyone happy. It tormented her to see Naruto sad. They needed a way to keep the triplets focused and motivated through difficult training. She had devised a plan and convinced/forced Minato to go along with it. Tonight would be a big night. Party at the Namikaze compound. Tonight was incredibly important for all Leaf residents. To curry favor with the Hokage, many civilians and shinobi alike went all out, securing only the finest gifts for Mito, Narumi, and Menma. One year, Minato wanted to turn away the gifts, but Kushina refused, stating they weren't his to return. Wanting to keep the triplets happy, he reluctantly complied. This year was the worst yet. In a back corner of their lavish living room stood 3 mountains of gifts, one for Mito, one for Narumi, and one for Menma. To the left of this impressive display sat the eldest Namikaze. Naruto sat at the end of the stairs, clad in a plain black shirt and dark gray shorts. His messy blonde hair shadowed his eyes from the partygoers. He was forced to attend every year, as if to rub in the fact that his siblings received more than he could ever dream of, while he received nothing. No love. No acceptance. No real family or friends. A single tear traced its way down his face, past his distinctive whisker birthmarks. His agony was interrupted by his mother's voice, gathering everyone's attention. "Thank you all so much for being here tonight. I truly appreciate you taking the time to come and celebrate Mito, Narumi, and Menma's 5th birthday, Kushina said with a beautiful smile, reminding many why she was one of the most sought-after maidens in the elemental nations. Anything for the prince and princess of the leaf, a rather drunk civilian slurred sincerely. Kushina's smile widened as she looked back at Mito, Narumi, and Menma sitting together, with Minato to Menma's right, Narumi to his left, and Mito to her left. We're going to start opening gifts, so please, let's do this orderly. We wouldn't want a repeat of last year, Kushina warned with a smile that promised pain to anyone who ruined Mito, Narumi, and Menma's big day. Minato chuckled nervously. He remembered what his wife had done to a few civilians who rushed to share their gifts and ended up colliding with an end table, shattering her favorite vase. The crowd remembered too, and promptly formed an orderly line, civilians first, then shinobi. Naruto watched, radiating envy. He observed as his siblings received top-of-the-line training gear, masterfully crafted weapons, jutsu scrolls, and countless books on combat intelligence and chakra theory. His siblings were mostly well-mannered. Menma gave some of the books a disapproving look, but a dangerous glare from Mito and Narumi quickly straightened him out. Their godparents now approached, each holding a sealing scroll. The twins' eyes widened to the size of dinner plates as Jiraiya and Tsunade placed the scrolls on the table, gesturing for them to sign. With childish glee, Menma signed the Toad contract, shouting about becoming the strongest shinobi ever. Mito and Narumi were more reserved but wore wide smiles as they signed the slug contract. The room was stunned. All the shinobi had heard tales of the two strongest summon clans, the Toads and Slugs. They also knew that only a handful of people in history had signed those contracts, placing the prince and princess in very esteemed company. Onlookers began to applaud as Kushina and Minato rose from their seats. As they walked towards their children, Naruto noticed his father holding something with the official Hokage seal. Curious, Naruto stood and edged his way through the crowd until he was directly behind his parents. There, he clearly heard something that would change his life forever. Minato quieted the crowd and noticed his eldest son had made his way to the front row. A moment of eye contact with Naruto made Minato consider abandoning the entire idea. He wasn't sure he could do this to him in the first place, but to do it now, in front of all the village's important figures? That would make things immensely harder. Minato thought that perhaps, by some chance, this whole ordeal would go over Naruto's head. He was still a child, after all. Steeling his resolve, Minato decided to continue. I'd like to thank you all for the gifts, and on behalf of my entire family, I hope you enjoyed the night. We hope to celebrate like this many more times in the future, Minato said with a charismatic smile, which the entire crowd reciprocated. For some reason, Naruto felt a terrible premonition. He looked around, seeing nothing amiss, so he dismissed his thoughts and returned his attention to his father. We have one last gift to give to Mito, Narumi, and Menma tonight. Naruto narrowed his eyes, the ominous feeling returning, stronger than ever. As the 4th Hokage of the village hidden in the leaves, I, Minato Namikaze, name Mito Namikaze Uzumaki the heir of the Uzumaki clan, Narumi Namikaze Uzumaki the heir of the Namikaze clan, and will personally be training Menma so he can one day take my place as Hokage. The crowd's reactions were mixed. The overwhelming majority erupted into a craze of cheers and clapping. Some even whistled and screamed as if celebrating a victory in the Chunin exams. A select few understood the implications. Shikaka Nara, the Nara clan head, and his son Shikamaru stared in disbelief. They knew Naruto and even liked the boy. He was kind and warm-hearted, but his eyes held an indescribable sadness. They hadn't known the cause, but now they had their answer. A couple in the crowd looked on stoically. Hayashi Hayaga and Fugaku Uchiha seemed indifferent to the news. Behind Minato, Jiraiya and Tsunade were hugging and congratulating Menma and Mito respectively. Both children were the happiest they had ever been. Menma was shedding tears of joy, burying himself in Jiraiya's chest, laughing and smiling. Mito was uncharacteristically expressive, smiling and openly laughing with Tsunade, even jumping off her chair into Tsunade's waiting arms. Narumi ran and gave her father the biggest hug imaginable. The celebrations were abruptly cut short by a sudden explosion of chakra in front of them. All eyes widened at the display of power, and jaws dropped when they saw who was emitting this suffocating presence. In the center of the room stood Naruto, glaring at his father with an intensity that would turn Medusa to stone. Vicious wisps of light blue chakra whipped around him, tearing up floorboards and blowing back civilians and shinobi who were too close. His eyes held pure rage and betrayal, and his body released more chakra than the average jonin. His parents stared at him, wide-eyed, for several reasons. First, they hadn't known Naruto had awakened his chakra. Naruto had secretly been training in chakra control and studying chakra theory at the public library. He naturally molded his chakra with ease, making tree walking and water walking child's play. He had even asked Tsunade for basic medical ninjutsu training but was sharply denied. The second reason was the sheer amount of chakra he was emitting. While Uzumaki blood ran strong in his veins, even a full-blooded Uzumaki's chakra reserves were dwarfed by Naruto's. If he possessed a Jonin's equivalent at age 6, what would he be like after the academy? Or after that? Minato's thoughts mirrored those of Tsunade, Kushina, and Jiraiya. Naruto cut short their thoughts as he took a step forward, the wooden floor splintering beneath his feet. "Excuse me?" Naruto said, far too calmly for the situation. "If I heard you correctly, you just took away the only thing this family has ever given me." Naruto continued walking towards his parents, snapping them out of their trance. "Naruto, you don't understand. We were just." Kushina was cut off as Naruto's chakra surged to an entirely new level. Kakashi looked at Naruto in awe. "He's radiating more chakra than I have." His thoughts were interrupted when Naruto spoke again. "I don't understand? I don't understand," Naruto yelled, releasing even more stored chakra, shattering windows and blowing everything in the house away like a tornado. "Let me tell you what the fuck I understand. None of you care about me. You ignore me for years because of those three, and now you take the only thing I ever had. The only thing that ever proved that I existed." Naruto continued, tears streaming freely down his face. "Do you know what today is?" he asked his parents. Most of the crowd was trembling from the sheer chakra whipping around the room. "Do you?" Naruto hollered, making everyone in the room wince. At a loss for words, Kushina and Minato tried to speak but nothing came out. The sadness and neglect in Naruto's eyes were replaced by pure rage. Minato's eyes widened in realization, but before he could speak, Naruto did. "It's my birthday today." Naruto's shout was so loud it even surprised a certain pink-haired councilwoman. A stunned silence filled the room. Minato and Kushina gazed at their son, a turmoil of shock, sadness, and self-loathing warring within them. They finally grasped the reason behind Naruto's behavior on this particular day. For 5 years, it hadn't been his birthday, it had been the triplets' birthday. He had never been acknowledged alongside them, always alone in their shadow, not by choice, but placed there by his parents and godparents. Their obsession with the prophecy and the triplets had deprived him of the one thing he craved, love. He felt unwanted by his parents and unloved by his godparents. He was fed up. Though only 6, he possessed the intelligence of an academy graduate, a true genius and prodigy, but his parents were oblivious, never taking an interest in him. Every painful rejection, every unwarranted scolding, was seared into Naruto's mind due to his photographic memory. Tears welled in his parents' eyes, but Naruto didn't notice. "Maybe it would just be better if I didn't exist," he screamed. A blinding flash enveloped the house, and when everyone's vision cleared, Naruto was gone. Minato was the first to break free from his daze. "Umbu," he roared, a sound uncharacteristic for him. In an instant, 4 masked figures in standard Umbu gear knelt before him. "Find him! Please find my son!" As Minato finished, the Umbu vanished, deploying 4 battalions of Umbu and other shinobi to locate the eldest Namikaze. Minato turned to his family, a troubling sight awaiting him. Instead of the happy, laughing children from moments ago, Mito, Narumi, and Menma trembled, being comforted by the 2 Sunin. He then looked to his wife, a mix of sadness and rage on her face. She was a heap on the floor, weeping, re-evaluating everything they had done. Minato could only hope his Umbu found Naruto before he harmed himself. On top of the Hokage monument, a profoundly drained and furious Naruto lay sprawled on the second Hokage stone face, his emotions a hurricane of sadness, rage, and disappointment. He had pushed himself to the brink for the past year, hoping to impress his parents. All he wanted was acceptance from his parents and godparents, so he trained relentlessly. Every waking moment was dedicated to self-improvement and enhancing his natural abilities. This was not how he wanted to reveal them. He simply wanted his family to be happy for him, to be proud, not to treat him like a nuisance. Naruto quietly wept, gazing over the edge and contemplating jumping. A rustling in the bushes behind him interrupted his thoughts. He expected one of his father's Umbu, but was surprised to come face to face with a truly unique individual. Before him stood an 18-year-old, looking closer to his early 20s. He had shaggy brown hair that fell in organized chaos. Standing just under 6 feet tall, he wore black sweatpants and, instead of the usual shinobi sandals, jet black combat boots. His torso was covered by a dark gray muscle shirt. Black straps wrapped around his body, supporting the sheaths for 2 9-inch blackblade Bowie knives. The stranger spun one knife in his hand with practiced ease, a blur of motion that seemed completely natural. The hilts were a vibrant gold, the handles wrapped in black leather. The knives were positioned parallel to his spine, one on each side. His build was imposing, his chest and stomach were exposed, save for his skin-tight muscle shirt, which did little to conceal his battle-hardened body. His chest and abs were well-defined, every muscle in his arms visible. His physique was reminiscent of Captain America post-transformation. Over everything, he wore a brilliantly gold cloak, open in the front and trimmed with black outlines and accents. A peculiar design adorned the back of the cloak, a small Star of David nested within a larger one, connected by intricate lines and tomo encircling the design. The design was perfectly symmetrical, meticulously crafted. Around his neck hung a golden necklace with a white gold anchor charm resting on his chest. Finally, on his back were 2 identical swords. Each had a quarter-meter handle, wrapped in black leather like the knife handles. The blades were exactly 1 meter long, their hilts covered by medical bandages that sealed them in their sheaths, their details hidden. His exposed neck revealed a few nasty scars that seemed to extend onto his torso. His face and jawline were prominent, devoid of any fat, and free of scars, but his eyes were piercing. The gold around his pupils seemed to glow in the dim forest light, expressing a wisdom beyond his age, captivating Naruto. Naruto couldn't tear his eyes from the approaching man. His stature and demeanor commanded respect, well deserved. Beyond his abundant confidence, he radiated the most welcoming aura Naruto had ever experienced, an inexplicable draw that made one want to be near him. As he drew closer, Naruto felt a profound sense of ease. All the tumultuous emotions raging in his mind calmed in the stranger's presence. He carried himself like a deity, his steps silent. The moonlight reflected off his cloak, giving his entire appearance a mystical quality. "You know, I've thought about it too," the mysterious stranger said, taking a seat beside the still-standing Naruto, his gaze fixed on something distant. "How easy it would be to just end things now. Nobody would miss me. All the pain I feel would finally end. I wouldn't be alone anymore." Naruto noticed his neighbor's eyes shift from welcoming and comforting to profound sadness. What could someone have endured to carry such sorrow? It turns out somebody else had different plans, the man chuckled softly. He took the knife in his right hand, rolled up his left sleeve to his elbow, and cut his left wrist along the veins. As blood began to pour, Naruto panicked. With trembling urgency, he grabbed the man's arm and tried to apply pressure to the wound. As he pushed down, he felt something shifting beneath his hand. As Naruto removed his blood-soaked hand, he watched in awe as the wound rapidly closed, leaving a slight wisp of steam as the skin reconnected. Naruto looked up to meet the stranger's eyes, his own begging for answers. His curiosity was met with a low chuckle. "Imagine my shock when I jumped off a building to end it, but everything grew right back just like before I landed." He adjusted his sleeve and returned his gaze to Naruto, the look of compassion and acceptance restored. "It took me trying it to realize it was the right choice. People like you and me, we may be pushed aside. We may get left out or ostracized. We may be hated and even hunted to the ends of the earth, but it's our responsibility to do as much good as possible. We can't let their ignorance and stupidity be our downfall." The man stood and walked 10 feet from the edge. He extended his right hand, palm open. In a flash of brilliant, rainbow-colored flame, like the dragons in Avatar, The Last Airbender, a 2-meter golden staff appeared in his hand. Closer observation revealed black indentations running its length. The tip facing Naruto had what looked like spread eagle wings, and between them, a gem constantly shifted colors, as if alive. The back end held another gem, this one pitch black, resembling a konoha tip. "I see too much of myself in you, Naruto. I see the pain and sadness in your eyes that I carried when I was your age. I want nothing more than to help you, to give you the one thing you always wanted," the man said, turning to Naruto with his left hand extended. "I'm asking you to trust me. If you want to be strong, I'll make you the strongest shinobi on the planet. If you want to travel the world, I'll take you along, and we can see everything the elemental nations have to offer. As much as you want a family, I want one too." He took a few steps toward Naruto, his left hand still extended. Naruto was torn. Just after his parents confirmed his worst fears, this teenager offered him everything he ever wanted. Naruto wanted to be skeptical. If his own family didn't want him, why would a stranger? As his internal war raged, he didn't notice the man walk toward him and embrace him. Every doubt vanished instantly. He felt the sincerity in the man's words, the genuine desire to help, and tears welled in his eyes. His family had never hugged him like this, they rarely spoke to him and actively avoided physical contact. In this man's arms, he felt a rush of positive emotions he hadn't experienced in years. Happiness, relief, and acceptance flooded his mind as he buried himself in the stranger's chest. "Thank you," Naruto choked out, trying to maintain composure. "Ace. My name is Ace," the former stranger shared. "You aren't alone anymore. I will always be there for you, Naruto. Happy birthday, Naruto." Ace released his staff, which vanished in the same flash it appeared. He pulled out a necklace similar to his own from his right cloak pocket and placed it around Naruto's neck. He then fully embraced the boy, feeling many of the same emotions as Naruto. As tears fell from their eyes, they both knew one thing: they weren't alone anymore. 11 years later, a 17-year-old, shirtless blonde rose from bed at 7 a.m., as he had every day for the past decade. He walked into the bathroom to begin his usual morning routine. Standing before the mirror, he observed himself. His childhood physique was long gone, replaced by a body girls could only dream of. His chest and stomach muscles looked as if carved from granite. With virtually no fat deposits, every individual muscle and its movement were visible. His muscles were significantly denser than a normal shinobi's, making his skin appear reinforced and difficult to pierce. Below the belt, Naruto possessed legs capable of carrying him for days without tiring. His punches and kicks were powerful enough to shatter bones like glass and pierce iron like paper, yet he considered his strength his weak point, having focused more on speed. Without his resistance seals, Naruto was faster than the current Raikage with his lightning armor active. Early in his training, he realized there were certain things he would never match Ace in. Strength was one of them. Ace's bones were made of a metal he boasted was the strongest in existence. Comparing Ace's strength to Tsunade Senju's would be like comparing a professional weightlifter to a newborn. For the first 5 years, Ace refrained from punching Naruto for fear of permanent damage. As Naruto grew, he naturally became tougher and stronger than anyone in his generation. All those ass-kickings from Ace had at least served a purpose. Naruto could confidently say he could best nearly anyone in a strictly taijutsu fight. He longed to fight against Guy when he opened the 8 gates but hadn't had the chance. Naruto didn't truly consider what he did training. Ace was a taskmaster, working Naruto until he couldn't walk every day for the past 10 years. His body was constantly sore, and his head always ached from memorizing new techniques. Every day, Naruto was with Ace from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m., working on whatever Ace had planned. Typically, the first and last hours were dedicated to meditating on the day's techniques. During this time, Ace would also funnel minimal amounts of his power into Naruto's system, allowing Naruto's body to adapt over time. They would sit back to back, and Ace would manifest his power. Ace's power was unlike anything Naruto had ever seen or heard of. For one, Ace didn't use chakra. Instead, he described his power as the ability to manipulate energy itself. He explained that where he came from, there were 5 types of people. The first possessed rapid regeneration, as he demonstrated the night they met. The second group had the ability to control matter and energy with their mind, what Ace called telekinesis. This ability allowed Ace to manipulate any ninjutsu style by controlling the energy around him. No hand signs were required, he merely clapped his hands together to balance the power he would infuse into his attacks. Imagine the way Ed and El transmute in Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, complete with the awesome sound. While he could use every element at the level of the second Hokage's water style, Ace's mastery of fire, lightning, and wind always amazed Naruto. Ace's fire required ridiculous amounts of water to extinguish and burned hot enough to melt stone and steel like butter. He could mold it into almost any shape imaginable. Naruto still bore scars from when Ace chased him around with a rainbow fire tiger. His lightning and wind abilities were equally remarkable. His telekinetic powers weren't limited to energy, they could manipulate matter within the area Ace's presence touched, excluding people and other living animals. He could only move animals and humans with his mind after physically touching them. He could also summon beautiful golden and black vectors, as Ace called them, which looked like giant 2D circles with many designs around their center. Think the magic circles from early fairy tale. These would appear wherever Ace designated and produced a force that pushed anything in front of them. Naruto had also noticed Ace could manipulate his own body with telekinesis. More than once, Naruto had rushed Ace, thinking he had an opening, only for Ace to contort his body and land a bone-crushing blow to his jaw. The third power Ace possessed was telepathy. He could read thoughts and sense the presence of anyone within a mile of him. He could alter memories and the reality someone perceived if he concentrated hard enough. Naruto underwent intense mental conditioning thanks to this power, making him impervious to all genjutsu due to the absolute mental defense Ace helped him build. Ace could also control someone if he made eye contact. Looking into his eyes during a fight was akin to signing your own death sentence. This power proved highly annoying during their spars, as Naruto constantly had to focus on hiding his thoughts from Ace to avoid a painful experience. Eventually, blocking Ace's mental assault became second nature, but he could never escape after making eye contact when Ace used his Oculus form. Ace's Oculus form was very similar to the Mangekyo Sharingan but had a few key differences. Instead of manifesting as Susanoo, Ace could transfer energy into a solid state for armor, walls, or anything else he could imagine. Ace also gained enhanced perception and predictability, similar to the Sharingan, and perfect 360-degree vision when active. The design was the same as the symbol on Ace's back, which made sense to Naruto. Ace never told Naruto how he acquired those eyes, but Naruto didn't press the issue. Telepathy was the power Ace used the least, as he didn't want to intrude on anyone's privacy. He had developed a way to shut it off like a light switch and kept it off most of the time. His final power was Naruto's favorite. Ace had the ability to teleport anywhere he had in his memory or could see. Like Naruto, Ace possessed a photographic memory, making it easy for him to travel great distances and an absolute nightmare to fight against. Whenever Ace teleported, it sounded as if he were ripping his very existence from the earth and forcing it somewhere else, like the sound of a sonito from Bleach. Ace always said this was his favorite power. He could teleport himself, anything he was touching, or anything he had marked by placing his palm on it. The mark was the same as the one on his cloak. Ace's teleportation was the fastest thing Naruto had ever witnessed. Even his father's Flying Thunder God technique took a fraction of a second to travel to a seal. One couldn't predict where Ace would appear because he didn't rely on seals. Naruto would always simultaneously love and hate this ability. Naruto unlocked new abilities over 5 years, each appearing in his time of need. He first discovered regeneration when Ace's punch pulverized his insides, but a healing heat quickly mended him. Despite the pain, he could regenerate from severe injuries, though Ace warned him to protect his spine, the source of this power. Naruto, now aware of this weakness, devised protective strategies, and repetitive regeneration also significantly densified his bones, making them steel-like yet still vulnerable to Ace's direct hits. Telekinesis emerged when Naruto attempted elemental combinations. He had mastered his natural wind and fire elements with Ace's guidance within 3 years. His mastery over fire rivaled Madara Uchiha's, and his wind manipulation allowed him to fly and control air with exceptional skill. At 14, seeking to replicate the first Hokage with style, Ace taught him energy manipulation, enabling him to successfully combine energies. Naruto became proficient in Wood style and also learned Scorch and Ice styles, initially for defense against Ace's attacks but eventually grew to love them for their versatility. Naruto discovered telepathy while trying to block Ace's mental assault, inadvertently seeing some of Ace's traumatic memories. This experience made him wary of probing others' minds, so he, like Ace, restricted his telepathy to combat. He was grateful he couldn't achieve Ace's level of control, fearing its tempting power. Naruto's final power, teleportation, manifested during a severe beating from Ace. Despite Naruto's natural speed surpassing the Raikage's, Ace's teleportation-infused martial arts made Naruto seem motionless. Desperate to escape Ace's forward flicks, which cracked even his dense bones, Naruto discovered teleportation. He loved it, and with Ace's help, integrated it into various fighting styles, though he was limited to teleporting to visible locations or pre-marked spots, symbolized by a simple chibi Naruto mark, which both found amusing. Ace leveraged Naruto's photographic memory, teaching him a lifetime's worth of martial arts in a decade, ensuring Naruto had a counterstyle for any opponent. The potential of combining this with telekinesis-enhanced teleportation was immense. Naruto often noted how telekinesis significantly strengthened his punches and kicks. His training encompassed more than just hand-to-hand combat. For his 7th birthday, Naruto received 2 Bowie knives from Ace, slightly smaller than Ace's own at 6 3/4 inches compared to Ace's 9-inch blades. They spent countless hours that year honing techniques and integrating the knives into Naruto's fighting style. Ace used them for quick, quiet kills and as alternatives to konoha, able to recall them with teleportation or telekinesis. Naruto used the knives similarly, though he rarely threw them, preferring to close the gap due to his speed. He trusted Ace's craftsmanship and largely adopted Ace's usage. For his 8th birthday, Ace crafted Naruto a staff identical to his own in everything but weight and gem colors. Ace's staff featured rainbow and jet black gems, weighing around 250 pounds, while Naruto's had gold and black gems and weighed 75 pounds. The staff became Naruto's favorite weapon, feeling natural to him, and he could even challenge Ace in staff combat. Ace taught him to augment staff techniques with minor telekinesis. Naruto could summon and dispel his staff like Ace but preferred to carry it. On his 9th birthday, Naruto received the last of Ace's weapon set, twin blades worn on the back. Naruto's blades were shorter by a quarter meter but fit him perfectly. He realized Ace's weapons were forged from bone harvested from severed limbs, initially finding it odd but accepting it after Ace explained he trusted Naruto with the strongest substance available. Ace stated that only he and Naruto possessed blades made from this unique material. Ace was an unparalleled combatant. No one could match him in a fistfight. He had mastered countless styles and shared many with Naruto, yet Naruto knew he stood no chance in taijutsu. Ace's kenjutsu was equally godlike. He spoke of earning the blade's trust, which Naruto dismissed until Ace unsheathed them. In a mountain range in Iron Country, Ace sliced clean through the largest mountain with a perfect, unprecedented cut. He then demonstrated advanced techniques, channeling his energy, not chakra, into the blade to create slashes that strengthened the blade or cut through anything. Naruto frequently regenerated limbs while learning and blocking this technique. Naruto easily grasped kenjutsu concepts, mastering intermediate techniques within 3 months. He then dedicated his time to high-level techniques, adding personal touches. Ace's sword style, the dragon stance, incorporated all his powers and combined the best elements of every style Naruto had ever seen, creating a flawless form. This style was the most challenging for Naruto due to its complexity. Ace, having always controlled his powers, found it natural, whereas Naruto, still mastering his teleportation and telekinesis, didn't fully master them until age 15. Even then, Naruto's abilities limited his potential in the dragon stance. True mastery would take years. On his 10th birthday, Ace spent the entire day answering Naruto's questions about his past, training, and anything else. Naruto learned Ace's life story, including concepts of space and interplanetary travel. Ace explained differences in his world. His people aged far slower, with 1 year on Naruto's planet equating to only a week or 2 for Ace, explaining Ace's minimal aging over 11 years. Minor differences included Legion's 18-month year compared to Earth's 12. Naruto was amazed by Ace's descriptions of advanced technology, like metal boxes traveling millions of miles faster than light. Ace then detailed his life, born on Legion, a planet at the heart of a 10,000-year-old intergalactic empire that followed three prior empires, the originals, predecessors, and transcendentals. Ace's people, descendants of the predecessors, overthrew the transcendentals in a long, bloody conflict. He described Legion as highly militaristic, valuing strength and battlefield worth. Almost everyone had a legacy and began combat training at age 4. Every child aspired to be one of the Legion Army's 5 commanders, representing each legacy group and those without, yet unity didn't prevent internal conflicts and civil wars. Only a greater enemy could unite them. In Legonian society, dual legacies were exceptionally rare, about 1 in a billion, but those individuals often thrived in the military, though their power was limited. About 100 dual legacy warriors existed when Ace left. 3 people possessed triple legacies. Ace had defeated them in his youth and convinced them to abandon the Legonian army for their own purposes. Ace stated that people like him were relentlessly hunted down and killed. Ace recounted a happy childhood until age 5 when the Legonian military attacked his family, fearing his potential. Ace's mother, Alejandra, Alex, was a beautiful, petite woman, just over 5 feet tall and one of the Empire's smartest individuals. She was strict with Ace, but he knew it was for his success. She died at 25. His father, Kenneth, was his mother's intellectual equal, a health-conscious 5 feet 9 inches man. Most of Ace's training was with his father. Ace cherished when his parents were together, as they brought out the best in each other. Kenneth died at 24. Ace explained that his different powers were called legacies. He described the common, crippling fear normal warriors had for Legion's individuals capable of using all 4 legacies. At 4, Ace awakened some legacies and was seen using them at school. The military tried to recruit him early to ensure loyalty, but his parents refused, wanting him to have a normal childhood and join at the standard age of 16. The military reacted harshly, bullying his family. Almost a year later, on Ace's 5th birthday, a 12-member special ops team of dual legacy users attacked his family. They treated it as a game, torturing his family in front of him, mentally tormenting him by replaying his parents' deaths. They continuously tortured Ace, skinning parts of his body and repeatedly removing one eye while leaving the other so he would witness their actions. As his parents, who had no legacies, succumbed to the torture, the soldiers continued for 5 more hours, then heard crying. In another room, they found Ace's 4-year-old sister. The attackers dragged the 4-year-old by her solid black hair. Tears streamed down her face as she saw her dead parents and Ace's severed body parts. Ace said they suspected she was a Legion, but none had appeared since 2 teenagers fled the Empire years ago. Legions weren't liabilities merely for mastering all 4 legacies, they possessed genius-level intelligence and could enter an apex state. In this state, a Legion fought purely on instinct, exponentially increasing power and attack capacity, heightening all senses, and driving all legacies into overdrive. Ace trained to control this state, allowing him to fight with its killer instincts while retaining his wits, making him immeasurably more dangerous. As Ace watched his sister's throat slit and her bleed out, something snapped. The helpless child vanished, replaced by a 5-year-old juggernaut. White power erupted from his body, forcing onlookers to their knees. Ace showed Naruto the memory of the ensuing slaughter. It was instantaneous. Ace carved through the 12 commandos effortlessly. In a blink, 12 of the Legonian army's best lay dead at the hands of the newly awakened Legion. Afterward, Ace fled the galaxy, running for years, gradually mastering his powers and gathering allies. He was trained by the universe's greatest legacy masters, who all grew fond of him and offered assistance. They all died protecting him when the full might of the Legonian military cornered him. At 14, he met his first love. A unique aspect of Legions was their inherent pairing, they were fated to meet. Her life starkly contrasted Ace's. Olivia, an only child of a royal telepath family, had a pampered life until she met Ace. He had broken into her house for food after evading authorities. She found him and challenged him to a duel, which was overwhelmingly one-sided. She was unprepared for real competition. Ace exposed her naivete and opened her eyes to harsh realities. Though they shared base abilities, Ace had far surpassed her. She knew they had to stick together for survival, as her family couldn't hide her powers indefinitely. In a spontaneous decision, she accompanied him when he left. She maintained contact with her family, but her life fundamentally changed. Ace recounted his story with immense compassion. Naruto was struck by how quickly Ace's eyes shifted from love to absolute sorrow. Naruto didn't press the topic, sensing something significant, perhaps death or betrayal, had led to Olivia's absence, a story for another time. From that day, Naruto felt a profound connection to Ace. He confided in Ace and sought his advice on everything. Ace became more than a friend, he was a brother, someone so close and trustworthy that Naruto finally found the family he always desired. On his 12th birthday, Naruto faced his first significant test. Flashback, Naruto's 12th birthday. Naruto woke early, journeying down the mountain to a local market for groceries. Upon appearing in the training room, arms laden with bags, he was instantly ensnared in indestructible gold and black chains. He initially thought his mother had finally found him after all these years. He knew his father had sent search parties, but Ace was adept at evading trackers far superior to Umbu. They traversed the elemental nations, meeting people, learning about the world, and creating unforgettable memories. Occasionally, Naruto reflected on his old family, wondering if they missed him. He hadn't seen them since losing his clan heir position. Naruto didn't regret leaving and wished he'd met Ace sooner. Thoughts of his parents and godparents still angered him. He knew he'd return one day, but for now, he'd stay with Ace and grow strong enough to protect those he cared about. Scene change: Hidden Leaf Village. Naruto's departure polarized his family. Narumi and Minato felt compelled to find him, while Kushina felt betrayed, believing his abandonment of village and family went against Uzumaki principles. She vowed to reprimand him upon his return. After 5 years, the search for Naruto gradually yielded to other responsibilities. Only Narumi thought of Naruto daily, praying to Kami for his return, hoping to mend their family before Naruto left. Mito and Menma seemed to resent Naruto's departure, never quite understanding why their parents kept them separated, though they remembered Naruto always trying to be kind. Mito struggled to forget their good times, feeling a void when recalling Naruto's sadness at her 5th birthday party. She preferred to remember the happy, goofy older brother who cheered her up and showered her with love. She often cried over Naruto's memory but kept it secret. Menma's reaction differed. He took Naruto's departure so personally that it fueled a deep hatred. His parents once found him burning all pictures and belongings Naruto left behind, tears streaming down his face. They tried to make him talk, but Menma closed off, determined to grow stronger, find his brother, and make him regret his birth. The Namikaze Uzumaki children ceased celebrating their birthdays, usually spending the day alone, training or introspecting. Naruto's departure had opened their eyes, giving them new motivation to find their brother and bring him back, one way or another. Flashback within a flashback: Minato's home office, 1 year before Naruto's departure. Minato was at a low point as Jiraiya ranted about the Toad Sage's changed prediction. "Minato, we must act. The sage is specifically telling us so we can prevent anything bad from happening." The prophecy changed: the child of the Yellow Flash and Crimson Death, the child shrouded in darkness, will use powers never seen before to mold the world how they see fit. We cannot allow Mito, Narumi, or Menma to be shrouded in darkness. Whatever it takes, this is the priority. Jiraiya was worried. Shrouded in darkness was never positive. He had already discussed with Tsunade making Mito, Narumi, and Menma their sole focus. She agreed, having grown close to Mito and Narumi, seeing them as the daughters she never had. She was also fond of Menma, who reminded her of her younger brother Naoki, constantly proclaiming his desire to be Hokage and make his parents proud. She couldn't help but like the boy and want to protect him and his sisters. Kushina and Minato were torn between what they believed was the world's fate and their own family. They knew Jiraiya's plan would likely sever ties with Naruto. It pained them to see their son isolated, especially when he questioned their treatment. Minato always tried to soften the blow, while his mother and godparents were quite blunt. "Why am I chained, Ace? Don't tell me you have some sort of bondage kink," Naruto quipped with a mischievous grin. Ace, caught off guard, burst into laughter. They both shared a fit of giggles for about 15 seconds before Ace composed himself. "Naruto, usually I give you a weapon for your birthday," Ace began, his voice taking on the smooth, comforting tone Naruto was accustomed to. "But until now, you've only had access to half of your true power. For your birthday, I'm going to unlock the second half." Naruto's face lit up. He had spent years training intensely, determined to become strong enough to protect those precious to him currently, only Ace. He dreamed of finding a nice girl and starting a family later in life, but making friends proved difficult. He spent most of his time training with Ace, but also mingled with citizens during their travels. He often overheard stories about the Leaf's prince and princesses, and the rumors about himself. "I heard he attacked his family on his sibling's birthday. I wonder what the Hokage will do to that little monster." "He's not a monster. He's just the failure of the Leaf. He's the disappointment. He'll never be anything else." Naruto knew exactly where those names came from. Years ago, when his family publicly stripped him of his birthright, it was as if they declared him unworthy of their name. If his own parents didn't see him as good enough, how could he expect simple villagers to see him differently? He endured constant insults as a child, mainly from Sakura Haruno and Kiba Inyazuka, sometimes even Menma. Naruto planned to return to the Leaf the year his siblings graduated, hoping he wouldn't be placed on a team with anyone he couldn't stand. Menma idolized Jiraiya, mimicking everything about him, even his perverted tendencies. He copied Jiraiya's treatment of Naruto, which was, to put it simply, antagonistic. Jiraiya viewed Naruto as the reason Minato and Kushina might forsake the world. He would snap at him, yell at him, send him away, and even insult him. Jiraiya always told him it would be hard to put Naruto aside, but that he had to do it for the sake of the world. Menma took those words to heart. No one knew the truth. They didn't know that, at 10 years old, Naruto could defeat any jonin in the village. They were too blind, too foolish, and they deserved to pay. For some reason, at his lowest points, Naruto would hear a voice in his head telling him to kill them all. The voice's favorite line was, "They don't deserve your mercy." To an extent, Naruto agreed. While he knew he could eventually fight and defeat his parents and godparents, the voice seemed to strengthen him. It made him feel like he could fight the Sunin, the Yellow Flash, and the Red Death. Ace would often calm him down, but the voice never completely faded. "It's been harder to control your emotions recently, hasn't it?" Ace asked, as if reading Naruto's mind. The look on Naruto's face confirmed it. "Let me tell you a little about the half of your power that's still sealed." Ace pulled his hand from his side, and a portion of the stone floor shifted upwards, allowing him to sit casually. "Much like chakra has a yin and yang, your power has a light and a dark." Ace then released his power, a golden and black aura. The ground around him shattered at the slightest release of his power. Naruto was always amazed by the density of Ace's power. It made the air feel like a solid object. Naruto was grateful the chains held him up, as simply standing would have been exhausting otherwise. "The gold in my power is the light side. It's what I've been training you to use. This energy focuses on happy emotions and naturally limits you because of that. The gold energy is called aura. The black energy consists of all the negative emotions and memories I hold. The black energy is called killing intent. Ki is much harder to use, because to master it, you have to accept all the bad things that have happened to you over the years. This power is only obtainable by the highest caliber legion." Ace stopped channeling his aura/ki but continued to restrain Naruto. He pulled up a chair next to Naruto. Ace rose from his seat and placed his hand on top of Naruto's head. "I think you're ready to conquer these demons. You're going to lift the limit yourself, so on the count of 3, I'm going to break down the natural barriers your mind has put up. It's going to be a struggle and will likely take a few days. I'm going to restrict you the entire time, not for my safety, but for your own. This power will throw off the balance you've obtained over the past 5 years, but if you can master this power along with your aura, you would be the greatest force the elemental nations has ever seen." Ace ruffled Naruto's hair then began to channel some ki into his hand. "Prepare yourself, Naruto. 1, 2, Naruto only heard half of the last word before he was pulled into his mind. Naruto opened his eyes to a plain white room about the size of a football field. He walked towards the center, where he saw a figure sitting alone in the darkness. The only light source was a spotlight directly above Naruto. He approached the figure and was shocked by its appearance. The figure was an exact replica of him with a few key differences: solid black eyes, jet black hair, and strange black markings running up and down its body, like Akame's during her fight with Esteth in Akame ga Kill. The figure wore a simple black shirt and white shorts, like Kaneki when he fought Jason in Tokyo Ghoul. He looked up and made eye contact with Naruto. The moment their eyes met, Naruto saw all the hardships of his life. He saw every instance his parents and godparents yelled at him for no reason, every time he was pushed aside for his younger siblings. He relived every excruciating detail of those encounters and felt the pain of depression he had fought before meeting Ace. This time, things felt much worse. Every new memory was exact, but he hoped the endings would change. He still wished for his parents' acceptance. Then he felt a shift. The Naruto in front of him stood up and began walking towards him. The tears on his face dried as his eyes shifted to a burning rage. Naruto was unsure what to do until he heard the voice that had plagued him for months. "Kill them all. Spare no one. Train, gather strength, then when the time comes, kill everyone who has wronged you." The voice was so sinister it would make a cage break into a cold sweat. But to Naruto, it seemed welcoming. The voice gave Naruto a sense of purpose unlike anything he had experienced before. He understood the figure in front of him. Hell, he agreed with it. His family had no right to mistreat him like this. He was done accepting it. He wouldn't lay down and be everyone's bitch anymore. It was about time he did something about the pain that constantly plagued him. A grin etched itself on Naruto's face as he reached for the figure's outstretched hand. Just as he was about to touch the other Naruto's hand, Ace flashed in his mind. Not just Ace, but all the time they had spent together. The times Ace would crack jokes and they would laugh until their stomachs hurt. The times Ace listened to Naruto and comforted him. The times Naruto cried into Ace's chest after being reminded of how little his family cared about him. The times Ace snuck Naruto through villages and towns so his location wasn't discovered. The times Ace went out to eat with Naruto to celebrate his accomplishments. Everything, the good times, the bad times, all of it. Naruto remembered how much Ace had done for him and made a decision. Instead of grabbing the figure's extended hand, Naruto pulled his counterpart into a warm embrace that made the embodiment of darkness stiffen. Naruto then spoke, instantly feeling himself calm down. "It's okay, we're not alone anymore. We have Ace. They don't matter anymore." The figure sat in shock for a moment before slowly returning the embrace as tears began to run down both their cheeks. "We can dislike them, we can even hate them," something Ace used to say echoed in his head. "The worst type of violence is unnecessary violence. We don't need them to be happy." At this point, both the figure and Naruto began to fade. they then merged into one as Naruto's vision went black. When he awoke, he was lying flat on his back on a small bed, with a wet towel on his head. Naruto tried to stand, but as he rose, his legs gave out. Ace appeared out of nowhere and caught him before he hit the stone floor. Naruto looked up and saw a massive smile on Ace's face. "You did it, Naruto. You've accepted your demons, but didn't let them devour you. You'll now be able to train and use some of your ki without losing control. Eventually, you'll be able to use it completely, but it will take years to master ki." Naruto matched Ace's smile with one of his own, then closed his eyes and let unconsciousness claim him. Flashback: a few months before Naruto's 13th birthday. Scene change: Land of Demons. Naruto had been training in ki usage for a few months but was having trouble. Ace had purposely brought Naruto to the Land of Demons. Few people lived there, making it an ideal place to train some of the more destructive aspects of their power. Naruto seemed increasingly determined to master his power, making rapid progress, much to Ace's delight. Time skip: Naruto's 13th birthday. For Naruto's birthday, Ace gave him something similar to a summoning contract. Ace was partnered with the king of the dragons, Rayquaza. Rayquaza was a massive 125 feet long, towering over Ace and Naruto. After some convincing, Ray agreed to help Naruto find a partner within his ranks, though it wasn't going very well. Naruto plopped down on the ground with an exaggerated sigh. He had conversed with at least a dozen dragons, but their compatibility never seemed optimal. He was about to call it a day when Ray spoke up. "Listen, child, this next dragon is my eldest son. His name is Drogon, yes, the one from Game of Thrones. He has never been the kindest creature, but he is extremely powerful and loyal. Just be wary, his respect is not easy to gain," King Ray warned the blonde. In a flash of white-hot fire, a giant black-orange dragon appeared in front of Naruto. The figure was easily bigger than the chief toad Gamabunta. On his hind legs, Drogon stood about 90 feet tall, and his scales were sharp like blades. Around his head were long, protruding spikes, each about a foot long. His presence was crushing, taking Naruto a few moments to adjust. Drogon looked around and then saw Ace. "Ah, Ace, did you finally decide to ditch the old geezer and partner with someone from the next generation? I've been waiting for you to call me, you know. You're the only human that has ever bested me in a fight," Drogon said, aiming a cheeky grin at his father. The gold and green king was about to retort when Ace beat him to it. "My memory must be failing me, but the last time you and Ray fought, I could have sworn you only lasted 5 minutes," Ace grinned, acting as if he was trying to remember something. His grin grew when he heard a low growl from Drogon. Ray cleared his voice, gathering everyone's attention. "Actually, Drogon, I called you here to see if you would like to partner with Ace's apprentice." Drogon looked genuinely interested now. Anyone his father and Ace approved of must truly be a force to be reckoned with. Drogon looked around for the apprentice his father spoke of, but only found a small child staring back at him. "This little shit is really your apprentice, Ace?" Drogon questioned with unmasked confusion. "Yes, I actually consider him more of a little brother than an apprentice. I can tell you're not impressed, but I'd like to inform you that Naruto, who turned 13 today, has already been training in ki usage for a year," Ace said with a sense of pride reserved strictly for himself and those close to him. Drogon's eyes widened slightly as he turned his gaze back to the blonde. He lowered his head until he was eye level with the child, then a thought crossed his mind. Naruto, sensing something was wrong, calmed himself and prepared for whatever might happen next. As he expected, Drogon released a roar that shook the very earth to its core. He held his roar for about 10 seconds, then ended with a nice snap mere inches from Naruto's face. Naruto, expecting some sort of test, didn't even flinch. He stared at the dragon in front of him and spoke nonchalantly. "You apparently don't know much about dental hygiene." Drogon grinned in response and turned back to his father and Ace. "I like him." Flashback end. Over the years, Drogon and Naruto grew very close. Ace had them train together frequently, which helped with their teamwork and allowed their friendship to flourish. Naruto and Drogon now had more of a sibling relationship, built on mutual respect and lots of banter. Ace loved when the two went at each other because they came up with amazing insults. The best part about their relationship was that no matter how harsh the insults were, there were never any hard feelings between them. The verbal spars allowed them to constantly battle without any physical injuries. Needless to say, both parties enjoyed the arrangement. On Naruto's 14th birthday, Ace did something much simpler. He gave Naruto a wristband that would expand to cover his forearm. On the front was a screen that allowed Naruto to easily manage the many restrictor seals Ace had placed on him. The wristband could also be used to contact Ace or Drogon at any time and had any feature Naruto could want, like maps, notes, calendar, etc., similar to an iPhone. The idea behind it amazed Naruto. He never imagined technology could progress this far, but he gratefully accepted it. Naruto came to use it for everything. He would take pictures of his family's scrolls with it, write down personal notes in it, and basically use it to make his life easier. They spent Naruto's last 2 birthdays traveling to specific places Naruto wanted to visit. The first place he wanted to go was the village hidden in the mist. Naruto wanted to witness the horrors of war firsthand and help as many people as possible. They spent a month in the land of water, traveling from island to island, helping evacuate civilians, healing the injured, and even fighting on more than one occasion. Naruto wanted to fight for the revolution, but Ace said their location would be discovered if stories about a blonde 15-year-old started spreading to the leaf. He promised Naruto they would return to the hidden mist and fight for the revolution. Ace and Naruto got to know the leader of the rebellion, Mai Terumi. She took quite a liking to Ace, often flirting with him and trying to seduce him. Naruto couldn't help but notice her beauty. She was in her early 20s, with long, auburn hair, and a beautiful figure that many of her underlings gawked at. Naruto was surprised when Ace would flirt back with her but then deny her advances. When he asked Ace, he told Naruto that he wouldn't sleep with her then leave to complete Naruto's training. He had too much respect for Mai and hoped to teach Naruto a thing or two about dealing with the fairer sex. Naruto understood Ace's worries, and Mai respected his decision, or at least she did when he promised to return once Naruto had finished his training. Naruto achieved his first kills while with a group of bandits who had separated from their main force during a raid on a military base and were attacking a refugee camp. He dispatched them swiftly, killing 2 with his bare hands, 3 with knives, 1 with ninjutsu, and 5 with his staff. Naruto moved instinctively, perceiving the attacks in slow motion and executing each kill flawlessly, without wasted motion or missed strikes. Standing over the fallen, he expected sorrow or pity but felt nothing. Ace approached, silently assessing the scene Naruto had created. Taking this as an invitation, Naruto spoke. "I'm glad we came here. I needed to see this," Naruto stated, his voice flat. He had witnessed mass murder, rape, theft, and abduction on an immense scale. Ace's warnings hadn't fully conveyed the horrors they encountered. "It's time to get going," Ace said softly, offering Naruto a moment. To Ace's surprise, Naruto simply nodded and followed him out of the camp, taking his first kills remarkably well. "Naruto, are you sure you're okay?" Ace paused, looking directly at his younger brother. Naruto met Ace's gaze. "You always told me we must be the change we want to see in the world. The world I hope to create, one of peace and prosperity, is worth the struggle," Naruto replied, glancing back at the bodies one last time. "They may have been the first to fall by my hand, but they won't be the last." The present returned to the hidden leaf. Approaching the hidden leaf gates, Naruto reflected on the past year. He had spent it traversing the land of fire, familiarizing himself with its people and terrain. His training intensified beyond anything he'd done before, reaching a level he believed few others attained. His power had grown immensely. He had fully mastered teleportation and was highly skilled in telepathy and telekinesis. Naruto continued to rigorously train his ki, gaining considerable comfort with it, though he sometimes became sloppy during extended use. Ace had been instrumental in pushing him through difficult periods. Naruto's regeneration was astonishing. He could regrow entire limbs in a minute and had developed a pain tolerance that sometimes startled Ace. In ninjutsu, Naruto had mastered individual elemental jutsu for fire and wind, and was particularly proficient in water, aiming to reach the second Hokage level. He had also mastered many lightning and earth-style jutsu. His proudest achievements were with Kekkai Genkai. Despite not having them in his bloodline, Naruto could use ice, lava, and scorch style with impressive skill. He kept his wood style usage highly secretive, training far from civilization, aware that its reputation as the most sought-after Kekkai Genkai would incite every hidden village to hunt him if rumors spread. Assessing his wood style proficiency was challenging. Its immense power stemmed from its ability to suppress and tame tailed beasts. Naruto hadn't yet faced a Jinchuriki, but he was confident in his other abilities even if wood style proved insufficient. Training with wood style invariably caused significant destruction to his practice grounds, unsurprising given its nature of ripping up the earth to summon wood. He estimated his capabilities to be around 2/3 of the first Hokage, Hashirama's, power. Naruto's thoughts were interrupted when Ace playfully smacked him on the head. "Ow, what the fuck, Ace?" Naruto grumbled, slightly irritated by the throbbing on the right side of his head. Ace, wearing a cheeky grin, held out a hand. "I couldn't get your attention. By the way, you lost the bet." Ace's grin widened into a smirk. Naruto's eyes widened. He opened his mouth to protest but then closed it, reaching into his pocket for 10,000 ryo, which Ace gladly pocketed. As they neared the grand gates of the hidden leaf, Ace looked at his brother. "So, you were thinking about them again, huh?" Ace's words made Naruto flinch. Despite 11 years of training and travel, Naruto seemed hesitant about returning to the leaf. Ace received only a stiff nod from the blonde. "There's nothing we can do about it now, so stop worrying," Ace said, hands in his pockets, as they stood mere feet from the village entrance. "We just have to follow the plan and let the chips fall as they may," Naruto stated as they passed through the gate. Ace and Naruto entered slowly, observing their surroundings. The leaf had changed little in Naruto's absence. Buildings remained modest, and roads bustled with merchants, civilians, and shinobi. Naruto couldn't help but smile at the scene. Though he harbored resentment towards some of its people, the concept of people coexisting in relative peace was what the first Hokage had fought for. Naruto respected the first above all others, save Ace. Naruto yearned to bring peace to the world and end the horrors he had witnessed in the Hidden Mist. He was shrewd enough to know his ambition wouldn't be easily achieved. For a century, the 5 major villages had warred, and the grief of lost loved ones wouldn't simply vanish. Naruto knew he faced a monumental task, but he was willing to get his hands dirty. Lives would have to be taken to achieve his goal, and he was prepared to do it himself. Naruto looked up at the great stone faces, gritting his teeth when his gaze landed on his father's. They were heading to see him now. Ace had convinced him it was best to address things immediately. After a few more steps, they were stopped by Izumo Kamizuki and Katetsu Hagane, the Chunin guarding the entrance. The two approached them, curious about the blonde who had just walked by. Izumo's eyes widened, then a stunned Katetsu spoke. "And Naruto, is that you?" His voice was barely a whisper. Izumo tried to speak but couldn't. The Hokage's lost son had just walked through their gate after 11 years of the best tracking ninja searching for him. Naruto's face was strikingly similar to Minato's, as if the Hokage himself was staring them down. They shifted uncomfortably when Naruto didn't reply. Before they could speak again, Naruto looked up and met their eyes. "I don't wish to be disturbed. Go sit down and tell no one you saw me." Naruto's voice was deathly calm as he used his telepathy to control the two. He watched as the color drained from Katetsu and Izumo's eyes, and they nodded silently. They then moved aside and returned to their booth by the entrance. Ace turned to Naruto, who was now covering his hair with a hood. Ace gave Naruto a questioning look, which the blonde noticed. "If we are doing this, then we are doing it on our terms," Naruto stated, his words stern and resolute. Ace gave a firm nod and pulled up his own hood. They made their way through the village, their destination the Hokage Tower. Perception change, Mito. It was a beautiful day. The sun was high in a cloudless sky, and birds sang sweetly. Mito lay in her bed by the window, gazing at the sky. She had graduated just yesterday and was on a week's break while the genin teams were being decided. Her parents were busy setting up the teams, giving her, Menma, and Narumi the day off. Mito had grown into a beautiful young woman. She stood 5 feet 4 inches tall, with her mother's red hair flowing down to her waist when not tied in a ponytail. Her body was well toned from training, giving her a desirable flat stomach and stunning, muscular legs. Her feminine features had also developed over the years, including a 34C bra size, which often drew the gaze of classmates. She was also well endowed below, her posterior being another point of interest for boys, and some girls, in her class. Her model-like physique was often hidden beneath baggy clothing. She didn't actively seek recognition for her looks, preferring to be praised for her earned achievements. Mito was currently wearing a plain white t-shirt and green gym shorts, her luscious red hair unbound. As she lay on her bed looking out the window, her mind began to wander. On slow days like this, Mito's thoughts often drifted to Naruto. No matter how much she tried to hate him, how much she wished he would simply be found dead, she would instantly regret such thoughts and fall into a pit of self-loathing. Mito was, by far, the most intelligent of the triplets. Her father frequently praised her analytical skills, comparing her eye for detail to the Sharingan. She scoffed at the thought. No matter how attentive she was, she could never rival the Uchiha bloodline. She was the first to realize why Naruto left. The more she pondered it, the clearer it became. She remembered all the joyful times with Naruto, the jokes, pranks, stories, and tickle sessions that would make her smile for days. She had never seen the other side of Naruto. It took Naruto leaving for Mito to finally notice the disparity between him and their parents. She recalled every family gathering. It was always one of the triplets who chose where to eat, what toy to get, or what they would do. Every time Naruto suggested an idea, he was ignored or rejected. She barely remembered times when Naruto tried to share his opinion, instead recalling years of him remaining silent. He would rather go along with everything than endure the pain of continuous rejection. It wasn't just minor things either. Mito remembered when Naruto turned 5 and asked to begin his shinobi training. He asked as politely as Mito had ever heard. She couldn't recall a time when she, Narumi, or Menma were ever that respectful and humble when making a request. However, it didn't change the outcome. Naruto was rejected, as always, his parents concocting excuse after excuse each time he asked for help. She never understood why, until recently. Flashback, 2 years ago. Mito was studying late for her exam on the Second Great Ninja War when she heard shouting downstairs. Following the sound, she saw the doors to her father's office open, revealing Jiraiya, Tsunade, and her parents in a heated discussion. It's been 9 years. If he hasn't been found dead yet, he likely found out how to take care of himself, Jiraiya stated, looking directly at Kushina and Tsunade. The two women seemed ready to slap him, but Minato spoke before they could. "Sensei, my son is out there, by himself. He left because he felt like he wasn't loved. How can you stand there and not care about his well-being?" Minato spat. Don't you fucking say that, Jiraiya shrieked, slamming his fist on the wall, cracking it. It's my fault this happened. I was the one who brought you the prophecy all those years ago. I should have had faith in you like I always have. A single tear ran down Jiraiya's cheek, shocking Mito. She had never seen Jiraiya cry except when he was called a pervert or rejected by women. I still remember the day you told me you were going to name him after my character. Silent tears now streamed down his face as he replayed the moment. It's the proudest I've ever been. When I got to hold him for the first time, I knew it was my job to protect him from harm and help him realize his goals in any way I can. Jiraiya wiped away some tears, a sad smile forming. I was the one that pushed him away. This is all my fault. Tsunade tried to stop him, but Jiraiya was now staring at the last picture of Naruto in the house, Naruto in his mother's arms, his father to the right, and Jiraiya grinning like an idiot to the left. I fucked up. I fucked up beyond fixing, and I'm sorry for dragging you all down with me. Jiraiya struggled to maintain composure, clenching his fists so hard they bled. I know I don't deserve to see him again, but if I could just talk to him. I need to tell him it's my fault. This whole thing is my fault. I got you all worried about the damn prophecy and look what that did. Jiraiya looked down at his hands, blood dripping onto the floor along with his tears. His gaze never left his hands as he clenched his fists one last time. I just don't know what to do. We've had the best trackers known to man looking for him for the past 11 years and they have barely gotten more than rumors and possible sightings. He doesn't want to see us again, and it's all my fault. Jiraiya walked back to a seat in the corner of the room. He slumped deep into the seat, letting out silent sobs as regret and misery consumed him. It wasn't just you, a teary-eyed Kushina said, leaning against the wall. It was me. Kushina's words were so faint Mito could barely hear them. I was worse than all of you. I'm an Uzumaki. Family is supposed to come before anything else, and I turned my back on my own child. Tears flowed freely down Kushina's face as she tried to continue. I failed as a mother. I failed as an Uzumaki. I deserve this. I deserve misery and pain and anguish. Mito watched her mom collapse to the ground, still clutching Naruto's picture from the desk. She saw her father attempt to comfort her mother, but nothing seemed to work. Mito listened as her mother spoke about Naruto, barely deciphering her words through the sobs that racked her. Tsunade also blamed herself for the missing child, spending many nights drinking to forget. This was another life she had lost. She wondered if losing Dan and Noeki had been a prior punishment from an omniscient god. After Tsunade finished, Mito watched them all sit in silence. After a few moments, they moved toward the exit, causing Mito to scramble into a hiding spot. She waited there for a few moments until she thought everyone had left. She slowly climbed out from behind a potted plant in the corner, only to hear nearly silent sobbing coming from her father's office. She turned to see her father, crying uncontrollably as he stared at Naruto's picture. She could almost feel his pain as she noticed tears forming in her own eyes. She ran to her room as fast as she could and cried herself to sleep that night. Flashback end. Mito rolled over, hugging her pillow tightly as she thought about her brother. She remembered Naruto's infectious laugh and brilliant smile, neither of which she had seen much of in his last year there. She was pulled from her thoughts as she heard Narumi open the door. "Nei-chan, get dressed. Tio-yu-chan wants to see us in the Hokage office as soon as possible," Narumi chirped in her typically bubbly tone. Mito glanced at her sister. Narumi was the quintessential bombshell, a slender figure, a well-developed chest, 36C, and blonde hair styled into her usual pigtails that reached past her shoulders. She wore a mesh undershirt peeking out from beneath her unzipped white and gray namikaze jacket, paired with gray umbu pants and medical tape wrapped around her left thigh. 2 inches shorter than Mito, Narumi was far more outgoing, often drawing attention away from her older sister. Mito grunted in response and began getting ready. What the hell does Tio-yu-chan want? Hokage office. Moments earlier, Minato, Jiraiya, Kushina, and Tsunade were engrossed in the difficult task of forming genin teams. Months prior, Kushina had suggested she lead the triplets team, an idea generally well received. Her training with the triplets had strengthened her, and she could restrain them if the Nine Tails ever took over. Minato loathed this aspect of his job. Every detail required careful consideration. A wrong choice could lead to a team's failure, or worse, death. 6 hours in, he needed a break. He leaned back in his chair, taking a deep breath as he observed his colleagues. Kushina sat on the floor beside Minato, reviewing potential team files. He took a moment to appreciate his wife's beauty. Years had barely touched her, making her appear no older than 30. He was in a similar state, though an occasional gray strand flecked his yellow hair. In his early years as Hokage, Minato relied heavily on Hiruzen's guidance. Hiruzen's death during the Nine Tails attack intensified Minato's stress, especially with 3 Jinchuriki children at home and the loss of the professor's wise counsel. To his left, Tsunade sifted through applications for her medical ninjutsu program, while Jiraiya meticulously examined Menma, Mito, and Narumi's files, seemingly searching for something specific. Minato was about to stand when a knock interrupted him. Shizune burst in, panicked. She immediately captured everyone's attention, with Minato being the first to speak. "What's wrong, Shizun?" "We weren't to be bothered unless it was dire," Minato said, more concerned than angry as Shizun struggled to compose herself. "A man showed up and said he had information on Naruto." Shizun's words brought everything to a halt. It had been years since they'd received any credible lead in the search for Naruto, only whispers and far-fetched rumors. Despite his reservations, Minato couldn't dismiss the possibility. What if this was the breakthrough they needed? They could spare a few minutes to listen. Minato gave a slight nod as everyone tidied the office. Tsunade, Kushina, and Jiraiya positioned themselves behind him, while he remained seated at his desk. Moments later, Shizun re-entered with two men. The first was slightly taller, with short, shaggy brown hair and a lean, fat-free face and exposed arms. His arms bore several prominent scars, but his face was unblemished. Brilliant golden eyes immediately drew everyone's attention. He wore a black cloak with golden detailing so dark it seemed to absorb all light, and underneath, a dark gray, skin-tight muscle shirt clung to his physique. Black sweatpants and combat boots completed his attire. To Minato, the man seemed suspicious. He wore an unsettling smirk and carried his weapons into the meeting. Minato tensed slightly as the man stepped forward, his smirk softening into an oddly warm smile. "I'm Ace, thank you for taking the time out of your day to see me." Ace's smile barely faltered as he surveyed the room. Kushina eyed him critically, just as Ace seemed to expect. Minato, despite his hopes, maintained his professional neutrality. Jiraiya and Tsunade appeared more optimistic. No one had offered information about Naruto like this in years. Past face-to-face meetings typically yielded decent tips or reliable sightings. Few dared to waste the time of 4 S-class shinobi. Eyes shifted to the other cloaked figure behind Ace. Completely concealed, the figure didn't trigger any alarm seals upon entering, suggesting he carried no weapons beyond the two swords on his back, identical to Ace's. The figure remained silent, but the experienced shinobi sensed an unstable presence, putting them on high alert. Only the bottom of his face was visible, offering no clues to his identity. They braced for a fight, but Ace cleared his throat, interrupting their thoughts. "So, like I'm sure your assistant told you, I came to talk about Naruto." Everyone flinched at the boy's name. Ace watched guilt wash over them like a tsunami. "Yes," Minato's cold blue eyes hardened, "and make sure this is worth our time. This is not an issue we take lightly." Minato noted a subtle shift in the figure behind Ace. Kushina also caught it, but the Sunin focused on Ace. Ace took a step forward, his smirk unwavering. "It's been around 11 years, hasn't it?" Ace's question elicited only a stern nod from Minato, while Jiraiya, Tsunade, and Kushina bristled at his tone. Ace took another step, now just a foot or two from the desk. "I've heard about his departure, but I wanted to hear it from you all." "What happened?" Kushina snapped. Ace's smirk infuriated her. She detested time wasters, especially concerning Naruto, and this asshat seemed intent on provoking them. Clenching her fists, she spoke with agitation. "That's none of your business. Do you have anything worthwhile to say, or do you just plan on wasting our time?" Kushina's agitation seemed to please Ace. His smirk widened, and he let out a small chuckle. "No need for hostility here. Your temper certainly lives up to the stories, Red Death. I don't think I've ever pissed someone off that quickly before." Ace maintained his smile, knowing it was getting under everyone's skin. Minato was about to dismiss him when Ace spoke again. "I mean, I've only heard his side of the story. I thought it would be unfair not to at least hear your side before I make any assumptions." Ace's words made their eyes snap open. His smirk widened further. Kushina shot out from behind the desk and grabbed Ace by the collar of his cloak. "Where did you see him?" Kushina abandoned all restraint, questions tumbling out. "Was he okay? Where was he heading?" Ace couldn't help another chuckle at Kushina. He took a breath and swiped her hands away, causing everyone in the room to prepare for a fight. Ace feigned annoyance as he straightened his cloak, looking Kushina directly in the eye. "I think your question should be asked to my partner here, not me." Ace's words momentarily stunned everyone. As his words sank in, all attention shifted to the cloaked figure 5 feet behind him. As if in slow motion, Naruto pulled down his hood, revealing his messy spiky blonde hair to his family. Everyone gasped, staring at Naruto. He wore a cold expression, his sea blue eyes analyzing every detail of his family. Minato's eyes widened like dinner plates as he shot out of his chair, momentarily forgetting Ace as he tried to get around his desk. Jiraiya was motionless, mouth agape, eyes wide. His knees buckled, barely supporting his weight. Tsunade was no better. Seeing her godson, she lost her breath. After all these years, all the failed attempts to locate him, he just appeared. She stumbled forward, steadying herself against the nearest couch. Tears welled as she mumbled to herself, unnoticed. All focus was on Naruto, for the first time since the triplets' arrival. NNAR. Kushina began before lunging towards Naruto, desperate to hug her eldest and never let go. As she neared, she saw Naruto's eyes shift to her. Her vision blurred with tears. She saw only her son as the widest smile imaginable spread across her face. As she made her final lunge, he vanished. Kushina was momentarily confused, thinking it a joke, but then she saw her son standing beside Ace, looking down at her with disgust. Tears overflowed as she collapsed to her knees. Everyone, except Ace, was shocked by his display, but his reaction to his mother quickly took precedence. Ace's smirk fell as he turned back to Minato, taking in the Sannin and Hokage's reactions. Then Naruto spoke. "Don't fucking touch me." Naruto's voice was little more than a growl, oozing hate and anger as he glared at his mother. Minato froze. He hadn't expected Naruto to be happy to see them, but he hadn't expected this either. On reflection, they deserved nothing less. They were fools to think his return would be to open arms. The Sannin were dazed. They expected Naruto to be angry, to want nothing to do with them, but watching him evade his mother's attempt at physical contact after over a decade away brought the reality home. Naruto's feelings were abundantly clear, and they had no idea what that meant. They had anticipated this reaction, but even anticipation couldn't shield them from the pain. Kushina stood horrified, her knees weak, her breath choppy. More tears streamed down her face as she collapsed under her eldest son's gaze. He looked utterly repulsed by her attempt. Intellectually, she knew she deserved this, but for those few moments she saw him, she'd allowed herself a glimmer of hope, only for reality to shatter it. She broke down, sobbing on the ground. Naruto looked down at her with cold eyes for a moment before speaking. "What you are feeling right now doesn't even compare to what you all put me through." Naruto's words cut deeper than any blade. He sensed his mother's sadness but remained unaffected. He stepped forward, aligning himself with Ace, and faced his father. "Call the triplets, I'm not saying this twice." A few minutes later, with the triplets, Mito was conflicted. She wanted to enjoy her day off but had nothing to do. She wasn't sure what to expect from her father's summons, assuming it concerned the upcoming team assignments, yet a strange feeling persisted. As she, Menma, and Narumi walked down the street, countless civilians and shinobi approached, congratulating them on passing the genin exam. Mito and Narumi were humble, kindly responding to everyone. Menma was a different story. He started off humble, thanking well-wishers, but after a dozen or so, he grew annoyed. He knew the genin exam was a joke among higher-level shinobi. The civilian council had pushed for years to lower standards, and they had succeeded. It was almost impossible to fail. The only academy graduates worth anything came from shinobi families. Menma knew the villagers were just trying to curry favor and eventually started brushing off their praise. Menma had matured considerably. He now stood a solid 5 feet, 8 inches tall, with a slender build like his father and the same messy blonde hair. He wore an old chinin vest found in the attic, a long-sleeved blue undershirt, navy blue pants, and his usual shinobi sandals. Most notably, Menma wore a cloak emblazoned with "Future Hokage" printed vertically down his spine, modeled after his father's but with blue detailing. Girls in his class often paid him attention, whether for his looks, skill, or status as the Hokage's son, he wasn't sure. Menma glanced at his older sister. Mito wore civilian clothes, a red hoodie with the Uzumaki swirl, black sweatpants, and tennis shoes. Her hair was pulled back in her usual ponytail, and she remained quite pretty. The way guys talked about Mito and Narumi bothered Menma. Their gazes often lingered, and they spoke about his sister's appearances lewdly. Menma had beaten up more than one fool who tried to get handsy, as if his sisters needed his protection. The 3 siblings finally reached the stairs to their father's office. Outside the door, a rattled Shizen seemed oblivious to their presence. They tried to speak to her, but she appeared lost in thought. Unable to get her attention, they shrugged and entered the office. Mito couldn't shake the feeling that something bad was about to happen. Inside the Hokage office, the room was silent after Minato ordered the Umbu to find his children. Several attempts at conversation were made, none accepted by the eldest Namikaze Uzumaki child. Unsure what else to do, Kushina, Minato, and the Sannin simply waited for the triplets to arrive. Naruto and Ace sat across from each other on the couches previously occupied by the Sannin. Ace lounged back, arms behind his head, his right foot propped on the couch Naruto sat on. Naruto sat with his eyes closed, arms crossed over his chest, waiting. After what felt like an eternity of painful silence, the office door opened, revealing the rest of the Namikaze Uzumaki family. As the triplets entered, it took them a moment to notice Naruto and Ace. They first observed their still-crying mother being comforted by their father, and a shaken pair of Sannin muttering to themselves, as if trying to calm down. Narumi was the first to glance aside and see the mess of blonde hair. Her heart seemed to stop for a moment as she gasped for air. Her siblings noticed her reaction and followed her gaze. When they saw their brother seated there, facing them, they had vastly different reactions. Mito froze, as if someone had hit her pause button. She didn't blink or even breathe as she stared at Naruto. She quickly rubbed her eyes to ensure they weren't deceiving her. When she realized it was, in fact, Naruto sitting there, her brain shut down. Everything she wanted to say, everything she wanted to do, overwhelmed her. She felt both happy and angry, excited yet worried. Unable to compose herself, she began to shake violently amidst her internal struggle. Menma's reaction was quite different. He saw his brother sitting there, looking as if he'd rather be anywhere else in the world, and Menma immediately filled with anger. He grit his teeth and clenched his fists so hard his arms trembled. A surge of Nine Tails chakra flooded his system, and he charged at his seated brother. Menma moved too fast for anyone to react. All the adults could do was watch as Menma charged, his right fist cocked back, ready to strike his brother's jaw. As Menma neared, he heard his mother and sisters cry out for him to stop. He ignored them, focused on making Naruto experience the pain Menma felt when his brother left. In one swift movement, Naruto opened his eyes, parried Menma's punch, and countered with a right hook to Menma's cheek that shook the entire room. Menma flew helplessly through the air until he crashed into the wall near the door. The force of the punch nearly sent Menma through the wall, but the office's protective barrier seal stopped him. Cracks spread outward from the impact point on the wall. Menma pulled himself from the crater in the wall with a throaty growl and spat out a large amount of blood. He was about to charge Naruto again when his father appeared between them, stopping his advance. Menma continued to push for a few moments, especially when he saw the bored expression on his brother's face. Minato quickly tightened the seal on Menma to cut off the flow of Nine Tails chakra. The sudden halt of power and adrenaline made Menma feel lightheaded. He was suddenly met with a rush of pain from his left cheek. He already felt a significant bruise forming as he spit out more blood. Naruto was now standing, Ace still seated as if nothing out of the ordinary had occurred. "Ah, you gotta love family reunions," Ace said offhandedly. Naruto chuckled as he walked up to Ace. "You got that right." Naruto then extended a hand towards Ace. "Pay up, bitch, I told you he would attack me." Ace let out a light-hearted sigh and reached into his pocket. He pulled out a small stash of Ryo and handed it to Naruto. Yeah. Ace took a moment to look at Menma, who was now being tended to by Tsunade. "Nice punch." Naruto snorted with laughter before he heard a sniffle from behind him. He turned to see his sisters still in the same position. Both had tears streaming down their faces, Narumi a little more expressive than Mito. When he made eye contact with them, Narumi suddenly sprinted towards him. Unlike with Menma, she ran with outstretched arms, much like her mother had done. Naruto was momentarily at a loss. He didn't know whether to dash away as he had with his mother or allow his sister to hug him. He would have had time to react, but Narumi's presence caught him off guard. She possessed one of the purest, kindest auras he had ever felt. That moment of hesitation was all Narumi needed as she slammed into her brother at full speed, making Naruto stumble back a few steps to keep his balance. Naruto was stunned for a moment as he stood there, his sister crushing him in a hug and crying into his chest. He wanted to push her off but couldn't sense any negative emotion directed at him, at least from her. She was full-on sobbing into Naruto's chest. The tears flowed even harder as she felt Naruto awkwardly wrap an arm around her. He couldn't explain why he did it, he just did. As much as he wanted to be angry, he couldn't bring himself to hurt Narumi. He remembered her always following him around when they were little, constantly wanting to play with him and hang out with him. Even when their parents began to focus on the triplets, Narumi would always go out of her way to spend time with Naruto. Naruto didn't feel the same hatred and disgust when he saw Narumi. Instead, he saw an innocent girl hurt by his actions, however justified they may have been. Looking at her, he couldn't help but feel guilty for what he did. While he hated his parents, godparents, and wasn't exactly adored by his other siblings, he couldn't imagine how Narumi must have taken his leaving. Narumi turned to face Ace, tears still pouring down her beautiful face. She tried to calm down for a moment, having something to say. Thank you. Thank you for bringing my Enichin back to me." The blonde was overwhelmed with sobs again as she held onto Naruto like her life depended on it. Mito stood by the door, having barely moved since seeing her brother. She cried silently, unable to tell if it was from joy or anger. A part of her wanted to do exactly what Narumi did and cling desperately to her brother, the other part wanted to do what Menma did, but hoped for a better outcome. While a part of her felt jealous of Narumi's expressive attitude and willingness to put herself out there, especially as it seemed to win over her estranged brother, she was glad for her more reserved nature, as she might have been spared the bone-crushing punch Menma took. Mito was so unsure of her emotions that she was disturbing the Nine Tails within her. The Nine Tails looked through the bars of her cage to see the eldest sibling looking back at him. The strongest of the tailed beasts noticed something off about the boy but knew that with his container's emotional strife, it would be best to let things play out for the moment. He could inquire about her brother at a later date. Kushina watched her daughter and son with great envy. She knew she was largely to blame for Naruto leaving and deserved every bit of his treatment, but all she wanted was to hug her son as Narumi was doing. She had mostly calmed down, not wanting to be an emotional wreck in front of her kids, but tears still streamed down her face. She stood next to her husband, who had sat back down in his chair behind his desk. Menma shrugged off the last of Tsunade's healing, annoyed at how his sister had immediately forgiven their brother. He went to stand next to Jiraiya, to the right of his father's desk. His father then signaled for Narumi and Mito to join them on that side of the desk. Mito slowly made her way over, and reluctantly, Narumi let go of Naruto. As she walked over, she wiped her face with tissues she picked up from her father's desk. She found a spot next to her mother. Her mother pulled her into a quick hug. Ace rarely dwelled on his past, a period far from idyllic. Yet, as he observed Naruto recount his story to his family, Ace found himself pondering what it would truly mean to have a family, to have anyone at all. His family's tormentors were drawing near. Ace was ready. He had meticulously laid his trap, immersing himself in the study of this world, patiently awaiting the perfect moment to set his bait. Their arrival was imminent, he was certain. This was good, it had been too long since Ace had unleashed his pent-up frustration. His priority was to ensure Naruto and the other innocent inhabitants of this world remained safe from the impending crossfire. When legions unleashed their full power, catastrophe often followed. On multiple occasions, Ace had obliterated entire continents, resulting in thousands upon thousands of casualties. It was difficult to prioritize civilian lives when his enemies showed no such concern. To survive, Ace had been forced to abandon his morality. They had molded him into the very monster they so greatly feared. He hadn't truly let loose in years, a fact that unnerved him, especially considering how much stronger he had become. The last thing he wanted was to annihilate this planet's population simply because he was unprepared for his pursuers. No, he needed to be ready, and he required an influential ally. Ace's initial plan was merely to pass through, perhaps spending a few days on the planet before continuing his evasion. However, upon seeing Naruto on the Hokage monument, he felt a flicker of something he hadn't experienced in a long time: humanity. Looking at Naruto, Ace saw a reflection of his 5-year-old self, adrift, unaccepted. He knew firsthand the agony of loneliness and couldn't bear to stand by and watch Naruto endure such misery. He observed the boy for months, curious about how the son of such prominent figures could lead such a wretched life. The answers quickly emerged. Witnessing the dynamics within Naruto's family, Ace nearly lost control. They had neglected an innocent child, consumed by worry over a mere prophecy. Ace lost count of how many times he yearned to kill them. It would have been a just punishment for their sheer stupidity, but as he continued to observe Naruto, he couldn't bring himself to do it. Ace would only be stripping away the last remaining shreds of Naruto's happiness. Then came Naruto's 6th birthday. He had intended to give the boy a gift for a while, constantly observing him to learn his interests. Naruto's work ethic and growth rate amazed him. Every day, Naruto would venture to the same spot in the woods, diligently practicing chakra control, physically conditioning himself, or studying books from the public library until he was utterly exhausted. On more than one occasion, Ace had found Naruto asleep in the woods and would discreetly carry him back to his room in his family's compound. Ace harbored a soft spot for the kid. Much like himself, Naruto didn't truly have a place in the world. He was perpetually seen as the other Namikaze, and the mere thought of enduring such treatment made Ace's blood boil. When Naruto decided to leave the Hidden Leaf with Ace, uncertainties abounded. They didn't know what their future held or where they were going, but they knew they had each other's unwavering support. Over the years, their bond deepened. Ace regarded Naruto as a younger brother, and though Naruto matured significantly faster than he did, Ace did his best to impart not just combat skills, but vital life lessons: how to interact and communicate with people, logical thinking, and a sense of morality that Ace had long since lost. Ace's thoughts snapped back to the present as Naruto concluded his story. He quickly assessed those seated behind the desk, drawing several conclusions. His first observation was the overwhelming guilt, frustration, and self-loathing emanating from the adults. Ace briefly tapped into their minds, curious about their thought processes. Minato was attempting to devise a logical approach to mend his relationship with Naruto. He knew Naruto wouldn't simply welcome them back, but he seemed determined to bridge the chasm between his eldest son and the rest of his family. In the back of his mind, he was trying to gauge Naruto's strength. He was genuinely shocked when Naruto effortlessly swatted aside a Nine-Tails enhanced Menma. Naruto had also displayed extraordinary speed, both in his counter against Menma and in evading his mother. Minato concluded that Naruto should at least be genin level, but he chose not to mention it yet. His primary concern was what his son had endured over the past decade. He was astonished by the sheer scope of their travels. Ace and Naruto had visited all the major nations and even the battlefields of the Hidden Mist Civil War. He felt guilty for not being there when Naruto experienced such horrors, yet from what he could tell, Naruto and Ace were extraordinarily close. While saddened by being replaced by Ace, he fully understood his son's reasons. He wanted to thank Ace for looking out for his son. Ace scoffed. "As if I did it for you," he thought, redirecting his attention to Narumi. The youngest of the Namikaze Uzumaki was utterly captivated by her brother's story. Her mind teemed with questions as her emotions settled. Ace couldn't help but smile at her innocence. He had noticed her beauty earlier, but it was even more striking now that she had stopped crying. He grinned at the look of curiosity on her face. No wonder Naruto couldn't stay mad at her, Ace mused, listening to her overwhelmingly joyous thoughts, all centered around Naruto. Her older sister, however, was a different story. As Ace delved into Mito's thoughts, he felt a pang of pity for her. Her emotions were so convoluted he could barely decipher them. Yet, he had to commend the girl. Even amidst an epic internal civil war, she hadn't missed a single word of Naruto's story. Ace sensed a deep disturbance within her. Upon closer inspection, he discovered an agitated Ninetales. Instead of confronting the beast, Ace returned to Mito's thoughts, and a few things caught his attention. The girl seemed to have erected barriers to cope with the loss of her brother. As Ace peered into her memories, Mito appeared to bear significant blame for Naruto's departure. Her love for Naruto was undeniable, yet she seemed to have distanced herself from their fond memories, instead dwelling on many angry ones involving him. Ace mentally noted her for later, as a powerful surge of anger emanated from Menma. As Ace shifted his attention to Naruto's brother, he was met with a wave of negative emotions directed at both him and Naruto. It took a moment to pinpoint the reason for the animosity. When he finally did, his interest was piqued. Flashback: 1 week before Naruto left the village. Setting: a small park next to the village orphanage. Menma, Mito, and Narumi were enjoying their day as usual. Their mother had brought them to the park to play with other shinobi children. Menma was spending his time with Kiba Inyazuka, Shikamaru Nara, and Koji Akimichi. Mito and Narumi were playing with Hinata Hayaga and Ino Yamanaka. Suddenly, Menma heard his name called. He turned to see his sisters standing next to a few older kids, boys around 10 years old. Menma felt something unsettling about them but couldn't quite place it. He walked over, and Narumi turned to him. "Hey, Nii-chan," Narumi said, dressed in a clean white dress with her hair in her usual pigtails. "I was asking these guys if they had seen Naruto Nii. They were going to take us to see him." Since Naruto had been rejected in his request to train with his parents, he hadn't been home much. He used to play with them all the time, often tickling them and making them laugh for hours with his cheesy jokes. Menma loved Naruto deeply and had always looked up to him, but for nearly a year, Naruto had become increasingly distant. A few weeks prior, the triplets had conceived the idea of surprising Naruto with a play session. The only hurdle was finding him. They had asked everyone they knew, but no one knew where their brother went during the day. Their excitement surged when these kids claimed to know his whereabouts. "Come on, follow us," the biggest kid said, leading the way into the woods. They must have walked for a good 10 minutes before Mito finally asked where they were going. "You said you wanted to see your brother, remember?" The boy's face twisted into a sick smirk as he bent down and picked up a stick from the ground. "You want to know something?" None of the triplets could speak. They watched as 5 more kids joined the original group of 4. A foreboding feeling settled in, and they suddenly became very nervous. They remained silent as the older kids encircled them. "You 3 killed our parents," the boy's words confused them. The triplets tried to cry out, but no one heard them. Fear gripped them as Mito and Narumi began to cry. Menma attempted to fight back but took a hit to the cheek, leaving a cut several inches long. Menma fell to the ground as the boys laughed. "You damn foxes killed my parents, my grandparents, and my sister. I won't let you get away with it." He raised his arms, the stick poised above Menma's downed form. "We are going to kill the foxes and avenge our family." The boy swung down with all his might. Mito and Narumi watched in horror as the stick descended toward Menma. In the blink of an eye, a yellow blur positioned itself over Menma. Everyone heard the stick make contact with something and snap. Menma's eyes were closed, bracing for the pain that never came. He slowly opened them to see Naruto standing over him, using his arm to block the stick. Blood ran down Naruto's arm and fell onto Menma's cheek. Everyone's eyes widened as they watched the eldest Namikaze kick the older boy in the stomach hard enough to knock the wind out of him. As the first boy fell, 2 others charged at Naruto, their sticks raised, ready to strike. Mito and Narumi tried to warn their brother, but Naruto was more focused on getting Menma to safety. He endured the blows, one to his ribs, another to the side of his head, and collapsed, yelling to Menma, "Get them and run." Naruto's voice was strained as he scrambled away from the other boys. With no other choice, Menma ran to his sisters, helped them up, and hurried back the way they came. Mito and Narumi's cries intensified as Menma struggled to compose himself. Behind them, they heard shouts and the thud of sticks on flesh. Eventually, the sounds of fists hitting flesh joined the cacophony. Unsure who was winning, they ran as fast as they could until they reached the forest's edge. They paused, gasping for breath, frantically searching for their mother. Just as they were about to call out, they heard rustling in the bushes behind them. The triplets turned in horror, only to be instantly relieved. Their heavily wounded brother emerged from the bushes, stumbling toward them. His blue shirt was tattered and soaked in blood, mostly his own. Cuts and welts covered his body, the right side of his head was bleeding, his right eye was swollen shut, and blood dripped from his mouth. Tears streamed from their eyes as they rushed to him, embracing him as they once did. Naruto winced initially, then wrapped his arms protectively around his siblings. They cried into his chest for a few minutes before Menma spoke. "Naruto and I am sorry. You got hurt because of Naruto," cut Menma off, pulling them all closer. Mito and Narumi shared Menma's thoughts but continued sobbing. Dummy, Naruto began, it's a big brother's job to protect his little brother and sisters. Naruto flashed a 100-watt smile, revealing his now bloody teeth as he held his siblings close. Nini-chan, Narumi started, looking up at Naruto, what did those kids mean we are the fox? Did we hurt people like they said we did? Narumi trembled as she spoke, sobs still racking her delicate frame. Naruto responded with a soft chop to the top of her head. Don't be a dummy like Menma, Naruto said, his smile widening despite the undiminished pain. You are Narumi, just like always. Naruto looked down at Mito, who still clung to him. You are Mito. Then he looked back at Menma, and you are Menma. Don't let anything those dummies say bother you. You three will always be my family, and as long as I'm here, I won't let anyone hurt you. As Naruto finished, his siblings' crying intensified as they finally released their fear and worry. Naruto couldn't help but smile softly. He felt happy, a feeling he hadn't experienced in a while. Flashback end. Ace remembered that day, witnessing the entire scene unfold. He watched Naruto defeat all the boys, choosing pressure point takedowns or chokeouts to minimize harm. Naruto understood the loneliness they felt, knowing what it was like to lack a true family. He didn't hate the boys for their feelings but wouldn't allow them to harm his siblings. After calming his siblings, Naruto asked them not to tell their parents about the incident. He didn't want the orphans to face their mother's wrath for attacking her children. They reluctantly agreed but worried for Naruto. He assured them he would be fine. Naruto didn't go home that night. He slept atop the Hokage monument after attempting to patch his injuries. While he slept, Ace descended and healed the boy. He admired Naruto's actions but felt he was too gentle in subduing the orphans. Ace was pulled from his reflections by another of Menma's memories, this one from about a month after the first. Flashback, 3 weeks after Naruto left. The same park next to the orphanage. The village remained on high alert for months after Naruto's disappearance. Minato pulled out all stops, mobilizing thousands of shinobi to find his eldest. Menma, not wanting to be left out, wandered the village daily, searching for his brother wherever he could think. Most of the time, Menma simply wandered, wondering why his brother had left. Menma was more worried about his brother than anything else. He knew Naruto was very independent, but being gone for nearly a month after the party made Menma question if his brother would ever return. Menma's thoughts were interrupted, and he found himself at the same park from a few weeks prior. The sun was setting, and he decided it was time to head back. As he turned to go home, Menma heard a few boys call out to him. Turning back, he saw the same boys from weeks ago. What are you doing here, fox boy? The biggest one spat as the group surrounded Menma. Menma was immediately on edge, searching for an escape. He spun around, looking for a gap. He spotted a small opening, his best chance. Menma dashed for it as fast as he could but was caught by 2 boys. Menma struggled, trying to break free. Leave me alone, I'm just looking for my brother, Menma yelled, trying his best to hide his fear. His arms were held out by the bigger kids, and Menma tried desperately to break free. Oh, the one that saved you last time? So I guess it's true, the only normal one in your family left. The boy let out an annoying laugh, the others following suit. It was just a matter of time before he left a monster like you behind. Menma gritted his teeth, his blood boiling with rage. Shut up, he would never leave us, Menma spat, once again trying to break free and failing. How stupid are you? The older boy mocked. He has been gone for almost a month. From what I heard, your parents took away the last thing he had left and gave it to you and your sisters. It must suck for him, he had his birthright taken away and given to monsters like you. The boy lowered his head, getting right in Menma's face, a taunting grin spreading across his features. What's wrong, fox boy? This can't be the first time someone told you the truth. The boy's smile grew. Your brother never cared about you. And why would he? You are just a demon, and you deserve to be treated like one. Shut up. Menma shouted, swinging his head forward, smashing it into the older boy's nose. He felt a blood-chilling crunch against his forehead. The older boy lurched back, clutching his now broken nose, blood pouring down his face. He glared at Menma, rage oozing from both of them. The boy wound up a punch and struck Menma squarely in the jaw. He swung again and again. His friends held Menma up as the blonde's knees buckled. After a few hits, the boy with the broken nose relented, replaced by the other boys standing behind him. They all took their turns, knocking out teeth and breaking ribs. When Menma was nearly unconscious, they dropped him to the ground and all kicked him. That was where the Umbu found him, lying in a pool of his own blood, barely alive, calling out for his brother to help him, his voice barely audible. Menma was rushed to the hospital, where Tsunade personally tended to him. His list of injuries was rather extensive: a broken nose, cracked cheekbones, a major concussion, broken jaw, shattered rib cage, and punctured lungs. His arms had been broken from trying to break free and cover his face from the kicks. It took over 14 hours of constant medical attention and an 8-hour reconstructive surgery for Menma to even resemble his old self. Menma didn't talk for a few days. He barely ate or slept. He just sat there, coming to a realization. It's a big brother's job to protect his little brother, Naruto's words echoed through his head. He left me, Menma thought. He isn't here to protect us anymore. Menma thought. He bit his lip, holding back tears. We don't need him, Menma thought as a few stray tears ran down his cheeks. If he won't protect Mito and Narumi, then I will. Tears now poured from Menma's eyes. Flashback end. Ace pulled out of the memory, his mind lost in thought. While he had been left in a much worse state than Menma, multiple times in fact, what Menma went through was something a child should never have to. Ace clenched and opened his fist a few times to calm down. He looked over at the Sunin, who were listening intently. Jiraiya had played a significant role in the search for Naruto, using his spy network to search everywhere in the elemental nations. He became quite desperate at one point, even enlisting the help of the Toads. After that failed, Jiraiya lost all hope. He wanted to be the one to find Naruto, believing he was the reason Naruto left. At first, Jiraiya thought Naruto was just hiding or had run away like many kids do. After a few weeks, Jiraiya grew quite worried for the blonde. The more he thought about the boy, the worse his guilt became. He recalled all the times Naruto would ask him questions about being a shinobi. Most of the time, Jiraiya brushed him off, but there was one day that was far worse than any of the others. Flashback, 3 months before Naruto left. The Namikaze Uzumaki compound, living room. Naruto was sitting on the couch, reading a book as Jiraiya barged in. He was looking for the triplets, as they were spending the day with him. In all honesty, Jiraiya had forgotten to invite Naruto and didn't realize his mistake until he saw the boy sitting alone on the couch. Menma, Mito, and Narumi heard the door open and rushed downstairs. They immediately jumped on their godfather, engulfing him in a hug. They all greeted Jiraiya, who couldn't help but smile. He eventually managed to pry the triplets off him, their smiles unwavering. "Alright, go tell your mother goodbye, I'll be waiting right here," Jiraiya said, looking down at the triplets. They all responded with a hi, before scurrying upstairs to find their mom. It was only then that Jiraiya noticed Naruto sitting on the couch, reading tales of a gutsy ninja. Jiraiya was a bit shocked at first. He didn't know Naruto was interested in his writing, or that he could even understand it. The blonde looked up from the book and politely greeted Jiraiya. Jiraiya gave an uncomfortable nod, his gaze lingering on the boy. "Jiraiya-san," Naruto said, looking at the sage, "I was named after the character in this book, right?" The question caught Jiraiya off guard. He replied honestly with a cocky smirk. It was the next question that Jiraiya didn't know how to answer. "Do you think I can accomplish his dream of bringing peace to the shinobi world?" Naruto's words were hopeful and innocent, catching Jiraiya completely off guard. Unsure what to say, Jiraiya just stared at the boy, his mouth slightly agape as he tried to speak. Before he got the chance, the triplets had come back downstairs, ready to leave. They dragged Jiraiya out, and the man looked back at their brother. As the door was closing, Jiraiya saw a tear make its way down Naruto's face. Flashback end. That was the day Jiraiya regretted the most, aside from the day he brought up the prophecy. If he had just encouraged Naruto, maybe things could have changed. He would never forget the look of soul-crushing rejection Naruto had as he watched the author of his favorite book walk out the door after Jiraiya awkwardly ignored Naruto's question. Mistakes. They were the only thing going through Jiraiya and Tsunade's heads as they listened to Naruto. Tsunade thought about the last time she spoke with the boy. Flashback, 2 months before Naruto left. Tsunade's office, Leaf Village Hospital. Tsunade needed some sake. She had been sifting through applicants for medical ninjutsu training for hours and was getting nowhere. "Why can't I find one applicant that is worth a damn?" Tsunade let out a frustrated huff and leaned down to the bottom drawer of her desk. She opened it to reveal a bottle of her favorite sake and a saucer. She leaned back in her chair as she poured herself a drink. As Tsunade was drinking her first saucer, Shizun walked into the office and scowled at her. "You know you shouldn't drink while you're working, Tsunade-sama." Shizun was 12 years old but very mature for her age. Tsunade had begun personally training her in medical ninjutsu a few months back. The girl had promise. She wasn't much of a fighter, but she was quick-witted and determined to help people. Tsunade saw a lot of her Dan in Shizun. As the door was closing, she noticed a little blonde boy sneak in. She narrowed her eyes, looking past Shizun and staring right at Naruto. The boy approached humbly, his head bowed and his hands clasped in front of him. The boy was wearing his usual navy blue shirt and gray shorts. He walked up and stood next to Shizun, respectfully waiting to be addressed. Tsunade eyed him for a moment before she spoke. "What do you need, Naruto?" The boy didn't flinch at her tone. Instead, he looked up at Tsunade with a small smile on his face. "I was wondering if you could help me with medical ninjutsu, Tsunade-san," Naruto said respectfully. Tsunade was confused for a moment, as was Shizun. They both shared a look before Tsunade questioned Naruto. "I wasn't aware that Minato and Kushina had begun your training," Tsunade said, knowing for a fact that he wasn't being trained by his parents. "Well, they haven't. I just," Naruto started, but was quickly cut off by Tsunade. So, you haven't even started your shinobi training, but you want me to teach you medical ninjutsu? Her tone was a lot harsher than before, but Naruto responded anyway. Well, I have been training on my own, and Tsunade cut him off again. You really think that you trained enough by yourself to compete with the Chunin and Jonin that apply for my classes? Tsunade stared at the boy. Naruto shifted uncomfortably under her gaze, because if you do, let me tell you something. Tsunade leaned forward in her seat, her eyes boring into Naruto. You better get that ego of yours in check. I have had friends and family die because they thought they were stronger than they actually were. Naoki and Dan flashed into her mind for a moment, so don't waste my time with this. Your parents obviously have a reason for not training you yet. Stop being a spoiled brat and just listen to them. Tsunade's words were like daggers to Naruto, each one cutting deeper than the last. He gave a slight nod, bowed, and walked out of the room, closing the door gently behind him. Tsunade caught sight of tears running down his cheek as he closed the door. She immediately regretted being that hard on him. She could tell that he just wanted to better himself, but he wasn't being allowed to. While she was positive that he could work towards it in time, she wouldn't allow a kid to join her medical classes, child of the Hokage or not. Shizune watched the interaction in silence, waiting for Naruto to leave before speaking. You didn't have to be that hard on him. Shizune sounded a bit angry with Tsunade, but also worried about Naruto. Tsunade let out a deep sigh. I'm just a bit on edge right now, Tsunade said, finishing her saucer and pouring another. Flashback end. Tsunade couldn't bring herself to talk to Naruto after that. She was disgusted with her behavior, knowing Naruto only sought activity and his parents weren't training him. Shame prevented her from speaking to him. She needed a month or two to compose herself. Naruto left before Tsunade could apologize. During his absence, she often revisited their last encounter. It was more than a request for medical ninjutsu help or training, it was Naruto's final attempt to reconnect with his family, and everyone had rejected him. Guilt consumed her during many sleepless nights, leading her to drink heavily in a futile attempt to forget. Naruto concluded his story, revealing his reason for returning. Ace, having stopped probing others' minds, simply listened. Just put me on a genin team, we'll be ready for the upcoming Chunin exams, Naruto stated, annoyed. He enjoyed recounting his time with Ace but wished to limit details for his family, purposefully omitting his power and skills, knowing his parents' and godparents' curiosity. Naruto, the Chunin exams aren't a joke. Kushina began to lecture but was cut off by Ace's hysterical laughter. Kushina gritted her teeth and respectfully asked, is something funny? Yeah, Ace began, just cut that whole concerned mother shit before I piss myself. Ace maintained his smile, staring directly at the fuming Red Death. I'm his mother, it is my job to. Kushina was interrupted again by Ace. Yeah, you are his mother, Ace said, rolling his eyes, and might I say you are doing an absolutely stellar job, sarcasm dripping from every word. Kushina clenched her fists, her surging chakra felt by everyone. She glared at Ace, wishing her gaze could kill him. Leave, Kushina growled, I thank you for bringing back my son. Now leave here and never come back. Ah. What? You don't like actually getting criticized for your screw UPS? Ace's smirk turned sinister. Because honestly, I'm the only one here Naruto respects. I mean, he hates almost all of you. Ace expertly pushed everyone's buttons. Only Minato remained calm. Ace then looked at Jiraiya. This whole thing started with you and your damn prophecy, Ace spat. If you haven't noticed, prophecies happen no matter what. So, you come down from the meeting with the Toad Sage, waving your prophecy around like it's the answer to all your problems. If you haven't noticed, you've caused more issues than you've solved. Jiraiya visibly recoiled under the criticism, acknowledging the truth in every word. Ace looked at Tsunade, who seemed to shiver under his gaze. You're just as bad. You see a sad, lonely kid and just stand by and watch. Ace prepared his final blow. I wonder what Dan and Naoki would think if they saw what you did. Tsunade's eyes widened at the mention of their names. Ace, seeking amusement, helped her envision Dan and Naoki's reactions to her recent actions. Ace seized control of Tsunade's vulnerable mind, an evil grin on his face. In Tsunade's mind, Tsunade stood alone in a dark room, a single spotlight illuminating her. A sound to her right made her heart nearly stop. It was Dan, with the injury he sustained on his death day, glaring at her with unprecedented hatred. How could you do that, Tsunade? The image of Dan spat. How have you fallen so far as to push away a helpless child? Maybe it was good we never got the chance to have any. Tsunade began to hyperventilate under the weight of her emotional distress. The image of Dan dissipated in a light breeze, revealing Naoki at 5 years old. This image didn't speak but replayed Tsunade's memory of Naruto asking for help, only with Naoki in Naruto's place. Tsunade was sobbing as the scene unfolded. It worsened when Ace showed Naoki standing atop the Hokage monument, crying, just as Ace found Naruto on the day they left. Ace then twisted the scene, having the image of Naoki stand up, mutter, since I'm not wanted, and lean over the edge of the Hokage monument. Tsunade tried to run and grab him but wasn't fast enough. Instead, she had a front row seat to the projection of him falling to his death. Thought projection end. Tsunade snapped back to reality, only a second having passed during Ace's mental assault. She collapsed to her knees, a sobbing mess. Ace decided to move on. Don't even get me started on you, Ace said, eyeing Kushina. You've got some nerve trying to act all motherly after what you put Naruto through. Kushina had heard enough and charged at Ace, intending to plant her fist squarely on his smug face. Ace grinned, watching the redhead barrel towards him. In a blink, Naruto stepped between them, drawing his sword and placing it at his mother's throat. Kushina slammed to a halt, narrowly avoiding her throat splitting on her son's blade. She looked at Naruto, her anger dissolving into sadness as she stood completely at his mercy. Naruto let out a low growl. If you pull something like that again, I swear to Kami, I'll kill you. Naruto's words made her skin crawl. No one in the room doubted him, no matter how much they wished to. Naruto released a minimal amount of killing intent, making everyone present except Ace gasp for breath. Naruto eyed his mother for a moment, his blade as still as a statue. She began to quiver at the sight. Naruto seemed to be daring her. She backed away shakily, horror on her face. Ace placed a hand on Naruto's shoulder. Getting the hint, Naruto sheathed his blade and began shuffling through his bag, looking for something. Kushina was a wreck again, her son threatening her life broke her emotional dam, leaving her to wallow in sorrow. Minato was about to help his wife, but Naruto tossed a large bag of Ryo onto the desk. Minato gave him a confused look, prompting Naruto to explain. That's for the penthouse of the shinobi barracks. Naruto's words were brief but held significant meaning. And Naruto, you don't have to. We can work something out. Minato pleaded with his son, trying to control his emotions. Naruto turned to Minato, a cold look on his face. No, we can't. When you decide which team I'm on, send me my teammates' files. I'll be busy for the next week, so don't bother stopping by. Naruto and Ace left the office, leaving behind a stunned Namikaze Uzumaki family. Too many thoughts rushed through their heads to make sense of them. Minato knew one thing he needed to do before trying to calm his family. Snake, Minato called out. Immediately, an Umbu wearing a snake mask appeared, kneeling before him, awaiting a command. I want you to follow Ace. Find out as much as you can about him. Report to me every 3 days, and if he leaves the village, send a message with one of your summons. The cloaked Umbu gave a firm nod. Yes, Hokage-sama. The Umbu vanished, off to tail her objective. Minato sighed. Looking around, he saw everyone but him and Narumi in the midst of an emotional breakdown. His mind was focused on one thing: Naruto. Scene change, the streets of the Hidden Leaf. Ace and Naruto headed to the nearest furniture store to pick up essentials for their new home. As Ace reached for the door, a chill ran down his spine. A sudden shift in the air and the movement of a distant power widened Ace's eyes. They are coming. Naruto immediately understood Ace's meaning. How many of them? Naruto's voice filled with worry. More than I have ever faced before. The Hidden Leaf village was shaken by the sudden appearance of the Hokage's eldest child. Everyone talked about Naruto, spreading both rumors and truths. When Naruto left his apartment, he was constantly watched but rarely approached. A few confident civilians tried to talk to him, acting like old friends, which only annoyed him. Naruto and Ace spent their first day back furnishing their apartment. The penthouse in the shinobi barracks had been occupied by a kind old man who enjoyed hosting parties and listening to shinobi mission stories. He passed away years ago without an heir, and the Hidden Leaf Council seized ownership, but no one moved into the penthouse. Ace and Naruto couldn't understand why. The penthouse occupied the 14th and 15th floors of the barracks. It had 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms, but its most appealing feature was the open floor plan on the first level. There was a sizable kitchen with a nice dining area. The living room, under a loft, connected seamlessly to the kitchen and dining room. The walls were a subtle beige, and the floor was brown hardwood. Naruto chose brown leather couches for the living room, while Ace selected paintings, weapons, and curtains to adorn the walls and windows. Navy blue curtains nicely covered the floor-to-ceiling windows at the end of the living room. Pictures of the first and second Hokage hung by the door. Ace had installed neatly arranged weapon sets on some walls. Naruto added paintings to the remaining blank spaces, making the penthouse quite welcoming. They usually kept the curtains open, offering a nice view of the village and the distant great stone faces. Upstairs were the bedrooms. Naruto stayed in the master bedroom. It wasn't extravagant. Naruto preferred minimal setup. A desk sat in the corner next to a bookcase, displaying pictures of him and Ace from their travels. Paintings Naruto had acquired during their world travels adorned the walls. The room had a balcony with a small table and 2 chairs. His king-size bed was much more comfortable than he was used to. Ace had told him to splurge on the bed, making jokes about sex being more enjoyable on a soft mattress. The other 2 rooms were rather bare. They had a bed and dresser, but Ace hadn't set anything else up. He would be traveling for a while and didn't want to take up more space than necessary. Instead, he focused on setting up the loft area. The loft area was about 15 feet wide and 20 feet long. Ace decided to house an instrument collection there. Naruto was surprised when Ace started teleporting random items to the loft. A large black box with 4 legs and a cracked lid was what Ace called a piano. Another hollowed-out wooden piece with 6 strings running its length was a guitar. The next item Ace brought out was a brass instrument that resembled a bent pipe, apparently called a saxophone. Ace then produced a large black box with a side full of tiny holes. Naruto recognized this as a speaker, having heard Ace mention them before. The last item Ace brought, Naruto recognized, it was a drum set Ace had previously used. Naruto had heard Ace sing and play other instruments before, always loving the peace Ace exuded while performing. Ace was usually calm, but over time, Naruto noticed Ace's cautious habit, always looking over his shoulder as if something followed him. When Ace sang or played instruments, he achieved genuine peace. That night, Naruto sat with Ace for hours as he played every instrument he had set up. After furnishing the penthouse, Naruto and Ace decided to befriend their neighbors. Ace put up signs on each floor inviting everyone in the building to a housewarming party. News of the party spread rapidly. Most were curious about the mysterious son of the Hokage and his friend, but they brought presents as a gesture of goodwill. By day's end, most of the village's shinobi were discussing the party. Many clan heirs planned to attend. Hinata Hyuga remembered Naruto from childhood. She rarely spoke to him, but always watched him from afar. She asked her best friend, Narumi, about the party. To Hinata's surprise, Naruto had personally invited Narumi earlier that day. Hinata hadn't seen her friend happier in a long time and was glad for Narumi. Kiba Inyazuka planned to attend until he spoke with Menma. Apparently, Naruto had invited Narumi but not the rest of the family. Menma failed to convince Narumi not to go and was in a bad mood, so Kiba decided to stay put. Menma was not someone to anger. Shikamaru Nara was being dragged to the party by his eventual teammates, Ino Yamanaka and Koji Akimichi. Though Shikamaru acted reluctant, Naruto and his companion had piqued his interest. The Nara heir didn't require much convincing. The last genin group planning to stop by was Team Guy. Niji initially resisted, but his teammates Tenten and Lee eventually wore him down until he relented. Naruto and Ace's apartment. Naruto stood with Ace, leaning against the bar and surveying the crowd of shinobi talking, laughing, and dancing in the living room. Ace had put on a playlist of music Naruto had never heard, but the guests seemed to enjoy it, so he didn't mind. They were slightly surprised by the turnout. Their place could comfortably hold around 90 people, but this group was pushing that limit. As they looked around, they couldn't help but smile at the shinobi enjoying themselves. They apparently don't get to do this that often, Ace remarked, watching a group of academy classmates reminisce about old times. Naruto gave him a small smile as they reflected on the night. Naruto and Ace had been hosting for about 3 hours. They went all out, having Ichiraku Ramen and Yakiniku Q cater the event. They also nearly emptied a liquor store in preparation for the night. They took turns working the crowd initially. Ace mostly stayed behind the bar now, mixing drinks and chatting with nearly everyone. More than a few kunoichi had tried to flirt with him throughout the night, one proving particularly persistent. Anko Mitarashi. Anko lived a few floors down but seemed to take an immediate liking to Ace. She got a drink from him as soon as she walked in, even ignoring other men flirting with her in favor of Ace. Ace saw it as a game. He didn't recognize her appearance but did recognize her aura. She had been present during his and Naruto's meeting with Naruto's old family. It didn't take Ace long to realize she was assigned to keep an eye on him. Her constant flirting and sexual innuendos, however, were entertaining to Ace. Ace felt a tap on his shoulder. He turned to see the very girl he was thinking about. She was dressed in her usual attire. Her trench coat was open, revealing her mesh undershirt. Her khaki skirt barely covered her. Her spiky purple hair was in her usual high ponytail, giving it some order. She also wore her forehead protector. Anko had a slight blush from the drinks Ace made for her. She eyed Ace and couldn't help but lick her lips. She might be on a mission, but that didn't mean she couldn't enjoy herself a bit. Ace was wearing khaki pants with informal leather shoes, Sperry's. On his torso was a navy blue dress shirt that fit him nicely. He had the sleeves rolled up to the elbow, and a good third of the shirt was unbuttoned. Anko's mouth watered at the sight of Ace's barely exposed chest. Like his face, his chest was devoid of any excess weight and even had a few scars, which only seemed to heighten his sex appeal. Anko hadn't been with many guys. It took a lot to interest her. Even if you managed to get her attention, it was even harder to keep it. She was very much a take-what-you-want type of person, and right now she wanted Ace. She figured getting closer to him would help with her mission, and she wasn't looking to date him, just have a little fun. Anko loved the little game Ace was playing. He used wit, sarcasm, or jokes to keep her on her toes, and when she flirted with him, he reciprocated. She knew she would win this game, she always did. "Suo," she began in a sultry tone, "how come you've been here a few days and we just met, Ace-kun?" Anko's tone alone flustered Naruto, who couldn't help but admire the older woman. She was 22 years old and had a goddess-like body. Her 36D bra size was flaunted by her attire. Her skirt seemed to strain to cover her nice, toned butt. Her smirk was the most sensual thing about her, a smile that promised great pleasure if you played your cards right. I know, right? Ace began, turning to face Anko. I typically make a point to meet the beautiful women anywhere I go. Ace's words were so silky smooth Naruto wanted to put down his drink and applaud his brother. Quite the smooth talker, aren't you? Anko said playfully. Ace cracked a smirk mirroring Anko's. He leaned forward until their faces were only inches apart. I'm just a little more experienced than the poor souls you usually fluster. As Ace leaned forward, Anko could see right down his unbuttoned shirt, getting a good view of his perfect abs. Her mouth wasn't the only thing to water at the sight. See something you like? Ace asked innocently as he stood up again, breaking Anko's line of sight. He didn't give Anko a chance to answer as he backed off. Just a moment, everyone, I have something to say while I have your attention, Ace announced, then vanished into the throng behind him. Anko let out a low growl, clearly annoyed by Ace's antics. Naruto watched Ace expertly weave through the dancing shinobi. Many tried to engage him, only to be smoothly redirected to other dancers. Naruto chuckled at Ace's effortless navigation. Ace had predicted this. As the night progressed, inhibitions would lower, conversations would flow, and everyone would simply enjoy themselves. He'd also claimed his foreign music would naturally compel them to dance, and coupled with the club lighting he'd installed, the apartment was indeed hosting a party that would become legendary among the shinobi ranks. Ace eventually reached the staircase, ascended a few steps, and touched his wrist. Ace's usual smile played on his lips as he surveyed the crowd. He spotted several clan heirs. Ino Yamanaka was dancing energetically with a goofy Koji nearby, while Shikamaru looked as if he might expire from embarrassment. Hinata Hyuga had just arrived with Narumi, making their way toward Naruto. He noticed a few inebriated Uchiha from the police force standing near the clan head's two children. Itaki regarded Ace with respectful intrigue, while his younger sister, Satsuki, stared intently. She was quite pretty, about 5 feet, 6 inches tall, wearing a white robe with a front split and black pants. Her bust was average, but her messy black ponytail was breathtaking. Ace couldn't deny her beauty, though her prolonged gazes at Naruto throughout the night suggested her interests lay elsewhere. Team Guy occupied the edge of the living room. Niji awkwardly attempted to dance, while Lee treated it like a full-body workout. Tenten, however, danced gracefully, perfectly attuned to the music and setting. She eventually caught Ace watching and offered him a friendly smile. Oh, I need to meet her, Ace thought, returning Tenten's smile. He activated his wristband, lowering the music and capturing everyone's attention. How's everyone doing tonight? Ace semi-yelled to the crowd, eliciting a massive cheer. Ace's smile broadened, and he let out a happy chuckle. He noticed many women blushing as they watched him. Sorry to interrupt, but I just wanted to thank all of you for coming out tonight. It's great to meet everyone like this, and even better to just hang out and have a good time, Ace said, prompting another cheer. Anyway, I'll shut up now. Thank you all for welcoming us to the Hidden Leaf, he finished, receiving the loudest cheer yet. Ace's smile widened as he turned the music back up, and the crowd resumed dancing. Ace remained on the stairs for a few minutes before someone approached him. So, you're the mythical Ace everyone's talking about. Ace turned to see Tenten, Lee, and Niji ascending the stairs. He grinned, the one and only. Lee and Tenten laughed. Niji remained stoic. I'm Tenten, she said, gesturing to herself. These are my teammates, Lee and Niji. Ace gave a slight nod of acknowledgement, his smile growing. I've heard quite a lot about you these past few days, Tenten said, moving closer until she was about 18 inches from him. I've heard some rumors, Ace responded. Some are a little flattering. Tenten let out a cute giggle. Well, can you blame them? Tenten said, leaning on the railing beside Ace. They looked out at the crowd for a moment. I mean, you suddenly show up with the Hokage's long-lost son. Not to mention you seem rather close to Naruto. Ace looked down at Naruto, who appeared to be having a pleasant conversation with Narumi and Hinata. Ace noticed a slight blush on Hinata's face as she spoke to Naruto. We spent a lot of time together on the road. Ace's voice was soft, a small smile gracing his lips. We got each other through some shit, to say the least. Tenten looked confused but didn't pry, changing the subject instead. I saw you watching me while I was dancing. Any particular reason? Tenten asked, a playful smirk on her face as she scooted a little closer to Ace. Sometimes it's nice to just admire beauty and wait for things to play out, Ace replied. Tenten flushed at his words. He gave her a lingering glance. I'd say things played out quite nicely. Ace and Naruto left a lasting impression that night. They dispelled any negative rumors, earning praise from the shinobi populace for their fun-loving and welcoming personalities. They were settling into the village well, and many embraced them. Narumi spent the party catching up with her brother. She was overjoyed when he invited her to the compound, and even happier seeing him talk and get to know other shinobi. Unlike her, Menma, and Mito, who were often treated as the Hokage's children, Naruto was accepted for who he was. He acted no differently than them, and they seemed to love him for it. Naruto had learned acceptance from Ace. Both had been forced into hardship by circumstances beyond their control. When Narumi asked Naruto about Ace, she was amazed by the compassion and loyalty in his voice. She heard countless stories about Ace that night, none about fighting or training, but rather Ace as Naruto saw him, a protective older brother always there for him. When Ace came over to talk to Naruto, Narumi found herself looking at him differently. She couldn't bring herself to speak to him yet, but she definitely wanted to. After hearing Naruto explain Ace, she understood why they behaved as they did in the meeting. They knew that no matter how bad things got, no matter the odds, they would always be there for each other. This thought made Narumi happy, though not as happy as seeing Naruto and Hinata hitting it off, talking about anything that came to mind. She knew Hinata struggled to talk to people, but that hesitation seemed non-existent with Naruto. She also noticed how easily her friend flustered at her brother's actions and how her gaze lingered on him. Narumi planned to ask Hinata about that later. The days following the party were slow and pleasant. Ace and Naruto mostly slept. 2 days before the Genin team placements, Ace packed his bags, ready to leave. As he walked downstairs, he saw Naruto waiting for him at the table. "You really have to leave already." Naruto sounded sad, but his expression remained calm. Ace let out a small sigh. "Yeah," Ace began, noticing Naruto's slight flinch at the confirmation of his departure. "I'm not gonna let them get a foothold here." Ace stood next to Naruto and placed a hand on his shoulder. "These are just the advance forces. We can't allow them to settle in. I have to keep them on the defensive. Your village won't survive if they go on the attack." Ace's words were soft, as he recalled the slaughter his enemies brought. Naruto had heard Ace's stories and knew he wasn't exaggerating. If they came and Ace wasn't ready, many innocent people would die. "You said a lot of them were coming." Naruto looked up at Ace, worry in his eyes. "What happens if you can't beat them?" Ace gave a sad smile, thinking of his time with Naruto. "I will." Ace took a few steps toward the door. "I have more reason to fight now than ever. I have something to protect, so I can't fail." Naruto mirrored Ace's smile, then got up and walked to the door. As they opened it, they saw Minato standing there with 2 files. Minato clearly wasn't prepared to speak to Naruto yet and was visibly trying to compose himself. Naruto's smile immediately vanished as he looked at his father. Realizing why Minato was there, he held out his hand for the files. Minato handed them to his son. Naruto nodded and turned to Ace. "Be careful, and keep that temper in check." Ace smirked at the blonde, then pulled him into a hug. Minato watched in silence. "I will do my best," Ace replied, then spoke lower so only Naruto could hear him. "Show them." The smile returned to Naruto's face as he backed away from Ace. Ace walked out, and Naruto closed the door behind him. Minato deflated, obviously having hoped to speak with his son. "Well, since you have nothing to do, you can walk me to the gate. We have much to talk about." On the streets of the Hidden Leaf, Ace and Minato walked down the street toward the same exit Naruto and Ace had used upon their arrival. "So, you want to try and fix things, huh?" Ace was as blunt as ever. "Yes," Minato said, barely audible. "I know we don't deserve it, but it's at least worth a shot." Ace sighed as he walked beside his little brother's father. "The wound was reopened when we came back. You and your wife were foolish to think he'd be willing to listen so soon." Ace's words stung Minato, though he didn't show it. "He was in a bad mood the entire time we came back. All he could talk about were memories of you guys, none too good." Minato deflated slightly at Ace's words. He couldn't think straight as he walked with Ace. Eventually, he decided to say what he'd been wanting to for a while. "Thank you," Minato whispered. "It's the least I could do." Ace's words were soft. "He did more for me than he could ever imagine. I was in a dark place before I met him. He pulled me out." Minato looked at Ace in shock. He didn't understand what Ace meant but certainly didn't expect him to share something so personal. "I can tell you have good intentions, no matter how late they might be." Ace looked over at Minato. "I doubt he will ever forgive you, your wife, or the Sannin. Naruto can't just forget what you all did to him, nor should you expect him to." Minato saddened a bit at his words. The man next to him knew Naruto best. If he said Naruto might never forgive them, Minato had no reason to think otherwise. "But he doesn't hold the same animosity for your kids," Ace said, making Minato's eyes widen as his gaze shot toward Ace. "He never meant to hurt Narumi, and his feelings for Mito and Menma aren't exactly hostile, which is more than I can say for those two." Minato knew that while Narumi always missed Naruto, Mito and Menma had grown hostile toward their older brother. It made sense to him that Naruto wasn't overly angry with the triplets. "Menma is the worst from what I've heard. Naruto always told me he was a follower. He liked to be accepted and would do anything to be accepted." Ace looked forward. Even if that meant harassing or talking bad about his brother. Minato thought back to when his children were little. Menma would pick on Naruto, but Naruto always seemed to brush it off. I don't think Menma meant what he did back then, and Naruto knew that. He just wanted people to think he was cool. From what I can tell, he even idolized Naruto when they were younger. Ace recalled Menma's face when he saw Naruto. That feeling of betrayal from when Naruto left was probably what made him hate Naruto. Minato considered what Ace said and agreed. I find it interesting hearing the story from both sides. Minato remained quiet. I've heard Naruto's side of what happened between you all, maybe one day I'll hear yours. Minato nodded. I think about what he said a lot. From what I can tell in the short time I've spent with you and your family, you understand what you did wrong and feel guilty for it. Ace stopped at the village gate and looked back at Minato. That by no means entitles you to his forgiveness, but there is a silver lining. Minato looked desperate for Ace's next words. Your kids still have a chance with him. Minato's eyes widened again. But you saw him hit Menma. Yeah, let's just let a Nine-Tails Jinchuriki get a free shot in. Sounds like fun to me, Ace said sarcastically. What I'm saying is that Mito and Menma can still patch things up with Naruto. I think the ship has sailed for you, but frankly, you should be happy that your kids still have a chance. Ace turned to walk out of the village. Thank you for everything, Minato said, bowing slightly, tears forming in his eyes. If there's anything you ever need, just let me know. I'm gonna hold you to that, Ace said with a smile as he walked down the path. Minato wiped his eyes and thought about what Ace said. I won't let Menma and Mito waste this chance, Minato thought. It might be too late for us, but I'll be happy if the kids can all be together again. Minato turned back and walked to his office, a small smile on his face. 3 days later, Training Ground 7. Satsuki Uchiha sat with Hinata Hyuga under a tree, waiting for their teammate in Jonin-sensei. Satsuki wore traditional blue Uchiha garb with gray shorts, her sleeves cut off and her hair pulled back into a ponytail. Her forehead protector was on, and she wore a look of great frustration. Satsuki and Hinata had been waiting for 2 hours for their sensei, Kakashi Hatake. He had told them they would meet their third teammate today, but no one had shown up yet. Her patience was wearing thin when she heard someone approaching. Satsuki turned to see Naruto Namikaze Uzumaki walking up, looking half asleep. He wore black pants with black combat boots, a black muscle shirt under a black cloak, and 2 swords on his back, carrying a long, golden staff. His blonde, spiky hair defied gravity, standing straight up. His forehead protector was securely fastened around his head. Satsuki couldn't help but blush at the sight. She was angry at her new teammate, but that didn't change the fact that he looked incredibly good. She was about to yell at him when Hinata jumped up from her seat next to Satsuki. And Naruto-kun, what are you doing here? Hinata seemed excited and nervous as she addressed the blonde. This is where Team 7 was supposed to meet, right? Naruto's words brought a smile to Hinata's face as she realized Naruto was the last member of their team. Oh, this is Satsuki Uchiha, she's on our team too, Hinata said, motioning to Satsuki. The Uchiha walked up with an angry expression. Where have you been? You were supposed to be here 2 hours ago. Satsuki got in Naruto's face, her yelling not bothering the blonde. I'm gonna assume you don't know Kakashi, huh? Naruto said with a deadpan expression. Before Satsuki could yell at him again, a puff of smoke appeared behind them, replaced by their white-haired sensei. No, what about me, Naruto-kun? Kakashi said in a suspiciously sweet tone. Oh, just how you have a tendency to get lost on the path of life, Kakashi-san. Naruto turned to the Jonin with a smile. Kakashi couldn't help but smirk under his mask. He had searched for Naruto all those years, using hounds and his enhanced senses to comb every corner of the elemental nations. He was frequently pulled away for other missions but always returned to his search. He had always been against how Naruto's family treated him but was too busy to visit the boy. Minato trusted Kakashi more than any other shinobi in the Leaf, so he always handled important business on behalf of the Hokage. When Kakashi was informed of Naruto's return and his desire to be a shinobi, Kakashi personally requested him. Kakashi was determined to be there for Naruto this time, his other responsibilities be damned. Minato accepted Kakashi's request and partnered him with the Hyuga and Uchiha heirs, hoping to create a powerful team capable of taking on the Chunin exams in a few months. Hinata had mastered the gentle fist, easily performing up to 64 palms. She was her cousin's rival in every sense, but the girl was rather timid and disliked hurting people, which her father perceived as weakness. She was under constant scrutiny from her father and the clan elders, none of whom viewed Hinata positively. She had the respect of the branch family and many in the main family, but those making decisions were dissatisfied with her. Satsuki was a little different. She lived in her brother's shadow. Itaki was a once-in-a-generation prodigy. He was the only student since Kakashi to graduate early from the academy, became a Chunin at 10, and was currently an Umbu captain, one of the youngest in Leaf history. She had something to prove and a work ethic to match it. Kakashi was very pleased with his team. He would push them as hard as he could, they could take it. He would prepare them for the hard lives ahead and be there for them as his sensei had been for him. Kakashi glanced over his team, then spoke. My first impression of you all, Kakashi paused as he eyed the teens, is that you are boring. Satsuki gritted her teeth in anger. Hinata seemed more confused than anything. Naruto was picking his ear, only half paying attention. Kakashi decided that introductions could wait, he wanted to test them now. He pulled 2 bells from his pocket. Here's how this is gonna go. Meanwhile, in the land of demons, Ace watched a group of Legonians unload a ship onto an abandoned field. He noticed drilling equipment, weapons, and surveillance systems among the soldiers' cargo. So, this is where they want to set up a base. The ship that brought the Legonians was massive, resembling an Alliance cruiser from Mass Effect. He watched as hundreds of soldiers poured out, all gathering into squads. There were 2,000 in all, clad in black armor similar to human armor from Mass Effect. 2,000 in the advance party. How many are in the main force? Ace watched the sky for a moment, noticing the slightest of changes. There's a second ship floating around. I can't let any of them escape. Both ships. No survivors. Ace waited for his moment to strike, a slight grin appearing on his face. Training Ground 7. Naruto waited patiently. He understood the purpose of this test but wanted to gauge his sensei's strength. He allowed his teammates to attack individually, getting a feel for their power and making mental notes on areas for improvement. Naruto was somewhat impressed by his teammates. Satsuki possessed a fully matured Sharingan and a decent mastery over fire and lightning chakra natures. She just needed to improve her stamina to be a formidable opponent. As for Hinata, she primarily needed some ranged attacks. Up close, she could shut down a chakra system faster than one could react, but if you could stay out of her reach, you could pepper her with ninjutsu until an opening appeared. Both girls were very fast. Kakashi used his Sharingan to stay one step ahead, but Hinata also displayed a strength that surprised Naruto. With her perfect chakra manipulation, she could enhance her muscles like Tsunade did, then release large or small concentrations of chakra from her hands and feet. Kakashi was certainly not to be underestimated either. Naruto noticed he had the Mangekyo Sharingan. He hadn't used Black Flames or Susanoo yet, but he hadn't needed to. Kakashi could completely absorb an attack into a separate dimension with his eye, then send it back at the attacker. He used this to redirect some debris from his own attack that would have severely injured Satsuki. Having gained a sufficient understanding of his opponent's power, Naruto walked into the forest surrounding the training ground. He quickly made 2 shadow clones and sent them to retrieve his teammates. Naruto turned to the east, as if in anticipation. Suddenly, a dozen konoha whizzed from the brush, all aimed at Naruto. Naruto formed the snake hand sign, and an earthen wall surged from the ground, shielding him. The konoha embedded themselves in the wall, which then crumbled, revealing Naruto unharmed. So, you can use Earth style, huh, Naruto? Kakashi emerged from the direction the konoha came from, hands in his pockets. Naruto grinned. It would appear so, Naruto replied, feigning surprise. This drew a small chuckle from the copy ninja. Your teammates have already faced me, is it your turn now? Kakashi taunted. I know we're supposed to work as a team, but since they took a shot at you, I figured I might as well. Naruto spun his staff briefly in his right hand before settling into a fighting stance. Kakashi chuckled again. Are you sure you want to do that? Kakashi asked, shifting into his own fighting stance. If you can just get Satsuki and Hinata to listen, all 3 of you attacking together would give you a much better chance of succeeding. Where's the fun in that? Naruto and Kakashi eyed each other for a few moments, a silent dare passing between them. Kakashi lunged at Naruto, a konoha in each hand, closing the distance in an instant and slashing at the blonde. Naruto countered by leaning back into a bridge, trapping Kakashi between his shins, then whipped into a back handspring, slamming his sensei into the ground. Cracks appeared around Kakashi as he hit the earth. Both Naruto and Kakashi sprang to their feet, Naruto slightly faster. He leveraged this advantage, swinging his staff vertically at Kakashi. Kakashi blocked the swing for a moment but was forced to jump back when the force of Naruto's staff shattered his konoha. Kakashi briefly studied Naruto, questioning the source of his immense strength. Deciding to test something, Kakashi blurred through a series of hand signs. Naruto slammed his staff into the ground and made one of his own, the horse sign. Fire style, majestic destroyer flame. Naruto then unleashed a massive wall of fire, 100 feet long and 50 feet tall, from his mouth. Kakashi's eyes widened like dinner plates as he altered his strategy. Naruto's jutsu cleared a section of the forest, charring everything in its path. He peered through the smoke for his sensei, but saw no one. Taking a deep breath, he calmed his chakra, waiting to sense the slightest disturbance. Naruto's eyes snapped open. He looked 45 degrees to his right and launched his staff. The staff pierced the ground, and he heard the poof of a substitution jutsu. Naruto then leaped back, avoiding Kakashi as he erupted from the ground, aiming an uppercut. The blonde quickly drew one of his knives and hurled it at the still surfacing Kakashi. With no other option, Kakashi activated his Mangekyo Sharingan, redirecting the blade back to its owner after it passed through his Kamui. Naruto caught and sheathed the blade as he charged his sensei. He was about to deliver a bone-crushing knee to Kakashi's chest when the copy ninja vanished in a flash of white. Naruto immediately turned to see Kakashi leaning against a tree, a tri-pronged konoha in his hand. "So, he taught you the flying thunder god?" Naruto asked rhetorically. Kakashi offered no reply. Instead, he scattered dozens of tri-pronged konoha across the scorched earth and what remained of the forest. "Surrender, Naruto." Kakashi's voice was gravely serious. "Why? Things are just getting good." A massive smirk spread across Naruto's face. Ace was in midair, descending through the night sky toward the ship below him. If he hit it correctly, he could detonate the fuel caches and destroy the entire vessel. He knew the Legonians couldn't call for backup if the ship was gone, but he had to ensure the other ship was gone before he attacked. He waited for a few hours until the ship went on patrol before making his move. Ace landed directly on the engine at the ship's center, creating a vector beneath him at the last moment to smash the ship like an insect. A massive explosion shook the land, and all 2,000 soldiers snapped their attention to the ship. From the mixture of fire and smoke, Ace emerged, his golden cloak billowing in the breeze, a small smirk on his face. The commanding officer reacted first. "Battle formations," he yelled, panic clearly overwhelming him. As one, the Legonians dropped what they were doing and prepared for a fight. Ace continued walking slowly toward the soldiers, his hands hanging by his sides. The soldiers stared in horror as their target approached. All were sweating, some even pissing themselves. They had all heard stories of the Legion, who had evaded the military for years. He was known for his ruthlessness and godlike power. That man now stood before them, keen on ending their lives. "I apologize in advance, my friends," Ace said in a sinister tone. "It's been a while since I had a good fight." As Ace finished speaking, a teleporter appeared behind him, sword drawn, aiming for the base of Ace's neck. Ace performed a quick backflip, allowing the man to pass harmlessly beneath him. Ace then shot down, slamming his right hand through the base of his attacker's skull. For a moment, everyone watched him shake the blood of their fallen comrade from his hand in one swift movement. All hell broke loose. Immediately, 24 teleporters swarmed Ace, all attacking from different angles. Ace raised his hands, fully extended to each side. He then released a wave of telekinetic power, sending all the teleporters flying. The force of the wave was strong enough to shatter bones, as his assailants discovered. Ace then dashed straight at the horde of oncoming soldiers. He slid under the axe of a massive regenerator and landed an uppercut on the telekinetic who was prepping an attack. He shattered the woman's jaw, then, while she was launching into the air, he kicked her to the right, killing her instantly and sending her corpse tumbling through a dozen soldiers. Ace then spun to parry two swords poised for his back. As the two soldiers flew past him on either side, he grabbed their heads and slammed them together, leaving nothing more than a mess of blood and gray matter. Ace then spun to his left, landing a kick to the neck of a regenerator, snapping his neck and killing him. Ace was then swarmed by a dozen soldiers, all swinging swords, axes, or hammers wildly. Ace ducked, slid, and jumped over an absolute flurry of attacks. He then sent a pulse of aura through his feet. He launched himself into the air with a vector, then slammed his hands together. The ground responded by snapping up like a bear trap. 200-foot by 100-foot walls smashed together, killing hundreds not fast enough to escape the trap. Ace looked at the remaining 1,400 soldiers, all looking up at him. He swiped his right hand, summoning his staff, then fired a massive stream of fire into the sky. "Prometheus's judgment," Ace muttered as the sky turned orange. Suddenly, hundreds of fireballs the size of boulders fell on the remaining forces. Hundreds were crushed by the falling fireballs, others were burned alive as the fire spread. The kinetics tried to raise a barrier of rock, but Ace was already one step ahead of them. As they finished constructing their massive dome, Ace teleported inside, his burning gold eyes the only source of light in the room. The sound of the fireballs slamming into the dome did little to drown out the rallying cry the remaining soldiers let out as Ace drew his swords. Ace teleported to his first target, slicing him in half horizontally, then the woman to his right diagonally. His eyes shifted to his Oculus form as he teleported again. This time, he appeared in front of 5 terrified men. He slashed with his right sword, cutting either their throats or jaws faster than they could react, then flipped over a rock with being used by a telekinetic. The sound of teleporting and screams of agony were the only thing that could be heard as Ace systematically slaughtered everyone. Only a handful could sense him, but their callouts were drowned out by the wails of the dying. As their numbers dwindled, the remaining soldiers could hear the blood of their comrades splash as they stepped. The commander, a regenerator named Josh Maxson, suddenly felt a hand grab his face. He was then propelled through the air until he slammed through the wall of the dome, breaking every bone in his torso. Maxson flailed helplessly as his body tried desperately to piece itself back together. He soon heard footsteps coming from the hole in the dome. Ace walked calmly toward Maxson, his gold cloak almost entirely red with the blood of Maxson's subordinates. "I always pity the advanced teams," Ace said as he wiped some blood from his face. "Those that send you know if I find you, you're dead, but yet they send you anyway." Ace turned to look at the hole in the side of the large dome. Blood was now dripping from it, a subtle reminder of the slaughter that had just taken place. 2,000 had to die because they wanted to possibly get the drop on me. Ace reached the down commander, then squatted down to face him. How little do the generals value the lives of you and your men? Ace mocked Maxon, whose face contorted into rage. He tried to reach up and grab Ace, but faster than he could comprehend, Ace drew a knife and cut off Maxon's hand. Maxon roared in pain, but Ace was unfazed. You see, Maxon, Ace began, I'm just fed up with you and your commanding officers thinking they can just come after me and destroy anything that gets in their way. Ace slammed the knife into Maxon's stomach, severing his spine and stopping the commander's regenerative power. Maxon's eyes started to fade, his life slipping away. The only problem is that those old shits just won't catch the hint. Ace snapped his head around and launched a black chain from his left palm. The chain flew for a while before splitting into 7. The chain suddenly wrapped around something invisible. The second ship Ace had noticed earlier was caught in Ace's chains. Ace began gathering aura in his right palm. The energy spun rapidly, forming the shape of a diamond. So, until they do, Ace looked over his shoulder at the dying commander. I'm just going to kill every last person they send at me. Ace closed his palm, absorbing all the collected aura in the center of his palm, then calmly raised his palm, pointing it at the ship struggling to break free from his chains. Ace then released the built-up power in a golden cone of energy unlike anything Maxon had ever seen. The cone hit the captured ship, completely erasing a 50-foot section of the ship's center. Everything the aura came into contact with was vaporized. The beam must have gone on for miles. Maxon couldn't help but awe at the sight. The remnants of the ship fell to the earth as Ace dismissed the chains and began walking past the commander. You know, the stories don't do you justice, Maxon said, spitting up large quantities of blood. You're much more powerful than I even dreamed you were. Ace feigned flattery, covering his face. Ah, that's so sweet of you to say, Ace's tone innocent. Goodbye, Maxon. Ace teleported away as Maxon watched the engines and fuel cells from the ship plummet to the ground. As they hit, an explosion of epic proportions erased any traces of a battle. Instead, a crater over 1,200 feet deep and a mile in diameter scarred the land. Ace stood on a mountain in the distance, observing the destruction. Your move, live. Kakashi stared down his sensei's son. He looked past the blonde to assess the damage done by Naruto's previous attack. What the hell was that attack? It was hard to believe a genin had that much firepower. Kakashi expected a lot from Naruto, but if the blonde was willing to show this already, what else did he have up his sleeve? Kakashi returned his gaze to Naruto, a smirk gracing the blonde's features. The white-haired shinobi was blown away by Naruto's skill so far. He moved like a seasoned veteran, but wasn't overcommitting like genin normally did. He didn't want to go all out against Naruto, but considering Naruto had forced him to use not just his Kamui but also the Flying Thunder God, Kakashi felt he shouldn't continue to underestimate the blonde. That was the smartest decision of the day. Don't act scared now, Kakashi. Naruto's smirk grew sinister as he dismissed his staff. It's been a while since I had a good fight. Naruto dashed at his sensei, his speed on full display. Kakashi barely had enough time to block the flying knee aimed for his chin. The copy ninja tried to counter with a right hook, but Naruto saw it coming from a mile away. He swiped the punch up, then landed 3 quick punches to Kakashi's ribs, cracking some bones. Naruto then went for a roundhouse kick, but Kakashi used the Flying Thunder God to escape. Naruto turned to face his father's last student, his grin still present. I warned you, Naruto. Kakashi then teleported, appearing at a kunai 10 feet behind Naruto. Rather than attacking, Kakashi threw 11 tri-pronged kunai around the blonde, giving him multiple angles to attack from. When Naruto turned to face his sensei, Kakashi teleported again, this time launching a volley of ninja stars at Naruto. The blonde ducked under the attack, only to see a shadow settle above him. Kakashi quickly performed some hand signs. Fire style, fireball jutsu, he yelled as a massive fireball descended upon the blonde. Naruto made 3 hand signs, wind style, tornado. Naruto released a massive burst of air from his lungs. The air formed a small tornado, which completely absorbed the fireball. Kakashi teleported away from the now flaming tornado as he looked at Naruto. Earth style, fire style, and wind style? How the hell does he have 3 chakra natures? Kakashi watched as the fire tornado dispersed, revealing Naruto with slightly burned clothes. Not bad, Kakashi-sensei, Naruto said as he walked through the smoke. But if I'm supposed to come after you with the intent to kill, then the least you could do is return the favor. Kakashi looked at his student, searching for any hint of a bluff. He found none. Naruto seemed barely affected by the last attack, even though he stood in the middle of the tornado. He had fired 2 powerful ninjutsu and didn't seem near his limit at all. You're not giving me much of a choice on the matter, Naruto. Kakashi had a sheepish grin behind his mask. Naruto began to gather a large quantity of lightning chakra in his right hand. Kakashi got ready to teleport out of the way, but Naruto aimed skyward, firing off a massive amount of chakra into the sky. The sky started to turn dark blue, lightning branching out over newly formed clouds. Now, I think it's about time I get serious, sensei. Naruto dashed at his teacher again. Satsuki's perspective. Damn, my ribs. Satsuki grunted, covering her broken ribs with her hand. She leaned against a tree, her body covered in bruises, cuts, and scrapes. Sensei hits incredibly hard. Satsuki gave Kakashi her best effort, even managing to touch one of the bells, but it seemed the copy ninja was merely toying with her. The thought agitated her, he treated her not as a threat, but a nuisance. In the distance, Satsuki heard an explosion. She turned to see a massive wall of fire clear a portion of the forest. What the hell was that? Satsuki wondered as she got to her feet. Just as she was about to head toward the attack, Naruto dropped down in front of her. Naruto, she questioned, wary of her sensei's tricks. But if you're here, who's fighting Kakashi? Satsuki had observed Hinata's fight with Kakashi, hoping to gauge the copy ninja's power. I'm just a clone, Naruto said, walking up to her. The real me is fighting Kakashi now, but he sent me to get you and Hinata. He has a plan. The clone approached Satsuki, attempting to pick her up, but was swiftly slapped away. I can carry myself, just lead the way, Satsuki ordered, an annoyed look on her face. The clone sighed deeply, then watched a stream of electricity shoot into the sky. A slight smirk appeared on his face. Perspective change, Hinata. I need to find Satsuki and Naruto. This exercise must be about us working together. There's no way we can beat him alone. Hinata, mostly healed thanks to her medical ninjutsu classes, headed towards the sound of clashing metal. She activated her Byakugan just in time to see Naruto unleash a blinding attack on their sensei. Hinata had to look away, the chakra density almost blinding her. She heard a noise behind her. Out of the brush emerged a shadow clone of Naruto. Naruto-kun, what was that attack? Hinata asked, more than a little curious about his ninjutsu. The real me is fighting Kakashi right now, the clone began. He sent me to get you and Satsuki. He has a plan. Hinata nodded firmly and followed the clone through the forest. Naruto-kun, was that your attack? Hinata asked, thinking of the destructive force that had just shaken the entire training ground. Yeah, it was mine. The clone was cut off by a streak of blue lightning shooting into the sky. We have to move, I'll explain later. Hinata gave a skeptical nod, quickening her pace to match the clone. Perspective change, Naruto. I just need to land one palm on him. Naruto focused on tracking Kakashi's teleporting, knowing that if he could place a seal on the copy ninja, he could end the fight. What's wrong, Naruto? Kakashi taunted, seemingly from all around him. I thought you wanted me to go all out. Naruto let out a slight growl of annoyance. While Kakashi was nowhere near as fast as Ace, Naruto didn't want to show his full hand this early. Naruto went through a few hand signs, finishing with his hands clapped together. Futon, Gale Force. Naruto unleashed a pulse of air from his palms, blowing back rocks and ripping off smaller branches from nearby trees. The gust was just enough to disturb Kakashi's concentration, giving Naruto an opening. Naruto snapped his attention to the dazed Jonin and ran at full speed, tackling Kakashi through a tree trunk and slamming a hand onto the copy ninja's chest. Kakashi spit up a little blood as he tossed Naruto off him. Naruto landed about 10 feet away, a massive grin on his face. Kakashi tried to teleport but felt as if he were tied down. He looked to see a sealing formula wrapped around his chest. With that seal, you can't channel chakra through any seal or weapon. This is where things really get fun. Naruto flashed some hand signs and slammed a palm into the ground. Doton, rock spikes. Ostaren Carter, sooner or later. The earth responded by shifting into 3-foot-long, few-inch-thick spikes. Dozens fired at Kakashi, who dodged most of them, taking only minor scrapes on his legs and arms. In a flash, Naruto appeared in front of Kakashi, his speed far surpassing the Jonin's. The blonde slammed a punch directly into Kakashi. The copy ninja barely blocked the punch but was sent flying into the center of the clearing made by Naruto's majestic destroyer flame. Kakashi landed on his feet, feeling cracks in his arms as he prepared for the blonde's assault. Naruto took off, sliding underneath Kakashi's guard, and kicked him in the side of the knee from behind. Kakashi crumbled to one knee as Naruto spun around the downed Jonin, landing a kick directly to Kakashi's head, sending him flying to the opposite edge of the clearing. Naruto beat Kakashi to the edge and wound up an axe kick, bringing it down right on Kakashi's chest. The ground around Kakashi shattered like glass as the copy ninja lay at the bottom of a 3-foot-deep crater. Kakashi spat up a large amount of blood, his mask turning red. Before he could react, he felt a hand wrap around his ankle. He looked up to see Naruto preparing another attack. The blonde used his hold on Kakashi to whip his sensei around and slam him into the ground. This crater was much shallower than the last, but Naruto wasn't done. Naruto made a snake sign and slammed his foot into the ground. A pillar of rock shot out of the ground, hitting Kakashi squarely in the chin. The copy ninja flew into the air, his back to Naruto. In one fluid motion, Naruto wrapped his arms around Kakashi, then slammed him down in a vicious suplex, shattering the solid rock below them and fracturing many of the copy ninja's bones. Keen on ending the bout, Naruto backward rolled over the downed Jonin, pulled out his knives from their sheath on his back, and slammed them down, hoping to pin Kakashi to the ground by his shoulders. In a desperate scramble, Kakashi blocked the attack, feeling the cracks in his bones worsen. "So, you still have some fight left in you?" Naruto taunted. "More than you might think," Kakashi grunted out as he whipped his feet up, locking them under Naruto's jaw. With all his remaining strength, Kakashi whipped the blonde around, funneling all his remaining chakra into his muscles, and slammed Naruto into the ground headfirst. The stone shattered again as Naruto's head was buried in the ground, his body sticking out like a spike. Kakashi let out a deep sigh as he tried to pick himself up, feeling injuries all over his body. With barely enough strength to stand, he got up and turned to look at Naruto. "Ost end. That was insane. Had I not gotten the drop on him, he could have killed me." Kakashi turned to head off when he heard rocks being moved. To his horror, Kakashi watched as Naruto pulled himself out of the ground. Naruto stood up and rolled his neck, hearing a dozen or so cracks as he groaned. "I've gotta admit, Sensei," Naruto said cheekily as he turned to face the stunned copy ninja. "I did not expect you to attack. You really got me with that last one." Kakashi watched the blonde in horror. Blood ran from the blonde's head as he spat out a mixture of rock, teeth, and blood. "It's been a while since I took a shot like that," Naruto said as he disappeared. Before Kakashi could react, he felt Naruto palm his face, take a few steps, and slam him into the middle of the clearing, forming a 5-foot-deep crater. Naruto then closed his open hand, and the earth responded by strapping Kakashi's waist, legs, arms, and neck to the bottom of the crater. "Well, I don't really need to use this, I might as well show it to you since you've been a good sport," Naruto said, the lightning in the sky crackling louder and flashing more frequently than it had the entire fight. Naruto then jumped back to the edge of the clearing, landing on a tree. Kakashi tried to break free from the earth binding him, but he had no energy left. Naruto's hand erupted in blue-white lightning as he looked down at the helpless copy ninja. He slowly raised his arm into the sky as Kakashi heard a blood-curdling roar come from the heavens. He watched in horror as a massive dragon made of lightning descended from the clouds. "Now," Naruto said with calculative eyes, "what will you do, Kakashi-sensei?" The dragon climbed back up into the clouds for a moment, then Naruto lowered his hand, pointing it directly at Kakashi. Kirin, perspective change, Satsuki and Hinata. Satsuki and Hinata arrived at the battlefield around the same time, but before they could interfere, the clone stopped them. "Why can't we go in?" Hinata said forcefully. "You already said this was supposed to be a team exercise." One of the clones looked at Hinata, a smile dawning. "And part of being a team is trusting your teammate." The other clone gave her a smile as well, before flashing a thumbs up. "Besides, I don't think you want to get in between the boss and sensei right now." The clone shifted his gaze to the battlefield, watching Kakashi teleport around unpredictably. "Fine, but if things take a turn for the worse, you aren't stopping us," Hinata said threateningly. The clones let out a nervous laugh and inched away from the Hyaga. "Kakashi is using the flying Raijin, are you sure the real you can handle that?" Satsuki asked, her gaze never leaving the battle. "Just watch," one clone said. All their attention shifted to the battle. As if on cue, Naruto let out a burst of air from his hands, disorienting all of them as well as Kakashi. They watched as Naruto tackled Kakashi and placed a seal to interrupt Kakashi's teleporting, their thoughts almost identical. How is he that advanced in Fuinjutsu? While they knew Kushina and Minato were two of the best seal masters ever, for Naruto to develop a seal that could disrupt the Yellow Flash's most dangerous jutsu was amazing. They continued to watch the fight, completely in awe of their teammate. As Naruto displayed his speed, Hinata and Satsuki couldn't help but go slack-jawed. Naruto was so fast, their dojutsu could barely keep up. They watched in a mixture of awe and horror as Naruto landed blow after devastating blow on the copy ninja. Each punch, kick, or slam roared like thunder. The strength Naruto was displaying was incredible. That strength, Hinata thought as she watched Naruto whip Kakashi into the ground. He has to be as strong as Tsunade-sama. Satsuki thought as she watched Naruto suplex their sensei. Add that to his proficiency in ninjutsu. "Naruto, just how strong are you?" The two young women wondered as Naruto drew his knives. They watched in horror as Kakashi locked his heels under Naruto's chin and slammed him into the ground. The attack was nearly as strong as Naruto's, making a blood-chilling crunch as Naruto's head was submerged in stone. They were about to jump in to help their teammate when they heard his clones laughing at their original getting slammed headfirst. "Oh man, that reminds me of how Ace used to fight us," one clone said before returning to laughing uncontrollably. The other clone was laughing just as hard. He took a breath of precious air as he tried to speak. "Yeah, you remember the first time Ace slammed the original like that?" He erupted into laughter again, as did the other clone. "Yeah," the look on his face was priceless. The clone yelled through his laughter. Hinata and Satsuki were about to get angry at the clones when they realized that if their teammate were in any serious danger, the clones would have dispelled. They slowly turned back to the battlefield, just in time to see Naruto pull himself out of the ground. Their looks were similar to their sensei's as they watched Naruto spit out some blood, stone, and teeth. They couldn't make out what Naruto was saying but were caught completely off guard when Naruto face-palmed Kakashi and slammed him into the center of the clearing. The wind from the slam blew past them wildly as they watched Naruto jump back. Whatever he was trying to say was drowned out by the rumbling of thunder. As Naruto's hand sparked alive with lightning, their eyes widened and shot to the sky. They watched in horror as a massive dragon made entirely of lightning descended from the heavens. The dragon let out a deafening roar as it sat above the battlefield. Their eyes were glued to it until it retreated into the clouds. Their gaze then turned to Naruto, who had his arm raised in the sky. There was a brief moment of silence as they saw Naruto lower his hand. "Kirin," he muttered, then faster than they could react, the dragon barreled towards Kakashi, making an explosion that could be seen from the great stone faces on the other side of the village. They were blasted back by the shockwave but were caught by the two clones, who then jumped away to safety. The explosion shook the entirety of Konoha, the sheer quantity of chakra getting the attention of every shinobi in the village. The entire training ground was rendered into a field of debris and stone. Fires and branches were strewn all over the field. Hinata and Satsuki made their way back to the ground, still in the arms of the clones, too lost in the moment to protest how they were being carried. Instead, their eyes were fixed on their teammate, who was looking down at the epicenter of the explosion. The crater was over 50 feet deep and 500 feet across. The clones landed on a relatively clear area and set Hinata and Satsuki down. "Go to Naruto now, it should be safe," one of the clones said before dispelling. They nodded dumbly to the other before it dispelled. They took a moment, looking at each other, both in complete disbelief of what just happened. They couldn't speak but decided to listen to the clone's last instructions and head to Naruto. Perspective change, Naruto. Naruto stood at the edge of the crater his jutsu made. He looked down into the crater to see his sensei's steaming body at the bottom. He waited for a moment, sensing more than just his teammates heading to his location. His teammates showed up first. "Naruto-kun," Hinata said as she landed next to him, "are you okay?" Naruto smiled slightly as he turned to face them. "Yes, thanks for asking." The blood on the side of his head and mouth made them a little skeptical. "And Naruto," Satsuki stuttered as she looked down into the crater. Their sensei was still at the bottom of it. What was that attack? "Ah, yeah, sorry about that. You two were a little closer than I would have liked. Sorry if I hurt you at all when I used it." Naruto gave a nervous laugh as he scratched the back of his bloody head. All of Naruto's wounds had already closed, his teeth grew back a few seconds before he used Kirin. "That was one of my strongest jutsu, it's called Kirin. I collect all the static energy in the air, compress it, and aim it. It fires itself for the most part." They looked at him in awe, but his smile quickly shifted to a hard look as his attention shifted to something behind them. "Naruto, are you okay?" Minato, Kushina, Jiraiya, and Tsunade had shown up with an Umbu squad. Their attention was split between the mass destruction and the Hokage's eldest. "What happened here?" "Kakashi-sensei is giving us our first test today, remember?" Naruto's words were sarcastic as he looked at all those present. "You are interrupting it. Hinata-chan, Satsuki-san, and I were about to finish it, so if you would excuse us." Naruto turned to jump in the crater but was stopped when his mother cried out to him, her worry taking center stage. Did you do this?" Kushina's words were quiet, almost as if she were scared to hear the answer. Naruto snapped his fingers and let out a tongue click. "You might be onto something there," he said sarcastically before jumping down into the crater, Hinata and Satsuki following, still dumbstruck. Kushina, Minato, Tsunade, and Jiraiya looked around in a mixture of horror, awe, and self-loathing. How did he do this?" Tsunade said as she looked around at the training field she had once used as a genin. Instead of green grass and abundant trees, she saw a wasteland. That attack. Jiraiya started before he remembered the massive explosion he felt from the Hokage's office. Rain started to fall, soaking all of them. Naruto. Kushina's tears were hidden by the rain now as she thought about her son. Minato stood, mouth agape and knees shaking at his son's response. His mind was racing. "How? Who taught you this? Is this even your full power, Naruto?" The last thought terrified Minato. He could tell from looking at Naruto, aside from the blood on his head and mouth, his son seemed completely fine. Minato looked back to his son, who was now at the bottom of the massive crater, looking down at his former student. He couldn't imagine his son having this type of destructive capability. The triplets could barely achieve this, but they had trained under the best Konoha had to offer their entire lives. The thought of Naruto becoming this powerful on his own terrified Minato. He looked out over the destroyed training ground as he waited for the test to end. Naruto, Hinata, and Satsuki now stood over their down sensei, the two girls trying to act composed even though they were still conflicted about Naruto's recent showing. Naruto pulled out a sword and held it to his sensei's throat, getting a skeptical look from his teammates. "Grab the bells," Naruto said calmly. Not seeing a reason to disobey, Satsuki and Hinata reached down and each grabbed one of the now nearly destroyed bells. The shiny silver bells were long gone. Instead, they found melted, dirty pieces of metal, barely held together by a few strands of red ribbon. I guess we pass, Naruto said with a grin as he watched Kakashi stir slightly. Will you two get Tsunade for him, please? Naruto's words were soft. Hinata and Satsuki nodded and jumped off, each still carrying the bell they had picked up. That was amazing, Naruto, Kakashi said weakly. I never stood a chance against you, did I? Kakashi coughed a bit, spitting up a good portion of blood. Naruto leaned down, his hand glowing gold, then began to treat Kakashi. Baka, Naruto started with a smile. You took me too lightly to start off. If you hadn't underestimated me in the beginning, things might have ended differently. I doubt it, Kakashi let out softly, his pain immediately alleviated by Naruto's healing. He already felt immeasurably better than he did moments ago. Kakashi also knew that Naruto greatly loosened his hold on the final jutsu as it approached the copy ninja. If Kakashi had to guess, he took about a quarter of the attack's full potential. Naruto knew that anything more than that would seriously injure or even kill the copy ninja. Instead, Naruto hit him with the perfect amount to incapacitate him and end the exercise. Tell me, Naruto, Kakashi said, his voice slightly stronger now. That wasn't anywhere near your full potential, was it? Naruto responded with a smile, raising one finger over his mouth to do the SHHH motion. Kakashi let out a chuckle, which eventually turned into a cough. I'm sorry. I wasn't there for Kakashi started but was cut off by Naruto. It wasn't your fault. I know you were the one looking for me. I saw you a couple of times and could tell you were genuinely worried about me. When I read the file and found out that you specifically requested that I be placed in your team, I couldn't help but laugh. I knew you always cared about me, Kakashi-sensei. I know you were busier than even my father before I left. There is nothing to be sorry for, Naruto's words were soft, as he had a small smile. Those words did more for Kakashi than any medical ninjutsu could. Kakashi felt a weight lift off him that had been there for over a decade. He couldn't help but let out a few tears as he looked at his sensei's eldest. Thank you, Naruto, Kakashi mumbled as his vision faded, unconsciousness finally claiming him. Tsunade and a few umbu landed behind Naruto. She saw his hands and couldn't help but gasp. Naruto halted his healing and turned to his godmother. I fixed anything serious, Naruto said coldly, dusting off his pants. You should be able to take care of the rest. Naruto, Tsunade called out. Of course, you are, Naruto said with an icy tone, not that it changes anything. The blonde left the Sunin, who stood there with tears in her eyes, as he leaped from the crater. Naruto landed in front of his parents, Jiraiya, and his teammates, startling most of them. He walked past his parents, completely ignoring them, and went straight to Hinata and Satsuki. I'm sorry about that, Naruto said in a friendly tone. I know we didn't get to do team introductions because of me. So, how about we go to Ichiraku Ramen and all get to know each other a bit more? My treat. The two genin simply nodded in response. Naruto began walking off the training ground as if nothing unusual had occurred. Satsuki and Hinata followed him after bowing to the Hokage and his wife. Minato hadn't moved since his son jumped into the crater. He was completely lost in thought. I need to talk to Kakashi as soon as he's better. The next day, Hokage's office. Minato sat behind his desk as usual. Jiraiya stood to his right, and Tsunade to his left. Before him were the Jonin selected to lead Genin cells from this graduation class, including many of Konoha's strongest Jonin. Asuma Sarutobi, son of the third Hokage and captain of the newest generation of Inoshikacho, was a former member of the Guardian Shinobi 12 who had returned to Konoha after his service under the daimyo. Next to him was Korone Ui, Konoha's Genjutsu mistress, captain of Team 8, consisting of Kiba Inyazuka, Sakura Harano, and Shino Abarame. The last Jonin in line was his wife, Kushina, in charge of Team 11, which consisted of the triplets. All wore their traditional shinobi attire. His wife was at the end of her report on her Genin cell, which was nothing he hadn't expected. The triplets had been fighting both with and against each other since they began their training, instinctively understanding each other's power and watching each other's backs. So, I would say give them about a week of D-rank missions, then they should be ready for C-rank missions, Kushina finished with a smile before stepping back into line with the others. Great, then Teams 7 to 11 passed, Minato noted quickly. I still need to get the report on Team 7's test, but until then, I'll start assigning D-rank missions to Dash. Minato was cut off as the door slowly opened, revealing a mostly healed Kakashi. He lacked his usual flak jacket and his hair wasn't held up by his headband, but otherwise, he was dressed normally. Sorry I'm late, Kakashi said with an eye smile. The hospital wasn't letting me out of bed, so I had to sneak out. They weren't letting you out because you still need rest, Tsunade said, slightly annoyed that the copy ninja left without her release. No need to worry, Kakashi said defensively. I'll go right back after I give my report. Minato sat up at that, and the rest in the room also had their interest piqued. Yes, Korone began, I'd love to hear how a Genin put you in the hospital. The Jonin, excluding Kakashi and Kushina, all laughed, while Kakashi seemed more annoyed than anything. I don't know why you're laughing. Kakashi's words silenced everyone. It took him 10 minutes to defeat me, it wouldn't take half the time for him to beat the rest of you. Kakashi's words elicited a range of responses. Some brushed off his comments, while others took them to heart. Most were insulted by the mere idea of a genin being able to defeat them, their anger barely kept in check by their respect for the situation. Well, Minato said, looking at his former student, since you're here, go ahead with your report on Team 7. Kakashi gave a slight nod, then stepped in front of the other jonin. He looked directly at Minato with his one open eye. To start, Hinata Hyuga and Satsuki Uchiha are excellent. Their bloodlines run strong in their veins. Satsuki can unleash destructive ninjutsu as if it's second nature, and if you get anywhere near Hinata, your chakra network is as good as shut down. Kakashi stretched a bit, still feeling one of the shots he took from Hinata. They are likely going to be among the best in their clans when they grow up. Korone smiled happily as she thought about Hinata. She had personally trained the girl for a few years, helping her come out of her shell and become a confident young woman. What about Naruto? Minato's words were brief, but filled with curiosity and desperation. Kakashi began, then paused to think about their fight. Well, for starters, he figured out the meaning of the bell test almost instantly. He let Hinata and Satsuki attack first so they would be more willing to work together after realizing they couldn't fight me alone. Kakashi looked around the room, noting how closely Kushina was listening. When we started to fight, he used a gold and black staff, about 2 meters long. Kakashi then shifted his attention to Minato. He used it perfectly, with no obvious flaws in his technique. He even shattered 2 chakra-enhanced konoha I was using. This drew murmurs from those present, but they quieted when Kakashi continued speaking, then separated from him, deciding to attack from a distance. Kakashi let out a low chuckle. That's when things went downhill. Before anyone could react, Kakashi continued his report. I started going through the hand signs for Fireball Jutsu, but Naruto made one hand sign and used Majestic Destroyer Flame. At that, many of the jonin grumbled, Asuma being the only one to speak out. You mean to tell me that a genin used a katan jutsu that Madara Uchiha created? Asuma was clearly skeptical. He used it perfectly, Asuma, Kakashi said, deadly serious. It was unlike any katan jutsu I have ever seen. I had to use the Flying Thunder God to escape. This captured everyone's attention. Most of those present knew that Kakashi had started training with Minato in an attempt to learn the Flying Thunder God, but it was never public knowledge whether he succeeded or not. Minato had known about his former student completing his training, but he was curious how Kakashi had been defeated after using the Flying Thunder God. He wasn't the only one with that question either. How was he able to counter the Flying Thunder God? This question came from Jiraiya. He used a seal that didn't allow me to exert my chakra onto any seals or weapons. Kushina and Minato's eyes widened at that, while most others gasped. What could something like that do if it ended up in the hands of our enemies? Korone asked, considering how disastrous that could be. To think he's that far along in Fuinjutsu. Minato started, lost in thought. Jiraiya was in an equally stunned state. He, Minato, and Kushina had just recently come up with a counter to the Flying Thunder God, and that took them years to accomplish. For Naruto to be able to do that on his own was unimaginable. But didn't he still have to place the seal on you? There's no way he could keep up with you when you're using the Flying Thunder God. Tsunade seemed desperate for an explanation now. When I tried teleporting around to different markers to disorient him, he responded with a wind release jutsu that disrupted my timing for a second. That was all he needed to close in on me and place the seal. Kakashi held his chest, still remembering the tackle and palm strike he took when Naruto placed the seal. Wait, so he could use wind release and fire release? Kushina asked from behind Kakashi. Earth release and lightning release as well. He used earth release for both attack and defense, but only used one lightning release jutsu. Many in the room were now openly questioning Kakashi, blurting out questions, clearly not believing the copy ninja. Silence. Minato shut them all up with one word and a bit of chakra. What happened after he placed the seal on you? To put it bluntly, he kicked my ass, the copy ninja said nervously. He moved too fast for me to react and just threw me around the clearing he made with his fire release jutsu. His punches were as hard as guys when he's opened the 6th gate, maybe even harder. Everyone was too stunned to speak now. He landed a combo on me that fractured most of the bones in my arms and legs. Add to that the kicks and punches I took to my jaw and chest. I'm lucky to still be in one piece. Kakashi thought about the one attack he landed on Naruto. The only hit I got on him was when he thought I was defeated. He had landed a takedown on me, cracking most of my ribs in the process. He rolled over me and drew his knives to pin me to the ground, but I countered by catching his head between my feet and slamming him headfirst into the ground. Kakashi looked lost in thought as he continued. His head was completely underground, and he sat there limp for a few seconds. Kakashi looked back up at Minato. When I tried to get up to leave, he pulled himself out and spit out a few teeth. Kushina looked horrified, but when she thought about it, Naruto looked fine when he left with his teammates. There didn't seem to be anything wrong with him when we arrived, Minato pointed out. I think he has a regenerative factor similar to Tsunade-sama's mitotic regeneration, Kakashi said, shocking everyone in the room again, but none as much as Tsunade. The only thing is that it seemed natural. He didn't have to release chakra or break a seal to heal. By the time he pulled himself out of the ground, he was talking normally. This baffled everyone in the room, as they found it hard to believe the copy ninja. I am more than willing to get Inoichi in here and let him confirm everything I am telling you, Kakashi said more to the room than to Minato. That won't be necessary, I trust you. Minato looked over at the other jonin. As the rest of us should. The jonin all looked away, most ashamed of their actions. Continue please, Minato said, returning his attention to Kakashi. The copy ninja responded with a firm nod. While I was in awe of the fact that he was still conscious, Naruto seized the opportunity and pinned me to the center of the clearing using earth release. Kakashi then looked around for a moment. Before the jonin could swamp Kakashi with questions, Minato sat forward. What was the lightning release attack he used? Minato asked, all eyes shifting to Kakashi immediately after. He called it Kirin. Kakashi felt an ache in his body as he remembered Naruto's last attack. That was the attack that completely destroyed the training ground. He called down a dragon made of lightning to strike me while I couldn't move. Minato couldn't imagine taking a shot that could destroy an entire training ground, but before he could ask how Kakashi survived, his student answered it. He let up at the end, hitting me with only 25% of the jutsu's full potential, otherwise, I would be dead right now. Kakashi's eyes seemed blank as he thought back to Naruto's last attack. He is far beyond any genin I've ever even heard of, both mentally and physically. Minato and Kushina were a combination of proud and saddened. They were proud that Naruto had come so far but sad that he had done it without them. My recommendation for Team 7 is that you put us on active duty as soon as I am released from the hospital. Kakashi stood straight up as he completed his recommendation. It would be a waste to have the three of them sit in the village doing D-rank missions. They could help alleviate the recent influx of jobs we have been receiving from the Land of Wind. Minato was shocked at the suggestion. There had never been a genin team that didn't do at least a few weeks of D-rank missions before heading out on their first real mission. All of the jonin stared at him in shock. If a genin team messed up on a mission, lives would very likely be lost. For a captain to proceed without the D-rank training period was beyond gutsy. Are you sure about this, Kakashi? Minato seemed hesitant, but he trusted Kakashi just as much as he did Kushina or Jiraiya. I've never been more sure of anything in my life, Kakashi said dead seriously. Naruto has the potential to be the strongest in his generation. He is a prodigy we can't afford to hold back anymore. I trust him to watch my back, and his teammates trust him. They can work out the kinks as they go, but there's no reason to baby him, you never have before. Kakashi's subtle jab didn't go unnoticed by Minato, Jiraiya, Kushina, or Tsunade. Minato took a moment to think before letting out a sigh. Fine, we'll do this your way, Kakashi. Minato stood up and looked at the jonin. I will begin preparing D-rank missions for all of your teams, with the exception of Team 7. When the rest of you think your teams are ready, come talk to me about taking C-rank missions. Yes, Hokage-sama, they responded. Dismissed. All of the jonin made their way out, with the exception of Kushina and Kakashi. Kakashi-kun, you can't really expect your team to be ready for C-rank missions already, Kushina said forcefully. They need to learn to work as a team. Kakashi was annoyed by his sensei's wife for second-guessing him and decided to show it. Alright, Kushina-sama, if you think that my team isn't ready to take C-rank missions, then why don't we have a little competition? Kakashi looked Kushina dead in the eye. My team versus yours. I'm sure Naruto would love to get a few shots in on Menma and Mito. Kushina bristled at the copy ninja's words but was kept in check by Minato. That's enough, both of you. Minato looked at Kakashi. I trust your judgment, and I know that you will take care of your team. You and your team will escort and protect a bridge builder named Tajuna. I'll send the mission details to your hospital room. You leave in 5 days. Kakashi gave a firm nod and walked out of the office. Jiraiya took the opportunity to speak. From what Kakashi said, the Toad Sage began, you don't think that Naruto could be. As Jiraiya fell silent, those still in the room did the same, all lost in their own thoughts. 5 days later, Land of Wind, Ace's perspective. Ace stood at the bottom of a valley in the Land of Wind, ankle deep in the blood of fallen soldiers. All their bodies decorated the valley like a sick art display. Over 800 were in this party, most of them seasoned veterans with accomplished track records. Nothing they experienced compared to this. Ace took a few breaths as he cleaned off his swords. He walked over to the body of a teenager on the bank of the river. Ace couldn't help but pity the poor kid. He said a silent prayer for the teen and teleported away, leaving the mass slaughter there as a warning to the remaining forces. After a few hours of the bodies decaying, a group of 3 women teleported to the center of the valley. The 3 looked around at the scene, one barely able to hold her lunch down. So, this is what he's capable of? A beautiful brunette said, leaning over to close the eyes of a fallen soldier. We haven't been contacted by the other 5 advance parties. It's likely they suffered the same fate. The brunette's words were brief but weighed heavily on the other two women present. Another beautiful young woman with purple hair and nearly pale skin looked around the scene, searching for any signs of life. "I don't get it," the purple-haired one said. "He has never attacked like this before. Why is he doing it now?" She directed her question at the last woman present. This one was just as young as the purple-haired one. Her waist-length blonde hair seemed to glow in the moonlight. She was gorgeous as well, her fair skin and high cheekbones the envy of many. "No, but he also has never had a reason to," the blonde said softly. "Well, what do we do now?" the brunette asked. "We're down over 7,500 soldiers, and we don't even have a foothold here yet." She was obviously mad, not at those with her, but at the wasted lives and resources. "We fall back for now," the blonde said. "He isn't letting us get set up for a reason. We need to find him before we can do anything else. Send a team to retrieve the bodies and clean up." "But Captain, wouldn't seeing something like this demoralize the troops?" the purple-haired beauty asked, worry heavy in her voice. "They know what we're up against," the blonde captain said solemnly. "This should remind them of how dangerous this mission is." She got a firm nod from the other two women. They began walking back to her as she stared up at the full moon. "Ace, please stop this," Captain Olivia, the purple-haired woman said, trying to get the blonde's attention. "Sorry, Psycho, I was just thinking about something." Olivia's voice was soft. She extended her hand, and the other two grabbed onto it. The three teleported away, the sound of their departure echoing through the valley. A few hours later, Naruto's perspective. Naruto was waiting with his teammates by the village gates. They had their first mission today and would be gone for a few weeks. Naruto was happy to be heading out. He loved traveling with Ace and was getting a little annoyed with his parents constantly keeping an eye on him. Ever since word got out about him destroying Training Ground 7 during his team's test, many villagers tried to get close to him. A few older genin tried to act all buddy-buddy with him, but only angered Naruto. Most of the people in his apartment complex congratulated him, some even treating him to meals or taking him out for drinks, gestures the blonde appreciated. Naruto tried to bond with Hinata and Satsuki as well. While at first, the Uchiha heiress was skeptical of the blonde, Hinata talked her down, and they started to form very close bonds. Satsuki loved to talk with Naruto, especially when he spoke about his travels. Satsuki and Hinata always wanted to travel the world, but their fathers were on the protective side, more for clan reasons than personal ones. Naruto won over the Uchiha heiress when he offered to help her train. They sparred a bit, Naruto easily beating her, but pointing out her mistakes and helping her patch up the flaws in her fighting styles. When he wanted to help her with ninjutsu, he invited Hinata to join them. He told Hinata that it would benefit her to add some ranged ninjutsu to her arsenal, just in case she couldn't get close enough to use her gentle fist. They started seeing results almost immediately. Naruto tried to personalize their training as much as he could, which amazed the two dojutsu heiresses. He seemed to have a firm understanding of their power and how to help them grow. Kakashi got to see his team's newfound friendship when they would come to visit him, usually after a training session. They would bring him food from wherever they ate and talk with their captain about a wide range of topics. Kakashi couldn't help but notice the looks the two girls gave Naruto. Kakashi didn't want to bring that up quite yet, but he could tell that Naruto wasn't completely oblivious to their feelings either. He decided to wait for the time being, hoping that the opportunity to tease his students would arise. Naruto snapped back to reality and looked up to see his sensei walking with a drunk old man. He couldn't help but smirk at the old man trying his best to walk straight. "Kakashi-sensei, I'm a little surprised you're on time today," Naruto joked, earning a chuckle from the copy ninja. "Well everyone, this is Tajuna, our client for this job. We will be protecting him while he builds a bridge in the land of waves." The Jonin received a nod from his team. "These are the ones in charge of keeping me alive, huh?" Tajuna said clumsily as he looked over Team 7. Looked like a bunch of hormonal teenagers more worried about fucking than fighting. Hinata and Satsuki were already annoyed by the comment, but Naruto was the first to speak. I guess, Naruto said, looking around at his team. "But if we're being honest." Tajuna and Naruto spent most of the trip playfully bickering, much to the amusement of their companions. On several occasions, Tajuna offered Naruto alcohol, which Naruto politely declined. After passing the halfway point of their journey, Naruto sensed something was amiss. He briefly left the group a few times to investigate but found nothing. As Naruto focused on sensing anything hidden in the surroundings, Hinata and Satsuki stopped him. Their gaze was fixed on two puddles approximately 25 feet ahead. Naruto instantly understood their apprehension, while Tajuna appeared confused. "Why are we stopping?" Tajuna asked, currently sober. Satsuki glanced over her shoulder, her Sharingan activated. "This is a trap." Satsuki's voice was barely a whisper. Tajuna was clearly skeptical. "Those are just puddles," Tajuna said with a deadpan expression. Satsuki was visibly annoyed by the bridge builder. "And have we seen any rain since leaving Konoha?" Tajuna's eyes widened at her words. Kakashi couldn't help but smirk at his team's perceptiveness. Naruto studied the puddles, then detected a chakra presence emanating from them. He slowly reached behind his back and drew his knives, making eye contact with Hinata and Satsuki. Their activated dojutsu met his cerulean blue eyes. They gave him a quick nod, and Naruto vanished in a blur. Naruto reappeared on the other side of the puddles, both arms raised overhead. He then whipped his arms down, throwing both knives at the puddles. Instead of embedding in the ground, there was a puff of smoke. When the smoke cleared, the blades were lodged in the ankles of two Kiri shinobi. They cried out in pain, but Naruto's attack wasn't finished. Naruto formed a tiger hand sign, then extended his open hands towards the demon brothers. Futon, wind pulse. Naruto unleashed a powerful gust of wind from his palms, sending the demon brothers hurtling towards awaiting Uchiha and Hyuga. In perfect synchronization, Satsuki drew a kunao, and Hinata adopted her 8 trigrams fighting stance. Satsuki stabbed Gozu in the heart as he flew helplessly through the air. Hinata struck Miyaizu with a chakra palm to the heart, killing him instantly. As the lifeless bodies of the demon brothers lay on the ground, Satsuki and Hinata comprehended what had happened. Their bodies had moved autonomously, driven entirely by the shared instincts they had forged with Naruto. Gazing at the corpses of their first kills, they felt a wave of nausea. Kakashi had anticipated his team getting their first kill early, but he hadn't expected them to fight so quickly. They had only been out of the leaf for a few days. He was about to approach and calm his team, but Naruto beat him to it. "Look at me," Naruto said softly as both girls trembled, tears streaming down their faces. Naruto placed a hand on each of their shoulders. The girls looked up to see Naruto's gentle smile, his eyes softer than they had ever been. They watched with bated breath as he slowly pulled them into a hug. Their bodies tensed even more as he held them close. "You're going to be okay," Naruto whispered to them, his warm tone easing their tension. "It will get easier. This doesn't make you a bad person. It's our job to protect those who can't protect themselves." Naruto pulled them closer as he finished, the warmth of his body soothing their tense forms. The dojutsu heiresses slowly wrapped their arms around him, their trembling ceasing. The three remained there for a moment, the Hyuga and Uchiha shedding silent tears for the loss of their innocence. Naruto eventually pulled away when he felt their crying stop. He looked at their beautiful faces and flashed his trademark smile. The two girls couldn't help but blush at the sight as their sensei held back his giggles. "Now isn't this the cutest thing ever?" Kakashi gushed as his team separated, getting a flustered reaction from his team. "It's just the sweetest thing to watch you three share such a loving embrace." Naruto's face turned beet red as he looked at his sensei. "It wasn't like that," the blonde yelled, a flustered Uchiha and Hyuga nodding nervously behind him. "Of course it wasn't," Kakashi said playfully, "at least not yet." For the next couple of hours, Kakashi occasionally teased them, but he was internally grateful to Naruto for helping Hinata and Satsuki through their first kill. Watching his team flawlessly dispatch the two Chunin filled him with pride. His team was working together out of choice, not obligation. Their cohesion was nearly perfect. Over time, they could become quite a threat if they continued on this path. Team 7 neared their destination when all the shinobi sensed a disturbance. Satsuki reacted first, launching a kunao at a bush to their right. The kunao struck the wood above a snow-white rabbit, terrifying the animal, but the rodent's departure didn't ease their senses at all. "So, you two felt it too?" Hinata asked, noticing Naruto and Satsuki still scanning the area. Before either could answer, a massive blade flew directly at them. Hinata tackled Tajuna to the ground, while Satsuki and Kakashi ducked to avoid being bisected. Naruto swung his feet to his chest in a high jump form, allowing the blade to pass safely underneath him. The blade curved upwards and embedded itself in a tree trunk about 5 feet above their heads. A man landed on the blade. He was tall and slender, with short, spiky brown hair beneath his Kiri forehead protector. He wore high-waisted gray pants with thin black vertical stripes, white and brown camouflage stockings on his shins and forearms, and a navy blue strap across his chest holding the massive blade he stood on. Blue shinobi sandals adorned his feet. His face was covered in medical bandages, but his eyes bored into the leaf shinobi. "Zabuza Mamakai," Kakashi stated, recognizing the wielder of the executioner's blade, the demon of the mist. Zabuza let out a deep, almost demonic chuckle. Kakashi of the Sharingan, Zabuza surveyed the rest of the team, his eyes settling on the blonde with dual swords on his back who stood on a tree branch across from him. No wonder the demon brothers failed to take down the bridge builder. Zabuza laughed again as Kakashi raised his forehead protector, revealing his Sharingan. Kakashi tensed at the demon of the mist's arrival. "I had my doubts after the two Chunin we faced earlier, but this definitely isn't a C-rank mission," Kakashi thought as he scanned the area for potential backup. He noticed a hunter ninja and a small group of Kiri shinobi about 100 feet away, their eyes fixed on the Kiri shinobi. "Give me the bridge builder, and I will let you all live." Zabuza's tone made Hinata's and Satsuki's skin crawl. His terrifying presence seemed to smother them. Before they could panic, Kakashi responded to the missing nin. "That's not going to happen," Kakashi said, sliding into a fighting stance. "We are shinobi of Konoha, and we won't stand by while you or your employer hurt innocent people. Zabuza let out another sinister laugh as he jumped to the ground, pulling his sword from the tree stump. He pointed the massive blade at Hinata, Satsuki, and Kakashi. Tajuna hid behind the shinobi, but they were all stunned when a blur of yellow flew towards Zabuza. Naruto slammed one of his swords into Zabuza, who barely managed to block the attack. The Kiri shinobi was knocked into the air and sent flying into the water beyond the forest. Naruto! Satsuki yelled, "What the F*** are you doing? It's not every day you get to fight one of the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist." Naruto turned back to them with a massive smile. "I plan on making the most of this opportunity." Tajuna seized the opening to run and find cover. Naruto leaped after the demon of the mist, leaving the rest of Team 7 behind. Satsuki and Hinata were about to follow but were stopped by a half-dozen shinobi who appeared in front of them. The first was the hunter Kakashi had noticed observing the fight. They fanned out into a semicircle, cutting off Satsuki and Hinata. The hunter had long, straight black hair pulled into a white bun holder, with 2 long bangs framing her mask. The mask was a typical white Kiri Umbu mask with a red swirl extending from the right side and settling above her nose. She wore a pinstriped undershirt that completely covered her arms and stopped just below her knee, and a blue-green haori with white trimmings that matched her nail polish. She was a few inches taller than Hinata and Satsuki, and her body's curves suggested she was a little older. "Your fight is with us," the hunter said, drawing 3 senbon needles in each hand. "Lead Zabuza to Naruto," Kakashi said, closing his non-Sharingan eye and drawing a kunao. "Trust your teammate." Kakashi's words steeled the girl's resolve. The copy ninja had complete faith in Naruto. He knew that no matter what, Naruto would pull through the fight, so he just had to ensure Hinata and Satsuki did the same. The two parties regarded each other for a minute, each daring the other to make a mistake. Before either group attacked, an explosion of chakra from 2 sources sent everyone flying. Satsuki and Hinata recognized a portion of the chakra as Naruto's, another likely belonging to Zabuza, but there was a third presence equal to Naruto's. They could barely stand under the pressure, but the wave of golden chakra that sliced through the trees along the shore nearly killed the Kiri shinobi. They got a clear view of a now shirtless Naruto, covered in blood. To his right was Zabuza, with numerous injuries all over his body that didn't seem to bother him at all. The third figure was another man, wearing a navy blue cloak with red clouds on it. He had an absolutely massive sword on his back that seemed alive when the Dojutsu Areses looked at it with their bloodlines. Zabuza shot out of the forest like a bullet, landing about 50 feet offshore, noticing a 3-inch cut in his sword. He then looked back towards the coast just in time to see a blonde blur barrel towards him. Zabuza barely ducked under a black blade sword that would have otherwise removed his head from his shoulders. He turned to see the same blonde from the forest standing on the water's surface, about 20 feet away. The blonde had one katana drawn in his right hand. The blade was slim, perhaps 2 inches thick, but its mere sight made Zabuza uneasy. The golden pommel seemed to shine abnormally bright, giving the sword a mythical feel. "That's a very nice blade you have there," Zabuza said, a smirk forming under his face cover. "Thank you," Naruto replied, nimbly spinning the blade. "Yours is quite the sight as well." Naruto looked at the executioner's blade and noticed the cut in it. A smirk formed on his face as Zabuza raised the blade to his shoulder. "So, you and your sensei recognize me," Zabuza chuckled. "I guess my reputation really does precede me." Zabuza let out another dark chuckle and pointed his blade at Naruto. "Though, I'm more interested in your name." Zabuza looked directly into Naruto's eyes, getting a good feel for the blonde's attitude. Anyone who has the balls to face one of the 7 ninja swordsmen deserves that much. Naruto reached behind him and slowly drew his second blade, identical to the first. Zabuza couldn't help but marvel at the beautiful blades before him. "Naruto Namikaze Uzumaki," Naruto said as he spun both blades in his hands. "I've heard of you," Zabuza said, his grin widening. "You're the Hokage's eldest child. Rumor is you left Konoha at the age of 5. Looking at that headband, it looks like you went back home, huh?" Naruto let out a low chuckle. "I wouldn't call it home yet." The blonde then pointed the blades at the demon of the mist. "But yes, I recently went back." Naruto noticed the slightest shift as he confirmed his return to the leaf. Before he could ask anything, Zabuza spoke in a truly terrifying tone. "It's not very often I get to have a sword fight, kid." Zabuza slid into a fighting stance. "I wonder how good the son of the Red Death is with his swords." Zabuza began emitting a staggering amount of chakra. Dark purple wisps whipped around, greatly disturbing the water's surface. Naruto responded by releasing just as much chakra as the demon of the mist. Zabuza let out an absolutely maniacal laugh as his chakra collided with Naruto's in a wild clash. "This should be fun," Zabuza said, his evil smirk matched only by Naruto's. With that, Zabuza charged at Naruto with surprising speed, swinging down at the boy's center. Naruto crossed his blades in an X and caught the massive sword between them. The collision sent a shockwave that ripped branches from trees and sent water crashing towards the shore. Zabuza's smirk only grew as the blonde shoved his blades up, pushing the demon of the mist away. Zabuza executed a quick backflip as the blonde charged. Naruto swung both blades from his right, only to be blocked by Zabuza. His swords cut into Zabuza's blade about an inch deep before the former Umbu shoved the blonde back. He then shifted his grip on his sword and delivered a wide horizontal strike at waist height. Naruto leaped over the blade, much like he did when Zabuza threw the blade earlier, but this time he jumped exactly 1 inch above the blade, allowing the massive sword to pass safely beneath him. He landed and seized the advantage, striking Zabuza with 2 diagonal cuts to the demon's chest. Zabuza saw this attack coming but wasn't fast enough to move. He separated from the blonde for a moment. The 2 cuts were barely deep enough to draw blood, but Naruto was just beginning his assault. Naruto ran right up to Zabuza and slid under the swordsman's first strike. He drifted to the right of the taller man, dragging his blades along the demon's side. These cuts were much deeper than the first, spilling a good amount of blood down the Kiri shinobi's side. Zabuza winced slightly as Naruto cut him, giving the blonde just enough time to attack again. Naruto spun back around towards Zabuza's face and slashed upwards across the man's chest. Zabuza now had 2 deep wounds across his chest, but the demon didn't flinch this time. Instead, he swung his blade one-handed, forcing Naruto to jump back, but not before giving him a deep cut right underneath his chest. Naruto's concentration broke for a split second, which was all Zabuza needed to land a devastating right cross to Naruto's cheek. The blonde went flying 15 feet back and landed on his feet. Zabuza had a massive smile on his face as he watched his blade repair itself with the blonde's blood. He looked over to his opponent and saw something he never expected. Naruto stood up, revealing his ruined cloak and shirt. Before Zabuza's eyes, the wound began to steam and close at a rapid rate. Zabuza watched in awe as the wound closed. Naruto's blood stained his shirt and cloak, leaving streaks of red below the cut in the fabric. Naruto tossed his blades in the air for a moment, and Zabuza watched as he ripped the destroyed clothes off his chest, revealing his muscular physique. As the wound finished healing, Naruto extended his hands, palms facing the sky. His blades fell perfectly into his hands, and he blurred out of focus, his speed on full display. Zabuza's instincts took over as he whipped around and raised his blade to block the blonde's attack. Amazed by the blonde's speed, Zabuza decided to fight defensively. Naruto appeared to the right of the demon of the mist, but Zabuza was only able to prevent a fatal blow as Naruto cut right into his shoulder. Faster than Zabuza could defend against, Naruto appeared to his left and landed a similar strike. Naruto then spun around Zabuza and slashed across the demon's back. A flurry of attacks ensued. Zabuza was now playing damage control, trying only to keep Naruto from killing him with each strike while he waited for his moment to attack. His arms, chest, ribs, and back were all sliced in a flurry of steel and a blur of yellow. With each strike, Zabuza felt stronger. It had been years since someone had been able to challenge him in a sword fight, and as he felt each cut or slice, more and more adrenaline poured into his system, giving him the rush only captured during a life-or-death battle between 2 warriors. Naruto blurred out of focus again, this time striking Zabuza in the back of his thigh, leaving a deep wound on the demon of the mist's right hamstring and dropping him to one knee. Zabuza predicted the blonde's next attack, raising his blade horizontally to block the blonde's overhead strike. Naruto brought both blades down on Zabuza's sword, cutting a few inches into the executioner's blade. He wasn't expecting Zabuza to use this to his advantage. Zabuza yanked his blade to the right, disrupting the blonde just enough for him to swing his blade out and claim the blonde's throat. Naruto backed up enough to avoid losing his head, but the strike he took from Zabuza cut cleanly through his jugular and trachea. The blonde's eyes widened for a moment, then he blurred out of sight once more, reappearing about 5 feet from Zabuza, facing the demon. Zabuza smirked as he watched the blood pour from the blonde's throat and out of the sides of his mouth. But once again, Naruto's wound began to steam and close. Zabuza looked into Naruto's eyes as the wound closed. The eyes of a child, present at the beginning of the fight, were gone. Now, he had the eyes of a killer. All of Zabuza's instincts told him to run, but his body wasn't responding. He was too awestruck watching the blonde recover from the fatal wound in a matter of seconds. As the wound finished closing, blood still ran down Naruto's chest and Zabuza had to admit that the blonde looked terrifying. Naruto looked directly at the demon of the mist and spoke. "I've underestimated you." Naruto rolled his neck, releasing a series of pops much like he did against Kakashi. "That won't happen again." Before Naruto could charge Zabuza, something smashed into the water next to them. The collision sent tidal waves crashing towards the surface, capturing the 2 fighters' attention. They turned to see Kisame Hashigaki standing there with his usual sadistic smile. He wore a navy blue cloak with red clouds, and his sword, Samehada, was wrapped in bandages on his back. "Sorry," Kisame's deep voice cut through the silence like a knife. "I tried to just stand by and watch, but this just looks like too much fun. I'm sure you two won't mind if I jump in, right?" Kakashi and Haku had separated from Satsuki, Hinata, and the other Kiri shinobi. Kakashi was caught off guard by Haku's use of Hayatan. He knew the bloodline was native to Kiri, but when the hunter nin trapped him in her crystal ice mirrors, he was forced onto the defensive. The fight seemed even at the moment. Haku was trying to catch Kakashi off guard, but Kakashi's experience in life or death situations gave him a great advantage. He was purposely staying inside the dome of ice, even though he had a high Reishin Kunao outside. He was able to keep up with the hunter nin's movements and didn't want to tip his hand too early. He noticed the vast amounts of chakra the technique consumed and decided to hold back for the time being, letting the enemy wear herself out. Kakashi knew he might have to help Naruto with Zabuza or help the girls with the other Kiri Shinobi, so he needed to conserve his chakra. Satsuki and Hinata were a little worse for wear. Hinata had managed to take down one of the Kiri Chunin and Satsuki another, but they were 2 genin facing 6 chunin. They were outmatched. Their teamwork and training with Naruto helped narrow the gap, but they were fast approaching their limit and had only taken out a third of the enemies in front of them. Hinata had a few cracked ribs, and Satsuki had a few deep cuts on her back. That's Kisame, a Chunin shrieked in terror. We need to escape, now. All the Chunin, visibly shaken, scrambled to lift their injured comrades and flee. Satsuki and Hinata, though desperate to aid Naruto, were paralyzed by fear. The sheer intensity of the chakra overwhelmed them, rendering them helpless as Naruto, Zabuza, and Kisame faced off, both Naruto and Kisame sporting chilling grins. Kakashi and Haku sensed the surge of chakra but remained focused on their own battle. Kakashi trusted Naruto, but the third presence he felt was on par with the blonde. Naruto, Kakashi thought, I'm trusting you. Just as Kakashi prepared to strike, Haku's ice mirrors formed a complete dome. Kakashi felt a growing unease, he couldn't teleport out. Welcome to my domain, Kakashi-san, Haku announced, as dozens of her appeared within the dome. This is the final form of my crystal ice mirrors. I've sealed off this area from the outside, effectively disrupting your teleportation jutsu. Now, I will end this, Kakashi-san. Countless Haku clones conjured ice senbon and launched them at Kakashi. Well, this might be a little harder than I thought, Kakashi mused, forming hand signs. Scene change, Zabuza versus Naruto versus Kisame. Hashigaki, Zabuza snarled, eyeing his fellow swordsman, what are you doing here? Zabuza's tone was overtly hostile. Kisame Hashigaki, wielder of Samehada, was the only member of the 7 ninja swordsmen stronger than him. Their past encounters had always ended in Kisame's favor. What? Kisame replied innocently. Can't I visit a fellow ninja swordsman and make an offer? Kisame's casual tone unsettled Zabuza. What are you talking about? Zabuza asked, noting Naruto's interest in Kisame's words. My group seeks specific individuals to help us achieve our goals, Kisame explained, his grin widening. You might be a bit weak, but you do fight better against stronger opponents. I still bear the scars from our last bout. Kisame rubbed his ribs while Zabuza tightened his grip on his blade. Go to hell, Hashigaki, I'm not interested in joining your fraternity of misfits, Zabuza spat. You're quick to judge, knowing nothing of our group, Kisame chuckled, his gaze fixed on Zabuza. All I need to know is that you're in it. You're the only one from the blood mist with a higher body count than me. Kisame laughed again. Good times, he growled. How about this? I'll kill this blonde brat and his friends fighting those Chunin, then I'll beat you within an inch of your life and drag you back with me, Kisame threatened, releasing a massive amount of chakra. Zabuza responded with a staggering, though lesser, burst of his own. Naruto, silent until now, surprised both swordsmen by unleashing chakra equal to Kisame's. I guess there's no holding back now, Zabuza-san? Naruto said cheekily. Oh, Kisame said, an evil smirk dawning as he turned to Naruto, this might be more fun than I expected. Naruto let out a maniacal laugh, pointing a blade at each opponent. Kami must be smiling down on me today. A truly terrifying grin settled on Naruto's face, to fight not 1, but 2 of the 7 ninja swordsmen. Shall we? Kisame drew Samehada, and Zabuza raised his blade. Naruto flipped his swords, so the blades pointed outwards. Ost, motley crew, kickstart my heart. Naruto swung his blades, unleashing a crescent of bright gold chakra at the older swordsman. Zabuza leaped over it, while Kisame sliced directly through its center. The crescent aimed at Zabuza carved through the coastal trees, revealing Naruto to Hinata and Satsuki. Naruto, engrossed in his battle, missed his teammates' worried expressions. Instinctively, he blocked an overhead strike that would have bisected him. Kisame smiled, pushing Naruto back. Naruto shoved Kisame's blade aside and aimed a kick at his ribs, but had to dodge a strike that would have cut through both him and Kisame. Zabuza's sword clashed with Kisame's, dark purple chakra swirling around him. Their eyes met briefly before Naruto appeared between them, his movement heralded by a disturbing sound neither Kisame nor Zabuza would ever forget. Naruto kicked out, striking Zabuza under the chin with a front kick and Kisame in the cheek with a back kick. Both swordsmen flew back as Naruto landed between them. Before Kisame could react, Naruto vanished, making that chilling sound again, and reappeared before the strongest ninja swordsman. Naruto brought his right sword, Shinigami, up in a diagonal slash, which Kisame barely blocked. Naruto then spun in a half circle, pushing off Samehada and stabbing Kisame in the ribs with his left sword, Izanami. The blade buried itself to the hilt, severing many of Kisame's internal organs. Naruto then teleported behind Kisame, kicking him in the back of the head, sending the bleeding swordsman directly at Zabuza. Zabuza prepared to deliver a killing blow, but Kisame made a hand sign and yelled, "Suten, water shockwave." Kisame then unleashed an absurd amount of water from his mouth, forming a tidal wave over 50 feet tall. Naruto and Zabuza both leaped into the air to avoid the wave. Kisame decided to attack Naruto, appearing before the blonde in a blur of blue. Naruto barely blocked the overhead strike but was sent flying towards the water's surface. He broke through the surface, and Kisame returned to the surface. As Kisame landed, he formed another hand sign and slammed his right hand onto the water's surface. Suten, 1,000 hungry sharks. A wave of sharks swarmed towards Naruto at breakneck speeds. Naruto saw the horde and extended his arms. A golden vector, about 5 feet in diameter, appeared before his fists, unleashing an earth-shattering wave of force that blasted back the sharks and a large portion of the water. Kisame and Zabuza were in a deadlock when the water behind them erupted like a volcano. Naruto shot out of the gap like a missile, stopping about 20 feet above the water's surface. He tossed his swords aside and slammed his hands together in an ox sign. Ranton, water tornado. The water beneath Zabuza and Kisame shot up, forming a massive water tornado, with lightning crashing through it, striking them several times. With Zabuza and Kisame caught in the tornado center, Naruto slammed his hands together again and shouted, "Suten, water bullet." Naruto then spat out 10 streams of water, each about a foot thick, piercing the tornado. 2 streams found each swordsman, who blocked them with their blades. Naruto teleported the swords back into his hands and teleported behind Kisame, axe kicking him down into the now chaotic water. He then teleported to Zabuza and swung both swords at his back. Zabuza barely blocked the attack, but it only limited the damage. Naruto's blades cut through the executioner's blade, leaving Zabuza with 2 parallel cuts on his chest and abs. Before Zabuza could regain his bearings, Naruto teleported behind him and slashed a deep X into the demon's back. Zabuza gasped in pain as he landed on the water's surface. Naruto was about to finish the demon of the mist, but Kisame shot up with an upward slash aimed at Naruto. The blonde teleported away, creating space between himself and the 2 Kiri swordsmen. Zabuza did the same, gaining some breathing room from both Kisame and Naruto. "You're good, kid," Kisame said, tearing off the remains of his tattered cloak, leaving only his skin-tight undershirt with a few cuts. Samehada healed its wielder's wounds as Naruto caught his breath. "I can tell that isn't the 4th Hokage's technique. Care to fill in the blanks?" Naruto's breathing stabilized as he stood straight. "My teleportation ability is far beyond the Hiraishin," Naruto said, slightly angered by Kisame comparing Ace's power to his father's teleportation jutsu. "I can tell. You don't need a marked location. It seems you're only limited to what's in your sightline, not to mention you can teleport your weapons. That's pretty useful." Kisame shifted Samehada to his shoulder. Naruto and Kisame eyed each other, then heard demonic laughter from Zabuza. "Ah!" Zabuza exclaimed, "it seems you bastards have woken me up." Kisame shifted defensively, wary of Zabuza. "Ever hear why I'm called the Demon of the Mist, kid?" Zabuza said, his chakra rapidly growing. Naruto and Kisame watched purple chakra ooze from Zabuza's wounds, slowing his bleeding. Zabuza laughed again as Naruto watched. Kisame decided to answer. The more damage Mamakai takes, the more adrenaline his body produces. Kisame's eyes were bloodshot, his grin wider than ever. "He's called the Demon of the Mist because the closer he gets to death, the stronger he gets." Zabuza let out another maniacal laugh, dragging his blade across the open wound on his chest. The blade absorbed his blood. "Haven't felt this since I nearly killed the Mizukage." Zabuza's mask flew off, revealing shark-like teeth and a massive smile. "I'll show you why I'm known throughout the elemental nations." Zabuza raised his blade and made a hand sign with his other hand. Ninpo, hidden mist jutsu, a thick, chakra-filled mist enveloped the area, distorting Naruto's chakra sensing and obscuring his vision. Naruto's instincts took over. He raised his blades, blocking Kisame with his right sword, Shinigami, and Zabuza with his left sword, Izanami. He then jumped slightly, allowing the 2 larger blades to meet beneath him. Naruto tried to kick his opponents, as he had earlier, but missed. Instead, he felt both blades slam into him, Samehada shredding his chest, while the executioner's blade cut deep into his back. Naruto ducked under another strike from Zabuza and heard it connect with Kisame's chest. Zabuza then went on a rampage, cutting both Naruto and Kisame in a flurry of steel and blood. Naruto tried to teleport away, but Zabuza heard him appear and instantly zeroed in. Naruto felt Samehada shred his left shoulder and the executioner's blade cut off his right arm. Naruto instinctively jumped into the air, made a one-handed sign, and yelled, "Futon, great breakthrough." The hidden mist jutsu dispersed, revealing Zabuza and Kisame slashing at each other, Zabuza currently outmaneuvering Kisame. Samehada had burst from its bandages, while Zabuza was covered in Kisame's and Naruto's blood. Naruto raised his left sword and fired a crescent of aura. The attack moved much faster than his chakra crescent. Zabuza took the hit, breaking a few ribs and leaving a nasty burn. Kisame tried to slash through the aura wave, but the attack cut a few inches into Samehada then exploded. The sword shrieked in pain as Kisame was sent flying back 20 feet. Ost, end. Both swordsmen snapped their attention to Naruto, whom they were almost certain they had killed. Naruto landed on the water's surface, covered in blood and still missing an arm. Kisame and Zabuza watched in awe as Naruto's wounds closed and his bones reassembled. Once his other wounds healed, Naruto dropped his sword and placed his left hand on the end of his severed right arm. Naruto's hand began glowing gold, then he did something that would be seared into both swordsmen's memories. In one motion, Naruto shot his hand down, his arm regrowing as his hand moved. The sounds of the regeneration process were the stuff of nightmares. Naruto gasped in pain as he finished regrowing his arm. Naruto rolled the joints of his new arm, releasing a few nasty pops as he worked out the kinks. Kisame and Zabuza were stunned, expecting a limit to Naruto's healing. As they watched the blonde extend his regrown limb, they felt a very unfamiliar sensation, fear. Naruto snapped his arms out, his sword shooting out of the water and into his hands. Sealing scripture appeared on Naruto's arms, black markings coiling around his upper body like snakes. The markings burned red for a moment. "I can't use Mokuton out here, I'll deal with the repercussions for this later," Naruto thought as his aura and killing intent spiked. "Kai!" Naruto yelled, and the seal's ace had placed to limit his aura and killing intent opened, unleashing a gargantuan shockwave. Perspective change, Satsuki, Hinata, and Kakashi. Satsuki and Hinata had a front row seat to the most terrifying battle either could imagine. Naruto was going toe-to-toe with two of the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist. Destructive jutsu had been flung, copious amounts of blood had been spilled, and a seemingly endless stream of chakra radiated from the fighters. Kisame and Zabuza teaming up on Naruto forced the blonde out of the fight. Neither Hinata nor Satsuki could see into the hidden mist jutsu, but they heard swords meeting flesh, over and over again. They felt sick when they saw Naruto jump out missing an arm and covered in countless slashes and shreds. Kakashi's fight with Haku ended when Naruto's stray attack broke Haku's dome. Haku was nearly at her limit, and Kakashi took full advantage, incapacitating the Hunter Nin and placing restrictive seals to prevent her escape. When Kakashi reached Hinata and Satsuki, Naruto had just dispelled the hidden mist jutsu. Kakashi, Hinata, and Satsuki were all about to interfere when they saw Naruto on the verge of death. Hinata nearly threw up as she watched all his wounds close and his arm regrow. How can he do that?" Satsuki stuttered, watching Naruto's body piece itself back together. "Naruto-kun, what are you?" Hinata whispered, watching Naruto stand before the two petrified missing nin. "Tsunade-sama can't even regenerate to that extent." Kakashi watched helplessly as Naruto did the impossible.